Hello everybody, good to see you, welcome to the stream. And as you can see, we're right where we left off. Or at least I think it's where we left off. I set a bookmark there, so it should be the right spot. And I also fiddled with how OBS works and such, and hopefully the stream won't crash this time. So, hoping for the bare minimum, I guess. Anyway, one second. Gotta clear my throat. Also took a throat lozenge, so that should help. I dare say my throat's never been cleaner. So, let's see where we left off. Okay. Nanny Hogg was also out early. She hadn't been able to get any sleep anyway, and besides, she was worried about Grebo. Grebo was one of her few blind spots, that being her one-eyed cat, by the way. While intellectually she conceded he was indeed a fat, cunning, evil-smelling, multiple rapist, she nevertheless instinctively pictured him as a small, fluffy kid he had been decades before. The fact that he once chased a female wolf up a tree and seriously surprised a sheep who had been digging for roots to stop her from worrying, that something bad might happen to him. It was drilling considered by everyone else in the kingdom the only thing that might slow Grebo down was a direct meteorite strike. Now she was using a bit of elementary magic to follow his trail, though anyone with a sense of smell could have managed it. It led her through damp streets into the open gates of the castle. She gave the guards a nod as she went through. It didn't occur to stop either of them to stop her because witches, like beekeepers and big gorillas, went where they liked. In any case, an elderly lady banging a bowl with a spoon was crying out the spearhead of an invasion force. Life as a castle guard in Lancashire was incredibly boring. One of them, leaning on his spear's name, a past wished there had been some excitement in his job. He would soon learn the error of his ways. The yard guard pulled himself together and saluted. "Mornin', Mum. Mornin', Arshawn," said Nanny as she stood across the yard from the courtyard. Oh, that's his mom. Okay. That's her son. Or possibly grandson. She had a lot of kids. Like all witches, Nayak had an aversion to front doors. She went around the back and entered the keep via the kitchens. A couple of maids curtsied to her, as did the head housekeeper, who Nayak vaguely recognized. One second. Vaguely recognized as a daughter-in-law, though she couldn't remember her name. And so it was when Lord Filmic came out of his bedroom, he saw him on the passage toward him a witch, and there's no doubt about it, from the point where typical point had to her boot, she was a witch, and she was coming for him. Margaret slid helplessly down a bank. She was soaked to the skin and covered in mud. Somehow she thought bitterly, when you read this fellow's always think about being a fine sunny morning in late spring, and she forgot to check what kind of bloody fern it bloody was. A tree tipped a load of raindrops on her. She pushed her sodden hair out of her eyes and sat down heavily on a fallen log, from which grew great clusters of pale and embarrassing fungus. It seemed like such a lovely idea. She had great hopes for the coven. She was sure it wasn't right to be a witch alone. You could get funny ideas. She dreamed of wise discussions of natural energies while a huge moon hung in the sky, and possibly to try a few of the old dances described in Goody Wimper's books. Not actually naked or sky-clad, as it was rather delightfully called, because she had no illusion of the shape of her own body, or witches seemed solid her own hymns, and anyway, it wasn't necessary. The book said the old-time witches sometimes danced in their shifts. She wondered about how you dance in shifts. Maybe perhaps there wasn't room for them all to dance at once, she thought. Well, she had spent a couple of crotchety old women who were barely civil at the best of times. Somebody didn't enter into the spirit of things. Oh, they've been kind to the baby in their own way, but she had no feeling for witches' kindness and was entirely for selfish reasons. And sure, they did magic, but they made like ordinary as housekeeping. They didn't wear any occult jewelry. Margaret was a great believer in occult jewelry. It was all going wrong, and she was going home. By the way, if I'm going too fast or anything, feel free to say so. I would appreciate that. She stood up, wrapping her damp dress around her, and stepped through the misty woods, and heard running feet. Someone was coming through them at high speed, and without caring who heard him, over the top of the sound of breaking twigs was a curious dull jingling. She sat behind a dripping holly bush and peered cautiously through the leaves. It was Sean, the youngest of Yanayok's son, and the metal noise was caused by his suit of chainmail, which was several sizes too big for him. Lancashire was a poor kingdom, and over centuries the chainmail had been handed down from one generation to the other, often at the end of a long stick. No, this is her son. The cat is a cat. This one may look like a bulletproof bloodhound. She stepped in front of him. "Is that you, Miss Margaret?" said Sean, raising a flap of mail that covered his eyes. "It's Mom. What happened to her?" He locked her up, said she's going to poison him. I can't get around the dungeon seat because there's all the new guards. They say she's been put in chains, and that means something horrible's going to happen. You know what she's like when she loses the temper. We'll never hear the last of it, miss. Where are you going? To fetch our Johnson, our Wayne, our Darren, and our... Oh, wait, Miss Margaret's supposed to try to torture her? You know what the tongue she's got when she's getting angry? I'm thinking, he put his own bodyguards on the gates and everything. Look, just shove a million, will you, Sean? When our Jason finds out, he'll have the Duke, or he'll give the Duke a real seeing to, miss. He says about time someone did. Nanny Ox Jason was a young man with a build, and Margaret always thought the brains of a herd of oxen. Thick-skinned though he was, he died where he'd survive a hail of arrows. I like it. They call him R. Jason and R. Sean because there's probably other Seans, and just to tell them apart, I guess. Don't tell him yet, she softly. There could be another way. I'll go and find Granny Weatherwax, shall I, miss? Hope I won't leave her. She'll know what to do. She's a witch. Margaret stood still. She thought she was angry before, but now she was furious. She was wet and cold and hungry, and this person, once upon a time she herself thinking, she burst into tears at this point. Oops, said John. I didn't mean oops. He backed away. If you happen to see Granny Weatherwax, said Margaret, in tone she could have etched her words in the glass, you'll tell her I'll store it out. Now go away before I turn you into a frog. You look like one anyway. She turned, hitched up her skirts, and ran like hell toward her cottage. Lord Felmet was one of nature's gloaters. He was good at it. Quite comfortable, are we? He said. Nay, I consider us, apart from these stocks, you mean. I'm impervious to your foul blandishments, said Duke. I scorn your devilish wiles. You'd be tortured, I'll have you know. This didn't seem to have the required effect. She was staring around the dungeon with a vaguely interested gaze of a sightseer. And then you'll be burned, said the Duchess. Okay, said Mary. Okay. Well, it's bloody freezing down here. What's that big wardrobe thing with the spikes? You're chilling. Ah, now you realize, eh? That is an Iron Maiden. It's the latest thing. Well, may you... Can I have a go in it? Your please fall on deaf... His twitch started up. The Duchess leaned forward to pick her face inches of Nay's nose. This insolence will gives you pleasure, but soon you'll laugh on the other side of your face. What? Soon you'll laugh on the other side of your face. It's only got this side. The Duchess showed him a finger of resemblance lovingly. We'll see, and she picked up a pair of flyers. And you need not think any others of your people will come to your aid, said Duke, who was swaying despite the chill. We alone hold the keys to this dungeon. You'll be an example of all those who've been spreading malicious rumors about me. Do not protest your innocence. I hear the voices all the time, lying. The Duchess gripped him by the arm. Enough. Come, Lionel. We'll let her reflect on her fate for a while. The faces. Wicked lies. I wasn't there. And anyway, he fell. My porridge. All salty, murmured the Duke, swaying. The door slammed behind him. There was a click of locks and a thudding of bolts. Monet was left alone in the room. A flickering torch high on the wall only made the surrounding darkness more forbidding. Strange metal shapes designed for Noah's all the purpose and destruct testing of the human body cast unpleasant shadows. Nanny Ox stirred her chains. All right, she said. I can see you. Who are you? King Burrus stepped forward. I saw you making faces behind him, said Nanny Ox. All I could do was keep a straight face myself. I wasn't making faces, woman. I was scowling. She squinted. Here, I know you. You're dead. I prefer the term passed over, said the king. I bow, said Nay, only there's these chains and things. You haven't seen a cat around here, have you? Yes, he's upstairs in a room upstairs asleep. Nay seemed to relax. That's all right, then. I was beginning to worry. She stared around her dungeon again. What's that big bed thing there? The rack, said the king, and explained its use. She nodded. What a busy little mind he's got. I fear man may be responsible for your present predicament, said Burrus, saying down, or at least up just above a sandy, on or at least above a handy anvil. I wish to attract a witch. I suppose you're no good at locks. I feel a little beyond my abilities but surely... He waved a hand in a vague gesture which impassed the dungeon, Nanny and the manacles, to which all this is just so much. Solid iron, said Nanny. You may be able to offer it, but I can't. I didn't realize. I thought witches could do magic. Young man, said Nanny, you'll oblige me by shutting up. Madam, I'm a king. You're also dead, so I wouldn't aspire to hold any opinions if I were you. Now you just be quiet and wait like a good boy. Against all instincts, the king found himself obeying. There was no nainsaying that kind of tone of voice. It spoke to him across the years from his days in a nursery. Its echoes told him if he didn't eat it all up, he'd be sent straight to bed. Nanny Ox stirred in her chains. She hoped they'd turn up soon. Said the king, I feel I owe you an explanation. Thank you, said Granny Weatherwax, because Sean seemed to be expecting to add, you've been a good boy. Witches are just moms, but magical. Yes'm. Was there something else? He twisted the end of his chainmail vest out of embarrassment. It's not true everyone's was saying about her mom, is it? She doesn't go around putting an evil curse on folks, except for Davis the butcher. An old caked bread after he caked her cat, but that wasn't what they call real curses, was it? You can stop calling me, yes'm. They've been saying that, have they? Yes'm. Well, your ma'am does upset people sometimes. Yes'm, but they say terrible things about you, saving their presence. She stiffened. What things? Don't like to say, what things? He considered his next move. There weren't many choices. A lot of things that aren't true, he said, establish your credentials as early as possible. All sorts of things, like old Verse, the bad king, you helped him to the throne. You call us that bad winter the year, and old Norbert's cow didn't give you no milk after you looked at it. Lots of lies, added Loyalty. Right, said Granny. She shut the door in his face, stood thought for a moment, and retired to her rocking chair. Eventually she said once more, right. Well, a little later she added, she's a daft old bedson. We can't have people going around doing things to witches. Once you lost your respect, you ain't got a thing. I don't remember looking at old Norbert's cow. Who's old Norbert? She stood up, looking at her old pointed hat, or took her pointed hat from the hook behind the door, glaring in the mirror, skewered and placed a number of hat pins. They slid in one by one, as unstoppable as the wrath of God. She vanished in the outhouse for a moment and came back with her witch's cloak, which served as a blanket for sick goats when not otherwise employed. Once upon a time it had been black velvet, now it was just black. It was carefully and slowly fastened by a tarnished silver brooch. No samurai, no questing knight was ever dressed with such ceremony. Finally, Granny drew herself up, surveying her dark reflection, gave a thin smile of approval, and left via the back door. The air mess, only sight is filled by sound of her running up and down outside, trying to get her broomstick started. Margaret was also regarding herself in the mirror. She dug out a startlingly green dress designed for both revealing and clinging, and would have been if Margaret had anything to display or cling to, so she shoved a couple of rolled up stockings down in front in an effort to make good the more obvious deficiencies. She also tried a spell on her hair, but was naturally magic resistant. Already the natural shape was beginning to assert itself. A dandelion clock at about 2 p.m. She'd also tried makeup. It wasn't a qualified success. She didn't have much practice. She was beginning to wonder if she'd overdone the eyeshadow. Her neck, fingers, arms all carried enough silverware to make a full-size dinner service, and over everything she'd thrown a black coat lined in red silk. In a certain light from a carefully chosen angle, she was not unattractive. Whether any of these preparations did anything for her is debatable. They made a thin veneer of confidence over her later trembling heart. She drew herself up and turned this way and that. A cluster of amulets, jewelry, and occult bangles on various parts of her body jingled together. Any enemy would not only have been blind to fail to notice that a witch was approaching, he had to be deft as well. She turned to her work table, examined herself rather self-consciously, and never in Granny's hearing, called her tools of craft. There was a white-handled knife used in preparation for magical ingredients. There was a black-handled knife for the magical workings themselves. She carved so many runes on handles in constant danger of falling in half. They are undoubtedly powerful, but... Shook her head gratefully, went over to the chest drawer and took out the bread knife. Something told her times like these, a good sharp bread knife was probably the best friend a girl could have. I spy, with my little eye, said Nanny Og, something beginning in P. The ghost of King stared wearily around the dungeons. Pliers, he suggested. No. Pillowinks, that's a pretty name. What is it? It's a kind of thumbscrew. Look, it's not that. Choke pear? That's a C, and anyway, I don't know what it is. He obligingly indicated and explained it. Definitely not. The smoldering boot of punishment? You're a bit too good at the names, just Supply. You sure you didn't use them when you were alive? Absolutely, Nanny. Boy that tells lies goes to a bad place, warned Nanny. Lady Filma had most installed herself as a truth to the king desperately. He was in a position to be curious about having any bad places to worry about. Right then, she said mollified, it was the pinchers. But pinchers are another name for plight, and he began to stop himself in time. His adult life he'd been afraid of no man, beast, or combination of the two. But Nanny's voice brought back old memories of schoolroom and nursery, of a life under strict orders given by stern ladies in long skirts, and nursery food, mostly gray and brown, were seemed indigestible at the time, but now appeared a distant ambrosia. That's 5 for me. They'll be back soon, said the king. Are you sure all right? If I'm not, precisely how much help can you be? There was a sound of bolts sliding back. There's already a crowd outside the castle as Granny's broomstick wobbled uncertainly toward the ground. They went quiet as she strode forward and parted to let her pass. She had a basket full of apples under her arm. There's a witch in a dungeon, someone whispered, and foul tortures, they say. Nonsense, said Granny. Couldn't be. I expect Naomi's just gone to advise the king or something. They say Jason Ogg's gone to fetch his birds to the stallholder and all. I really advise you all return home, said Granny. The rest has probably been a misunderstanding. Everyone knows a witch can't be held against her will. It's gone too far as times I've been. All this burning and taxing and out this. I blame you, witches. It's gotta stop. I know my rights. What rights are they, said Granny? Dunnage, cowhage, and ordinary, badinage, leftovers, scrummage, clary, and splint, said the present promptly. an acreage of every other year, and the right to keep 2/3 would go into common, until he set fire to it. It was a good goat, too. A man could go far knowing his rights like you do, Sigourney, but right now, he should go home. She turned and looked at the gates. There were 2 extremely apprehensive guards on duty. She walked up and fixed one of them with a look. I'm just a harmless old seller of apples, she said in a voice more appropriate for opening hostilities in a middle-range war. Pray let me pass, dearie. No, I don't know what a middle-range war is exactly. You know what? I think I'll find out. One moment, please. Middle-range war. Well, I'm not getting anything conclusive. I'm guessing it's like at a distance or something, maybe in some sort of negotiations. Pray let me pass, dearie. The last word had knives in it. No one must enter the castle, so one of the guards, orders of the Duke. Granny shrugged. The apple seller game had never worked more than once in the history of witchcraft, as far as she knew, but it was traditional. I know you, Champit Poldley. I recall I laid out your granddad and brought you into the world. She glanced at the crowds who regathered a little way off and turned back to the guard whose face was already a mask of terror. She leaned a little closer and said, I gave you your first good hiding in this valley of tears, and by all the gods, if you cross me now, I'll give you your last. There was a soft metallic noise, the spear fell out of his fearful fingers. She reached and gave the trembling man a reassuring pat in the shoulders. But don't worry about it. Have an apple. She made a step forward and a second spear barred her way. She looked with interest. The other guard was not a ram topper, but a saber of mercenary brought up on the swell of the ranks depleted in recent years. His face was a patchwork of scar tissue. Several of the scars rearranged themselves as well as possibly a sneer. So that's witch's magic, is it? Pretty poor stuff. Maybe it frightens these country idiots, woman, but it doesn't frighten me. I imagine it takes a lot to frighten a big, strong lad like you, she said, reaching up to her hat. And don't you try to pull the wind up me either. And he said, staring straight ahead and rocked gently on the balls of his feet. Old ladies like you twisting people around shouldn't be stood for, like they say. Just as you like, she said, pushing the spear aside. Listen, I said. He grabbed her shoulder. Her hand moved so quickly, hardly knew it all, but suddenly he was clutching his arm and moaning. She replaced the hat pin in her hat and ran for it. We shall begin, said the Duchess, leering, with the showing of the implements. See 'em, said Nanny. Leastways, all the ones beginning with P, S, I, T, and W. Let's see how long you keep that light conversational tone. Like the brazier, Felmet, snapped the Duchess. Like the brazier, fool. The fool moves slowly. He hadn't expected any of this. Torturing people hadn't actually been on his mental agenda. Hurting old ladies in cold blood wasn't his cup of tea, and actually hurting witches in blood of any temperature whatsoever failed to be an entire 12-course banquet. Words, he said. All his pie came under the heading of sticks and stones. I don't like doing this, he muttered under his breath. Fine, said Nanny Og, whose hearing was superb. Oh, she stabbed him with her hairpin, presumably in like a gap in the armor or something. So even if she didn't use magic, she's just damn fast. Anyway, I don't like doing this, he murmured under his breath. Fine, said Nanny Og, whose hearing was superb. I'll remember you didn't like it. What's that? The Duke said sharply. Nothing. Is this going to take you long? I haven't had breakfast. The fool lit a match. There was a faint disturbance in the air when it went out. He swore, try another. This time his hands managed to get as far as brazier for it too, flared and darkened. Hurry up, man, said Duchess, laying out a tray of tools. It doesn't seem to want a light bar. The fool's under match came a flourish of flame and then went out. The Duke snatched a box with trembling fingers and caught him across the cheek with a handful of rings. Can no orders of mine be obeyed? In for a purpose? Weak, give me the box. The fool backed away. Someone he couldn't see was whispering things he couldn't make out in his ear. Go outside and see you're not disturbed. He tripped over a bottom step, turned with a last important look at Granny, scampered toward the door. He capered a little bit, out of force of habit. The firing plane necessary, merely assists. Now, woman, we confess. What to? It's common knowledge, treason, malicious witchcraft, harboring the king's enemies, theft of the crown. A tinkling noise made them look down. A blood-stained dagger had fallen off the bench, as though someone had tried to pick it up but couldn't get the strength together. Nanny had heard the ghost swear under her breath, or it would have been its breath, and spreading false rumors. Salt in my food, said the Duke nervously, staring at the bandages on his hands. He began to feel like there was a fourth person in the dungeon. If you do confess, said the Duchess, you'll merely be burned at a stake. And please, no humorous remarks. What false rumors? The Duke closed his eyes, but the visions were still there. Concerning the accidental death of the late King Vernon, he was hoarsely. The air swirled again. Nanny sat on her head, cocked to one side, listening to a voice only she could hear. And so the Duke was certain he could hear something too, not a voice, only a distant sighing of wind. Oh, I don't know nothing false. I know you stabbed him, and you gave him a dagger. It was at the top of the stairs. She paused, her head cocked, nodded, and added, just by a suit armor of the pike, and you said this be done, it's better be done quickly or something, and he snatched the king's own dagger, the very same what's now on the floor out of his belt. You lie! There's no witnesses. We made There was nothing to witness. I heard something in the dark, but there was no one there. There couldn't have been anyone seeing anything, screamed the Duke. His wife scowled at him. Do shut up, Lionel. I think within these four walls we can dispense that sort of thing. Who told her? Did you tell her? And calm down. No one told her. She's a witch. They find out these things. Second glance or something. Sight, said Nanny. Which you will not possess much longer, my good one, unless you tell us who else knows and indeed assist us on a number of other matters. And you will do so, believe me. I'm skilled in these things. Granny was glancing around a dungeon. It was getting crowded. King Varus' bursting with such angry vitality was nearly apparent, and was fiercely trying to get a grip on a knife. But there are others behind, wavering broken shapes, not exactly ghosts, but memories implanted in the very substance of the walls by sheer pain and terror. My own dagger! The bastards! They killed me with my own dagger, said the ghost silently, raising his transparent arms, imploring the Netherworld General to witness this ultimate humiliation. Give me strength. Yes, said Nanny, it's worth a try. And now we will commence, said the Duchess. What, said Guard? I said, said Margaret, I'm come to sell lovely apples, didn't you listen? Isn't there a sale on, is there? The guard was extremely nervous and his colleague had taken off the infirmary. Can't take a job in ordeal with this sort of thing. It dawned on him. You're not a witch, are you? He said, fumbling awkwardly his pike. Of course not. Do I look like one? He looked at her occult bangles, lying cloak, her trembling hands, and her face. The face was particularly worrying. She used a lot of powder to make her face pale and interesting. It combined with a lavishly applied mascara to guard the impression he was looking at two flies that crashed into a sugar bowl. He found his fingers wanting to make a sign to warn off the evil eyeshadow. Right, he said uncertainly. His mind was grinding through the problem. She was a witch, just like there had been a lot of gossip about witches being bad for your health. You had told enough to let them pass, but no one said anything about apple sellers. Apple sellers are not a problem. It were witches that was the problem. She said she was an apple seller, and he wasn't about to doubt a witch's word. Sorry. Feeling happy with this application of logic, he stood the one second in his pants his way. Pass, apple seller. Thank you. Would you like an apple? No, thank I hadn't finished the one the other witch gave me. His eyes rolled. Not a witch, an apple seller. An apple seller. She ought to know. How long ago was this? Just a few minutes. Granny Weatherwax is not lost. She wasn't the kind of person who ever became lost. It's just that at the moment she knew exactly where she was. She just didn't know the position of anywhere else. Currently, she had arrived at the kitchen, participating in a breakdown in the cook who was trying to roast some celery. The fact that several people were trying to buy apples from her wasn't improving her temper. Margaret found her way to the Great Hall, empty and deserted this time of day, except for a couple of guards who were playing dice. They wore the tabards of Felon's own personal bodyguard and stopped her game as soon as she appeared. Well, well, said one leering, come to give us company, have you, my pretty? I'm going to try and see if the note activates. Let me see. Nope. Nope, it didn't work. I'm pushing the button, but it didn't work. Ah, well. But, oh. I was looking for a dungeon, said Margaret, to whom the word sexual harassment was a mere collection of syllables. Just fancies, one of the guards waiting there. I reckon we can help you there. He got up and stood on either side of her. She was aware of two chin-jiggers striped matches on, an overpowering smell of stale beer. Frantic singles from outlying portions of her mind are trying to break down her iron-hard conviction that bad things only happen to bad people. They escorted down several flights of steps into a maze of dank arched passageway. She sought to hurriedly for some polite way to disengage herself. I should warn you, she said, I am not, as I appear, a simple apple seller. Fancy that. I am in fact a witch. This didn't make the impression she hoped. The guards exchanged glances. Fair enough, said one. I was wondering what it was like to kiss a witch. Around here say you doing that gets you turned into a frog. The other guard nudged him. I reckon, they said the slow right tones one who thinks that he's about to say is very funny. You kissed one years ago. The brief gahal was suddenly heard. Margaret was flung against the wall and treated an up-close view of the guard's nostrils. Now listen to me, sweetheart. You ain't the first witch you had down here, if which you be, but you'd be lucky and walk out again. If you're nice to us, you see. There was a shrill, short scream of somewhere nearby. That, you see, that was a witch having it the hard way. You could do us all a favor, see? Lucky you met us, really. Her requesting hand stopped its wondering. What's this, said Margaret's pale face? A knife? A knife? I reckon we gotta take you very seriously, don't you? Don't you, Huron? We got her to tie her hands and gag her. They can't do no magic if they can't speak or wave their hands about. You could take her hands off her. You could take her hands off her. They all stared at the fool. He was jingling with rage. Let her go this minute or I'll report you. Oh, your reporters will even listen to you, you earwax-colored little twerp. That's a witch we have there, said the other guard. You can go and tinkle somewhere else. He turned back to Margaret. I like a girl with spirit, he said incorrectly as it turned out. The fool advanced with bravery and determinedly angry. I told you to let her go. Huron drew his sword and winked at his companion. Margaret struck. It was an unplanned, instinctive blow, sought power considerably enhanced by the way of the rings and bangles. Her arm whirled about in an arc to connect her captor's jaw and spun him twice where he folded up in a heap with a quiet little sigh, and instantly several symbols of occult significance embossed on his cheek. Ron gaped and looked at Margaret. He raised his sword about the same moment the fool cannoned into him and the two men went down in a struggling heap. Like most small men, the fool relied on the initial mad dash to secure an advantage was lost in the follow-through, but it probably would have gone hard if Ron had suddenly become aware that a bread knife was pressed against his neck. Let go of him, said Margaret, pushing her hair out of her eyes. He stiffened. You're wondering whether I'd really cut your throat, panted Margaret. I don't know either. Think of the fun we could have together, finding out. She reached down with her hand and hauled the fool to his feet by his collar. Where'd that scream come from? She said, not taking her eyes off the guard. It was down that way. The guard in the torture dungeon. I don't like it. It's going too far. I couldn't get in. I couldn't get in. I came to look for someone. Well, you found me. You should, Ron. We'll stay here. Or run away for all here, but you won't follow us. He nodded and stared after them as they hurried down the passage. The door's locked, said the fool. There's all sorts of noise, but the door's locked. Well, it's a dungeon, isn't it? They're not supposed to lock from the inside. It was indeed unbudgeable. Sounds came from the other side, the busy thick sounds that crawled through cracks and spilled out in the passage. Kind of sounds is worse than screams. The fool hopped from one foot to the other as Margaret explored the door's rough surface. Are you really a witch? He said. They said you're a witch. Are you really? You don't look like a witch. You look very, that is, not like a crone, at all, but incredibly beautiful. His voice trailed in the silence. I'm totally in control of the situation, Margaret said to herself. I never thought I would be, but I'm absolutely thinking clearly. And she realized in an absolutely clear way their padding had slipped down to her waist. Her head felt as though a family of unhygienic birds was nesting in. Her eyeshadow not so much run as sprinted. Her dress was torn in several places. Her legs were scratched. Her arms were bruised. And for some reason she felt on top of the world. I think you'd better stand back, Burns, she said. I'm not sure how it's going to work. There's a sharp and take a breath. How'd you know my name? Margaret sized up the door. The oak was old, centuries old, but she could sense just a little sap on the surface varnished by years, so it was nearly as tough as stone. Normally, what she had in mind would require days playing on a bag full of exotic ingredients. At least, so she always believed. Now she's prepared to doubt that. You conjure demons out of wash tubs. You could do anything. She became aware the fool had spoken. Oh, I expect I heard it somewhere. I shouldn't think so, said the fool. I never use it. I mean, it's not a popular name to Duke. It was me, ma'am, you see. She liked to name me after kings, I suppose. My granddad said no business having a name like that, and he said I shouldn't go around. Margaret nodded. She looked around the dank tunnel with a professional eye. It wasn't a promising place. The old oak planks had been down there in the darkness all these years away from the clock of the seasons. On the other hand, Grace once said that somehow all trees were one tree, or something like that. She thought she understood, though she didn't know what it meant, and it was springtime up there. The goats elected still live in the wood must know that, or if they've forgotten, it must be told. She put her palms flat in the door again and shut her eyes, trying to think her way out through the stone, out to the castle and the thin black soul of the mountains into the air, into the sunlight. The fool was merely aware that Margaret was standing very still. Then her hair stood out from her head gently, and there was a smell of leaf mold. They were not worrying the hammer that could drive a marshmallow salt toast over 6 inches of solid pavement, or an eel through 1,000 miles of hostile ocean to a particular pond, shook up through her and into the door. She stepped back carefully, her mind stunned, finding against a desperate urge to bury her toes in the rock and put forth leaves. The fool collared, the shock nearly knocked him over. She sat against the faintly jangling body and felt triumphant. She'd done it, with no artificial aids, only the others had seen us. Don't go near it, she mumbled. I think I gave it a lot. The fool was still holding her toast-racked body in her arms as two were come to utter a word, but she got a reply. I reckon you did, said Grandmother, stepping out of shadows. I never would have thought of it myself. Margaret peered at her. You been here the whole time? Just a few minutes. She glanced at the door. Good technique, but it's old wood. Been in a fire too, I reckon. Lots of iron nails and stuff. Can't see it working. If I tried the stones if it were me, but she was interrupted by a soft pop. There was an earth and a whole series of them together like a shower of marinews. Behind her, very gently, the door was breaking into leaf. Grace stared at several seconds and met Margaret's terrified gaze. Run, she yelled. They grabbed the fool and scurried into shelter of a convenient buttress. The door gave a warning creak, and several planks twisted in vegetable agony, and there was a shower of rock splinters where nails were extended like thorns from a wound, ricocheting off the stonework. The fool ducked as part of the lock whirled over his head and smashed in the opposite wall. The lower parts of the planks extended westing white roofs, which slid across the damp stone to a nearest crack and began to auger in. Knotholes bulged, burst, and thrust out branches that hit the stones of the doorway and tumbled inside. All the time there's a low groan, the sound of cells of the wood trying to contain the raw surge of life pounding through them. If it'd been me, Grandmother said as part of the ceiling caved in, I wouldn't have done that. Not that I'm objecting, mind you, it's a reasonable job. I just think you overdid it is all. Excuse me, said the fool. I can't do rocks, said Margaret. Well, no, rocks are an acquired taste. Excuse me, they looked at me backed away. Weren't you supposed to be rescuing something? Oh, said Granny. Yes, come on, Margaret. We better see how she's getting up, what she's getting up to. There were screams of the fool couldn't feel they weren't taking it seriously. I dare say, said Granny, pushing him aside and stepping over a writhing taproot. If someone locked me in a dungeon, there'd be screams. I love that. Okay. There's a lot of dust inside the dungeon. By the nimbus alight around one torch, Margaret could dimly make out two figures cowering in the furthest corner. Most of the furniture had been overturned and scattered across the floor. It didn't look as if it had been designed to be a last word in comfort. Maniog was sitting quite calmly in what appeared to be a sort of stocks. Took your time, she observed, but let me out of this, will you? I'm getting cramp. And there was a dagger. It spun gently in the middle of the room, glinting while a turning blade caught the light. My own dagger, said the ghost king, a voice only the witches could hear. All this time I never knew it. My own dagger. They blow a dimmy on my own knife. The intercept to a roll couple waving a dagger. A faint gurgle escaped from the lips of the duke, glad to be out of there. He's doing well, isn't he? Said Nay, as Marjorie helped her out of her prison. Isn't that the old king? Can I see him? Shouldn't think so. And King Burris staggered slightly under the weight. He was too old for such poltergeist activity. He had to be an adolescent for this. Let me just get a grip on this thing. Oh, damn. And the knife dropped from his tenuous grasping fire to the floor. Greenwell stepped forward and smartly put her foot on. The dead shouldn't kill the living, he said. It's a dangerous, what's the name, precedent. We'd all be outnumbered, for one thing. Yeah, that's a point. That's why you don't have necromancers around. The Duchess surfaced from her terror first. There had been knives swooping around and exploding doors and eyes women defying her in her own dungeon. She couldn't be sure how she was supposed to react to supernatural eyes, but she had a firm idea how she tackled the last part. Her mouth opened like a gateway to a red hell. Guards, she yelled and spied the fool hovering the door. Fool, fetch the guards. They're busy. We were just leaving, said Granny. Which one to use the Duke? Well, I'd figure it's the male one, but okay. Foreman stared peak-eyed at her from his half-crouch in the corner. Thin dribble saliva escaped from his mouth and he giggled. Granny looked closer. The center was streaming out of someone else looking back at her. I'm going to give you no cause, she said quietly, but it'd be better for you if you left this country. Advocate or whatever. In favor of whom? Said the Duchess icily. A witch? I won't, said the Duke. What'd you say? The Duke pulled himself right, brushed off some dust from his clothes, and looked Granny full in the face. The coldness in the center of his eyes was larger. I said I won't. Do you think a simple conjuring would frighten me? I'm king by right of conquest, and you can't change it. As simple as that, witch. He moved closer. Granny stood and stared at him. She hadn't noticed anything like this before. Hadn't faced anything like this before. The man was clearly mad, but the heart of his madness was a dreadful, cold sandy, a core of pure interstellar ice in the center of a furnace. She thought him weak under a thin shell of strength that went further than that. Somewhere deep in his mind, somewhere beyond the event horizon of rationality, the sheer pressure of insanity had hammered his madness something harder than diamond. If you defeat me by magic will rule, and you can't do that, and any king raised that your help will be under your power. Hag-ridden, I might say. That which magic rules, magic destroys, will destroy you too. You know it. Granny's knuckles whitened as he moved closer. You could strike me down and perhaps you'd find someone to replace me, but he would have to be a fool indeed because he knows he's under an evil eye. And if he mispleased you, why, his life would be forfeit. You could protest all you wish, but you know he ruled with your permission, and I'm making no king at all. Is that not true? Granny looked away. There were witches hung back, ready to duck. I said, is that not true? Yes, said Granny, it is true. Yes. But there is one who could defeat you, said Granny slowly. The child? Let him tell what he's grown, young man with a sword seeking his destiny. Very romantic, but I have many years to prepare. Let him try. Behind him, King Var's fist smashed through the air and quite failed to connect. The Duke leaned close to his nose and inches in Granny's face. Go back to your cauldrons. Damn, how do you say that? Weird sisters, I guess, he said softly. And then Granny stopped her passion as a link eye cast like a large, angry bat, the Duke's laughter echoing around her head. Weird sisters. You could give him boils or something, said Maniac. Hemorrhoids are good. That's allowed. It won't stop him ruling. It just means you have to rule standing up. Always good for a laugh, that. Or piles. Granny Wedlock said nothing. If Fury were a heater, hat would have caught fire. Mind you, that'd probably make him worse, said Nanny, running to keep up. Same with toothache. She gave him a glance at Granny's twitching features. Getting it fret, they didn't do anything much, but thanks anyway. I ain't worried about you, get ya og, snapped Granny. I only came along because Margaret was fretting. What I say is, a witch can't look after herself. She got no business calling herself a witch. Margaret done well with the woodwork, I thought. Even the grip of her sullen fury, she spared a nod. She's coming along, she said. She looked up and down the corridor and leaned closer. I ain't given him the pleasure of saying it, but he's got us beaten. Well, I don't know, said Nanny. R.J. sent a few other sharp ask us soon. You saw some of the guards. They ain't the old sort. They're a tough kind. We give the boys just a bit of help. It won't work. People have to sort these things out for themselves. If you say so, Ismay, said Nanny meekly. I do. Magic's there to be ruled, not for ruling. She nodded, remembering a promise, reached down and picked up a fragment of stone from a rebel in the tunnel floor. I thought you'd forgotten, said the ghost of the king by her ear. Her down the passage of fools capering after Margaret. Can I see you again? Well, I don't know, said Margaret, her heart singing a smug song. How about tonight? Oh no, said Margaret, I'm very busy tonight. She intended to curl up with a hot milk drink when Goody whimpers notebooks on spiritual astrology, but his instinct toward a suitor should have an uphill battle in front of him just to make him keener. Personally, I don't agree with the idea, but she's just working on what people told her, so I can forgive that. But yeah, playing hard to get, in my opinion, isn't a great idea. Listening to this book makes me feel like I'm being talked to by someone who's so much smarter than me that came from another dimensional reality where color speaks and math is its own language and how to build a rocket ship is taught in kindergarten classes. Very well said, I would say. Terry Pratchett's just a master of words, I will say. Or should I say Sir Terry Pratchett? He was knighted, you know. Anyway, tomorrow night then, said the fool, persisting. I think I should be washing my hair. I can get Friday free. We do a lot of work at night, you see. The afternoon then, she hesitated. Perhaps instinct gone wrong. Well, around 2 o'clock, in the meadow by the pond, all right? Well, see you there then, all right? He said desperately. Fool! In the Duchess' voice, that could have caused passionate look of terror across his face. I gotta go. The meadow, okay? I'll wear something so you recognize me, all right? All right, echoed Margaret, hypnotized by sheer pressure of his persistence. She turned and ran for the other witches. There was pandemonium outside, and the crowd had been there agreeing his arrival had grown considerably and flowed in through the now unguarded gateway and lapped around the keep. Still, this appearance was new to Langclyde, for his habits already mastered some of the more elementary manifestations, such as the jerking of rakes and sickles in the air, and the simple up and down motions accompanied by grimaces and cries of "Grrr!" Though a few citizens on grassy area were waving flags and cheering instead. Advanced students were already eyeing the more combustible buildings inside the walls. Several sellers of hot meat pies and sausages in the bun appeared from nowhere and were doing a brisk trade. Pretty soon someone was going to throw something. The three witches stood by the top of the steps that led to the keep's main door and surveyed the sea of faces. There's our Jason sitting happily, and Wayne, and Darren, and Kevin, and Trev, and Nev. I'll remember their faces, Lord Fountain, emerging between them, putting a hand on our shoulders. And do you see my archers on the walls? I see 'em. Then smile and wave, said Duke, and the people know all is well. After all, have you not seen me today on matters of state? Feeling closer to Granny. Yes, there are 100 things you could do, but the ending will always be the same. I am not an unreasonable man, I hope, he said in cheerful tones. Perhaps you persuade the people to be calm, I'll be prevailed upon to moderate my rule somewhat. I am making no promises, of course. So Granny said nothing. Smile and wave. Granny raised one hand in a vague notion, produced a vague wickedness that had nothing to do with humor. Then she scowled and nudged Granny Og, who was waving and mugging like a maniac. No need to get carried away, but that's our Reeton, our Charlene, and our Babbies. We shut up, you daffle besom, and pull yourself together. Jolly good, well done, said Duke. He raised his hand at least 8 in his hand. No, there's still 8. He tried to gain a gator rather last night, but it hadn't worked. Grater. Like a cheese grater? Cheese. People of Langclyre, he cried, do not be afeared. I am your friend. I will protect you from the witches. They have agreed to leave you in peace. And Granny stared at him as he spoke. He was one of those maniac depressives, she said. Up and down like a what's name. Kill you one minute and ask how you're feeling the next. She grinned aware he was looking at her expectantly. What? I said I now call upon the respected Granny Wither I say a few words. You said that, did you? Yes. You're going a long way too far. I have, haven't I? He giggled. He turned to respected crowds and went silent. Go home, she said. There's a long silence. Is that all? Yes. What pledges of eternal allegiance? What about them? Will you stop waving? Sorry. And now we're going to go too. But we're getting along so well. Come, Githia, said Granny icily. And where's Margaret got to? Margaret looked up guiltily. She'd been deep in conversation with a fool. It was kind of conversation both parties spent a lot of time looking at their feet and picking at their fingernails. 90% of true love is acute, ear-burning embarrassment. I can't deny that. I can't deny that at all. Maybe 95%. We're leaving. Friday afternoon, remember, Histival? Well, if I can. Naog leered. And so Granny Wither swept past the steps and through the crowds, and on the other two running behind her. Several of the grinning guards caught her eye and wished they had, but here and there among the watching crowds a barely suppressed snicker. She hurled for the gateway across the drawbridge and through the town. She was walking fast. Granny walking fast could beat most people at a run. Behind him, a Duke who had crested the last maniac peak on the switchback of his madness, coasting steadily toward the water splash of despair, laughed. Ha ha! Granny didn't stop until she was outside town under the welcoming eaves of the forest. She turned off the road and plumped down on a log, her face in her hands. There to approach carefully, Margaret patted her back. Don't despair. You said you handled it very well, we thought. I ain't despairing. I'm thinking. Go away. Naog raised her eyebrows at Margaret in a warning fashion. They backed off a suitable distance, although, with Granny in her present mood, the next universe might not be far enough, and sat down on a moss-grown stone. Are you alright, said Margaret? I didn't do anything, did you? Never laid a finger on me, she sniffed. They're not your real royalty. Old King Grunwald, for one, he wouldn't waste time waving things around and menacing people. Would have been bang, needles right into your fingernails and the word go and no messing. None of this evil laughter stuff. He was a real king, very gracious. He was threatening to burn you. Oh, I wouldn't have stood for it. I see you got a follower. Sorry? The young fellow with bells, and a face like a spaniel has been kicked. Oh, him. Really, he's just this man. He just follows me around. Can't be difficult, Vassanay sagely. Besides, he's so small and he capers all over the place. Look after him carefully, will you? Pardon? You haven't, have you? I thought not. He's a very clever man, that fool. He ought to have been one of them actor men. What do you mean? Next time you have a look at him like a witch, not like a woman, Sine gave Margaret a conspiratorial nudge. Good bit of work in a door back there. Coming along well, you are. Hope you told him about Grebo. He said he let him out directly, Granny. There's no from Granny Weatheraxe. Did you hear the snickering in the crowd? Someone snickered. Naosh sat down beside her, and a couple of them pointed. She said, I know. It's not to be borne. Margaret sat down the other end of the log. There's other witches, a lot of witches further in top. Maybe they can help. They two looked at her in pained surprise. I don't think we need to go that far, sniffed Granny. Asking for help. Very bad practice, nodded Granny Og. But you asked a demon to help you? No, we didn't. Right, we didn't. We ordered it to assist. That's right. Granny went and stretched out her legs and looked at her boots. They were good, strong boots with hobnails and crescent-shaped scods. You couldn't believe a cobbler had made them. Someone had laid down a soul and built up from there. I mean, there's that witch over Skundway. By the way, I think Skund is a direction, but I'm not sure. They have weird directions on this planet because it's flat and it's on a turtle. So, yeah, directions are weird. They don't really have north and south. They have like a rimwards, I think, which is toward the edge, and hubwards, which is toward the center. But I'm getting off track. Sister, who is, what's the name? Her son went off to be a tailor. You know, get the, I heard it sniffs and puts on them anti-massacres on the back of chairs as soon as she sits down. Gordly, sticks her little finger out when she drinks tea and then drops all her hatches all the time. Yes, well, I haven't lowered myself to talk with her ever since I bit for the giblet, you recall. I dare say she just loved to come stooping around, running her fingers over everything and sniffing, telling us how to do things. Oh, yes, help. We'd all have a fine to do if she went around helping all the time. I know over in Skundway, the trees talk to you and walk around a nice and nay, without even asking permission. Very poor organization. Not really good organization like we got here, said Margaret. Grace stood purposefully. Going home. There are thousands of good reasons why magic doesn't rule the world. They're called witches and wizards, Margaret reflected, and she followed the other two back down the road. It's probably some wonderful organization on the part of nature protecting itself. She saw to it that everyone with magical talents was about as ready to cooperate as a she-bear with a toothache, so that all the dangerous powers safely dissipated as random bickering and rivalry. There are differences in style. Wizards assassinate each other in drafty quarters, witches just cut one another dead in the street, and all is self-centered as a spinning top. But even when they help other people shelter, they're secretly doing it for themselves. Ah, so you're like big children. Except for me, she thought smugly. She's very upset, isn't she, said Margaret Nayog. Ah, well, said Nay, that's the problem. The more you get used to magic, the more you don't want to use it. The more it gets in your way. I expect when you start out, you learn a few spells from Great Goody Whimper, may she rest in peace, and you use them all the time, right? Well, yes, everyone does. Well-known fact, when you get along in the craft, you learn the hardest magic is the sort you don't use at all. Margaret considered that proposition cautiously. This isn't some sort of zen, is it? I don't know. I've never seen one. When we were in Dungeons, Grace said something about tying the rocks. Trying the rocks sound pretty hard magic. Well, Goody wasn't much into rocks. It's not that hard. You just prod their memories. You know, the old days when it was hot and runny. She hesitated, and her hand flew out of her pocket. She ripped a lump of Cathlestone and relaxed. Thought I'd forgotten it for a minute. You can come out now. He was barely visible in the brightness of day, and you're shimmering here, but King Verus blinked. He wasn't used to daylight. It's me, said Nay. There's someone to see you. Granny turned and saw a ghost. I saw you in a dungeon, didn't I? Who are you? Verus, King of Lancashire, said a ghost and bowed. I do my honor of addressing Granny Weatherice, Doyen of Witches. I don't know what that word is, so one moment. A woman who is most respected or prominent person in a particular field. Doyen. So basically, she's the head witch. It already pointed out just because Avernus came along from a long line of kings didn't mean he was basically stupid. And then without the years of distraction of flesh, she done wonders as well. Granny Weatherice considered herself solely unsusceptible to buttering up. The king was expertly applying the equivalent of a daily surplus to quite a large country. Bowing was a particularly good approach. A muzzle twitched in the corner of her mouth. She gave a stiff little bow in return, she wasn't quite sure what Doyen meant. I'm her. You can get up now, she added regally. King Verus remained kneeling about 2 inches above the actual ground. I crave a boon. Here, how'd you get out of the castle, said Granny? The esteemed Aunt assisted me. I reasoned if I anchored the stones and then climbed across to go where the stones go. I'm afraid I indulged a little trickery to arrange matters. Currently, I'm haunting her apron. Alright, that is very smart. Sure, he may be stuck to a particular location, but the location moves, so does he. Not the first either, said Granny automatically. Ismay, I beg you, Merryweather, restore my son to the throne. Restore? You know how I mean. Is he in good health? Then Granny nodded. Last time we looked at him, he was eating an apple. It is his destiny to be king of Lancashire. Yes, well, destiny is tricky, you know. You will help? She started to look wretched. It's meddling, you see. It always goes wrong if you meddle in politics. Like, once you start, you can't stop. Fundamental rule of magic is that. You can't go around messing with fundamental rules. You're naturally going to help? Well, naturally, one day, when your lad's a bit older. When and where is he now? They avoid our spaces. We saw him safely out of the country, you see, said Granny awkwardly. Very good family name, I'll put it quickly. What kind of people? Not commoners, I trust. Absolutely not, said Granny, with firmness a vision of the tower floating across her imagination. Not common at all. Very uncommon. Her eyes implored Margaret for help. They were thespians, said Margaret firmly, her voice radiating such approval the king found himself nodding automatically. Oh, he said, good. Were they? Whispered Naog. They didn't look it. Don't show your ignorance, kicking an Og, sniffed Granny. He automatically goes to the king. Sorry for that, your majesty. It's just her showing off. She doesn't even know where Thesbia is. Wherever it is, I hope they know how to school a man in the arts of war. I know, Helmet. In 10 years, he'll have dug in here like a toad in a stone. The king looked from witch to witch. What kind of kingdom will I have to come back to? I hear the kingdoms becoming, and even now. Will you watch it change over years, becoming shoddy and mean? His ghost faded. His voice hung in the air as faint as a breeze. Remember, good sisters, the king and the land are one. Excuse me. I got a bit of water in my throat. And he vanished. The embarrassed silence broke my Margaret blowing her nose. One what, said Naog? We gotta do something, Margaret. Her voice choked with emotion. Rules are no rules. It's very vexing, said Granny quietly. Yes, but what are you gonna do, she said. Reflect on things, said Granny. Think about it all. You've been thinking for about a year, said Margaret. On one what? Or one what, said Naog. It's no good just reacting, said Granny. We got to. A cart came bouncing, rumbling on the track. Granny ignored it. Give these things careful consideration. You don't know what to do you, said Margaret? Nonsense. There's a cart coming, Granny. She shrugged. What you youngsters don't realize, she began. Witches never bother with elementary road safety. Such traffic as there is on the roads of Lancashire either went around them or it was not possible to wait till they moved out of the way. Granny Rice had grown up knowing this fact. Oh, hey, Yori, and yeah, I just drank some water, though I may need some more. One moment. Alright, that sounds better. So to catch you up, Yori, last we checked, the Ghost King lured a cat into the castle. That led, Oh, hey, Pastel. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So, yeah, the ghost of the king wants to get rid of the duke who took over his castle, so he lured in, the cat, which lured in the witch, who got put in the dungeon, and now she's out of the dungeon, and now they're just talking about what to do about this whole situation. Excuse me. Witches never bother with elementary road safety. Such traffic as there is on the roads of Lancashire either went around them, or it is not possible, wait till they moved out of the way. Granny Weathers had grown up knowing this for a fact. The only reason she didn't die knowing that was that it wasn't that Margaret. Was that Margaret, who was rather better reflexes, dragged her in a ditch. It was an interesting ditch where those little jiggling corkscrew things or direct descents of things within the primordial soup of creation. Anyone thought the ditch where it was dull could have spent an instructive half hour in a ditch with a powerful microscope. It also had nettles in it, and now it had Granny Weatherwax. She struggled through the weeds, incoherent with rage, and rode through a ditch like a Venus, I don't know, only older and with more duckweed. She struggled. Oh, wait. She pointed a shaking finger to the disappearing cart. That was young Nishelli from Eight Cap Way, said Naomi from nearby bush. His family were always a bit wild. Of course, his mother was a whipple. He ran us down, said Granny. You could have got out of the way somewhere. Get out of the way, said Granny. We're witches. People get out of our way. She squashed onto a track, her fingers still pointing. By hokey, I'll make him wish he'd never been born. He was quite a big baby, I recall, said the bush. His mother had a terrible time. This never happened to me before, ever, said Granny, still swinging like a bowstring. I'll teach him to run us down as though we're ordinary people. He already knows, said Margaret. Just help me get Nanny out of this bush, will you? I'll turn this. People ain't got respect anymore. That's what it is, said Nanny, as Margaret helped her with the thorns. It's all due to the king being one, I expect. We're witches, screamed Granny, turning her face to the sky, shaking her fist. Yes, yes, said Margaret, a harmonious, balanced universe and everything. I think Nanny's a bit tired. What have I been doing this whole time, said Granny, rhetorical flourish that would have made even the Toller gasp. Not a lot, said Margaret. Laughed at, on my roads, in my own country, screamed Granny. That just about does it. I'm not taking 10 more years of this. I'm not taking another day of it. The trees around began to sway and dust on the road sprang up in writhing shapes that seemed to swirl out of her way. She extended one long arm at the end of it and forward one long finger for a tip of a curving nail with a brief flare of fire. Half a mile down the track, all four wheels fell off the cart at once. Lock up a witch, will she? Willie, he shouted to the trees, and he showed her feet. We better grab her, she whispered to Margaret. Two of them limped and rang and forced her arms down their sides. I'll be able to show him what a witch could do. Yes, very good, Sonny. Perhaps only not right now, and not like this, eh? Weird sisters, indeed, Granny yelled. I'll make his... Hold her a minute, Margaret, said Naog, rolling up her sleeve. It can't be like this with a highly trained one, she said, and brought her palm around in a slap that lifted both witches off their feet. On such a final, flat note, the universe might have ended. At the conclusion of the breathless silence that followed, Grandmother said, Thank you. She adjusted her dress with so dignity and said, But I meant it. We'll meet tonight at the stone and do what must be done. She reset the pens in her hand and stood off on a steadily in the direction of her cottage. What happened to the rule of not meddling in politics, said Margaret, watching her back. Nanny often massaged the light back her snow fingers. By hokey, that woman's got a jaw like an anvil. What was that? I said what about the rule about not meddling? The thing is, as you progress in the craft, you learn there's another rule. It's made to obey it all her life. It was that. When you break rules, break 'em good and hard. Sine and grinned to say guns are more menacing than teeth. The Duke smiled out over the forest. It worked, he said. The people mutter against the witches. How do you do it, fool? And jokes, Knuckle, and gossip. People are halfway ready to believe it anyway. Everyone respects the witches. The point is no one actually likes them very much. Friday afternoon, he thought, I'll have to get some flowers. My best suit to own the silver bells. Oh, gosh. It's very pleasing, but it's only this fool you shall have a knighthood. There was number 302, and a full new baron with a feed line go hungry. Marry, Nuncle said wearily, nor as fast as a painted crawl his face. If I had a knighthood, why, it would keep my ears warm in bed. I have faith with me, and I as a fool, why I should, Yes, all right, snapped Lord Helmet. In fact, he's feeling much better already. His porridge had been oversalted this evening. There's a decently empty field of the castle. There are no more voices in accustomed hearing. So, for those who didn't hear that, basically the fool was raised by a very strict family of also fools who taught him to only use official jokes. So, yeah, he's just trying to recite one, and it's rather bad. But they don't let him make them up. He got whipped if he made them up. So, yeah. As for the Lord Felmet here, his food's oversalted because the ghost has been dropping salt in his food constantly, and it's probably been driving him batty. And he can halfway hear what the ghost is saying, so that's probably been not helping too. He sat down on the throne. It was really comfortable for the first time. Or rather, it felt really comfortable for the first time. The Duchess sat beside him, her chin in her hand, watching the fool intently. This bothered him. He thought he knew where he stood with the Duke, and it was just a matter of hanging on till his madness curved back into the cheerful stage, where the Duchess genuinely frightened him. It seemed that words are extremely powerful, she said. Indeed, lady, you must have made a lengthy study. He nodded. The power of words is stained through the hell of the guild. Witches and wizards use words that they are tools to get things done, but the fool reckon that words are things in their own right. Words can change the world, he said. Her eyes narrowed. So you said before, but I remain unconvinced. Strong men change the world. Strong men their deeds. Words are like mazapan on a cake. Of course you think they're important. You are weak and you have nothing else. Your ladyship is wrong. Ooh. The Duchess's fat hand drummed impatiently on her throne. You had better be able to substantiate that comment. Lady, the Duke wishes to chop down the forest, is that not so? The trees talk to me, whispered Lord Helmet. I hear them whisper when I go riding. They tell lies about me. The Duchess and fool exchanged glances. But, the fool continued, this policy is met with fanatical opposition. What? People don't like it. Oh, one moment. That official joke thing sounds like something you would never think really happened, but if you read about it in an article like 10 totally shocking medieval facts you wouldn't believe are truly true or something. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think, honestly, gestures and such probably more flew by the seat of their pants. The thing is, they need to be funny. And to be funny, you gotta be spontaneous. If you just stick by a couple of jokes that are official, then you're not gonna get very far. At the very least, you're not gonna have a lot of material to work with, so that's an issue. But anyway. The Duchess floated. What does that matter? We rule. They'll do what we say, or they'll be pitilessly executed. The fool bobbed and capered and waved his hands in a conciliatory fashion. But, my love, we will run out of people, murmured the Duke. No need, said Full Desper. You don't have to do that at all. What you do is he paused on his lips in quickly, you embark upon a far-reaching and ambitious plan to expand the agricultural industry, provide long-term employment in the sawmills, open new land, and reduce the scope for banditry. This time the Duke looked baffled. How'll I do that? Chop down the forest. But you said, shut up, Velmet, said the Duchess. She objected to Fool with a long, thoughtful stare. Exactly how does one go knocking over the house of people one does not like? Urban clearance, said the Fool. I was thinking of burning them down. Hygienic urban clearance, and sowing the ground with salt. Mary expected a hygienic urban clearance with a program of environmental improvements. That might be a good idea to plant a few trees as well. No more trees, shouted Bowman. Oh, it's alright, they won't survive. The important thing is to have planted them. But I also want us to raise taxes. Why, Nuncle, and I am not your Nuncle. Not? No. Why, Prithee, you need to finance your ambitious program for the country. Sorry, said the Duke, who's getting lost again. He means that chopping down trees costs money, said Duchess. She smiled at the Fool. This is the first time I ever seen her look at him as if he was anything other than a disgusting little cockroach, and there was still a large element of cockroach, but as if it said, good little cockroach, you learned a trick. But yes, basically, he's just teaching them how to dress up what they're doing in words that sound good to the normal people. Intriguing, but can your words change the past? Oh, that's an easy one. The Fool considered this more easily, I think, because the past what people remember and memories are words. Who knows how a king behaved 1,000 years ago? There's only recollections and stories. And plays, of course. Ah, yes, I saw a play once of a bunch of funny fellows in tights and a lot of shouting. The people liked it. You tell me history is what people are told. The Fool looked around the throne room and found King Goonberry the Good, from 906 and 967. Was he? He's disappointing. Who knows now? What was he good at? But he will be Goonberry the Good until the end of the world. The Duke was leaning forward on his throne, his eyes gleaming. I want to be a good ruler, he said. I want people to like me. I want people to remember me fondly. Let's assume, said Duchess, there are other matters subject to controversy, matters of historical record that have been clouded. I didn't do it, said the Duke quickly. He slipped and fell. That was it. Slipped and fell. I wasn't even there. He attacked me. It was self-defense. His voice fell in a mumble. I have no recollection of it this time, he murmured. He rubbed his dagger hand, and the word was becoming inappropriate. Be quiet, husband. I know you didn't do it. I wasn't there with you, as you may recall. It was I who didn't hand you the dagger. The Duke shouted again. And now, Fool, I was saying, I believe that there may be matters that should be properly recorded. Mary, that you were not there at the time. It was true at words of power. One of the things they will do is get out of one's mouth before speak. And one of the things they're able to do is get out of one's mouth before the speaker has a chance to stop them. If words are sweet little lambs, the Fool watched them bound cheerfully away from the flamethrower of the Duchess' glare. Not where? Anywhere, said the Fool hastily. Stupid man, everyone is somewhere. I mean, you were everywhere but the top of the stairs. Which stairs? Any stairs? I distinctly remember not seeing you. She eyed her a while. As long as you remember it, she said. The Duchess rubbed her chin, which made an audible rasping noise. Reality is only weak words, you say. Therefore, words are reality. But how can words become history? It was a very good play, the play I saw since Velma Dreaming. There were fights and no one really died. Some very good speeches, I thought. There was another sandpaper he signed from the Duchess. Fool, lady, can you write a play? A play that'll go around the world, a play that'll be remembered long after the rumor has died. Yes, this is some doublethink stuff, but it's just basic politics, really. I kind of grasp it, I think. Basically, you just say you're doing one thing, and it's obvious you're doing one thing, but if you dress up as something else, say you burn down some houses, as they're saying, but I'll rather tear down some houses for whatever reason, but just say it's urban development. Maybe the people who got burnt down or knocked down won't believe that, but people who didn't see it will, because they didn't see it. And they don't, they might think authority is more trustworthy than it actually is. And the point being that lies are basically more powerful the further you are away from their source. But anyway, can you write a play that'll go around the world, a play that'll be remembered long after the rumors die? No, lady, is a special talent, but can you find someone who has it? There are such people, lady. Killing them is just fast-tracking them to heaven. That's like saying it's not necromancy, I'm just raising a family. The storm was arresting. It didn't want to be, but it was. It's been a fortnight understudying a famous anti-cyclone of the Circle C, turning up every day, hanging around the cold front, grateful for a chance to uproot the occasional tree and whirl a farmhouse in available in the city of his choice. But the big break in the weather had never come. It consoles the thought that even the really great storms of the past, the Great Gale of 1789, for example, of Hurricane Zelda, and her amazing raining frogs had gone through sort of thing at some stage in her career. It was just part of the big tradition of weather. Besides, it had a good stretch in the equivalent of phantoming down in the plains, bringing seasonal snow and terminal frostbite to millions. It had to be philosophical about there being a backup here now with nothing much to do except wave the weather about. If weather was people, the storm was filling in time wearing cardboard hat and a hamburger hell. Don't know what that means, but I do like the analogy of a weather being compared to an actor or something like that. Currently, his observing three figures moving slowly over the moor, converging with some determination on a bare patch where a standing stone stood, or usually stood, though at the moment it wasn't visible. The standing stone is especially magical. It actually hides if people try to look at it, so since those three people where it should be, it's just going to be somewhere else. It recognized him as old friends and connoisseurs and conjured up a brief unseasonal roll of thunder as a form of greeting. This was totally ignored. The bloody stone's gone, said Grandweather Rice. How many of there is it? However many there is of it. Her face went pale. There might have been drawn. If so, there had been a very necrotic artist. She looked as though she meant business. Bad business. Light the fire, Margaret, she added automatically. I dare say I'll feel better for a cup of tea, said Naog, mouthing the words like a mantra. Or is it mantra? I think it's mantra. She pulled back in a recess of her shawl. With something in it, she said, producing a small bottle of Applejack. Alcohol is a deceiver and tarnishes the soul, said Margaret virtuously. Hurricane soda. Yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 went in a weird direction. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Ganondorf could make a hurricane. Like, we haven't seen him do anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Though, to be fair, if they did go that direction, then you can't say you can't do it later, so that would be a bit of an issue. Maybe he's better off just summoning monsters and such, but anyway. I never touch the stuff, said Granny Weatherwax. We should keep a clear head, give ya. Just a drop in your tea isn't drinking, it's medicine. It's chilly old wind up here, sisters. Very well, but just a drop. They drank in silence. Eventually Granny said, well, Margaret, you know all about the coven business, may as well do it right. What do we do next? Margaret hesitated. She wasn't up for suggesting dancing naked. There's a song in praise of the full moon. It ain't full, she pointed out. It's what's name? Bulging. Gibless, Nay said obligingly. I think it's in praise of full moons in general, and then we raise our consciousness. There really ought to be a full moon for that, I'm afraid. Moons are very important. Grant gave her a long look. That's modern than witchcraft for you, isn't it? It's part of it. There's a lot more. Green Weatherwax sighed. Teach their own, I suppose. Like let a little ball of shiny rock tell me what to do. Yes, bugger all that, said Nay. Let's curse somebody. The fool crept cautiously along the nighttime corridors. He wasn't taking any chances, either. Margaret gave him a graphic account of Grivo's general disposition, and the fool had borrowed a couple of gloves and a sort of metal wimple from the castle's store for hereditary chainmail. He reached the lumber room, looked at the latch cautiously, pulled the floor, and then flung himself against the wall. The corridor became slightly darker as more intense darkness inside the room spilled out and mingled with the rare lighter darkness already there. Man, that's a weird descriptor. Apart from that, nothing. The number of spinning and rage balls of murderous fur poured through the door was 0. He relaxed and slipped inside. Grivo dropped on his head. Of course. It had been a long day. The room did not offer a kind of full life you would come to expect and demand. The only point of interest had been the discovery around mid-morning of a colony of mice that spent generations eating away for a priceless tapestry history of Empire just got as far as King Monroe, 709 to 745, who met a terrible fate when they did too. He sharpened his claws on a bust of Lancaster's only royal vampire, Queen Grimnir the Impaler, who was queen for 1514 to 53, 53 to 57, 57 to 62, 62 to 67, 68 to 73. He performed his morning ablutions on a portrait of an unknown monarch who was beginning to dissolve. What is in that cat? Now he was bored, and also angry. He raked his claws across the place where the fool's ears should have been. And was aware with nothing more than a metallic scraping noise. Who's a good boy then, said the fool. Whoosha, whoosha, whoosh. This intrigued Grivo. The one person had spoken on this was Naog. Everyone else addressed him as, get off my face, you bastard! He leaned down very carefully, intrigued by his new experience. From the fool's point of view, an upside-down cat lowered so slowly in his field of vision, wearing an expression of evil-eyed interest. Does he want to go home, then? Look, Mr. Door is open. Grivo increased his grip. He had found a friend. The fool shrugged very carefully, turned, and walked down the passage. He made his way down through the hall out the courtyard on the sides of the garden room, and remained nodding carefully at the guards. Man just went past the cat on his head, Owen remarked after a momentary reflection. See what it was? The fool, I think. There was an awful pause. The second guard shifted his grip on his halberd. It's a rotten job, he said, but I suppose someone has to do it. Also, yeah, I wish we had more about Grimnir the Impaler. She sounds awesome. We ain't gonna curse anyone, said Grain Friendly. It hardly ever works if they don't know you done it. She does have a point of that. I remember in earlier books she pointed out the cursing isn't actually magic, or at least not how she tends to do it. Well, how it tends to go is like you say a curse to them, they freak out, and the next bad thing that happens to them, they know you did it. So basically, they curse themselves, which is very cool, I thought. What you do is you send him a doll himself with pins in. No, all I do is get some hold of some of his toenails, and he persisted enthusiastically. No. Or some of his hair or anything. I got some pins. No. Cursing people is morally unsound and extremely bad for your karma, said Margaret. Well, I'm gonna curse him anyway. Under my breath, like I could have caught my death in that dungeon for all he cared. We ain't gonna curse him, said Granny. We're gonna replace him. What do you do with the old king? I left the rock on the kitchen table. I couldn't stand it anymore. I don't see why. He seemed very pleasant for a ghost. He was all right. It was the other ones. Others? Pray carry a stone out of house so I can haunt it, good mother, he said. It's bloody boring here, Mistress Log. Excuse my clatching, he said. So of course I did. I reckon they're all listening. Oh, yes, they all think it's all aboard. Time for a bit of a holiday. I have nothing against ghosts, especially royal ones, he had lowly, but my cottage isn't a place for them. There's some woman in a chair yelling her head off in my wash house, I ask you. There's a couple of little kids in the pantry and men without heads all over the place, and someone screaming under a sink, and this little hairy man wandering around looking lost and everything. It's not right. As long as he's not here, said Granny, we don't want any men around. He's a ghost, not a man. We don't have to go into details, Granny said icily. But you can't put the old king back on the throne. Ghosts can't rule. You never have the crown to stay on. It'll drop right through. I'll try to replace him with his son, proper succession. Oh, we've been through that in about 15 years' time, but tonight, a child on the throne, he won't last 5 minutes. Not a child, a grown man. Remember Alice Dermage? They're silent and they all set back. Bloody hell. You aren't going to try that, are you? I mean to have a go. Bloody hell. You've been thinking about this, have you? Yes. See here, Isma. I mean, Black Alice is one of the best. I mean, you're very good at, pedology and thinking of that. Black Alice, she just upped and went at it. You're saying I couldn't do it? Excuse me, said Margaret. No, of course not. Right. Only it's, she was a hoyden of witches, like the king said. Doyen, said Owen Granny, not hoyden. Excuse me, said Margaret, last time. Who was Black Alice? And said, no, this is changing me evil glance and talking over my head. There's 3 witches in this code, remember? She is before your time, said Naog. Before mine, really, she lived over Scunway. Very powerful witch, if you listen to rumor. She turned a pumpkin into a royal coach once. Showy. That's no hope to anyone turning up in a ball smelling like pie. That's the point, actually. Would a coach made from a pumpkin smell like a pumpkin? And that business with the glass slipper. Dangerous to my mind. But the biggest thing she did was send the whole palace to sleep for 100 years until... Can't remember. Was there rose bushes involved, or was it the spinning wheels in that one? I think some princess had to finger... No, that was a prince. That was it. Finger a prince? Finger a prince? No, he had to kiss her. A very romantic Black Alice was. A bit of romance in her spells. She was like nothing better than Girl Meets Frogs. Why did they call her Black Alice? Fingernails and teeth. She had a sweet tooth. Lived in a real gingerbread cottage. A couple of kids shoved her in her own oven at the end. Shocking. And you're gonna send the castle to sleep? She never said the castle to sleep. That's just an old wives' tale. She just stirred up time a little. It's not as hard as people think. Everyone does it all the time. It's like rubber is time. You can stretch it to suit yourself. Margaret was about to say, that's not right. Time is time, and every second lasts a second. That's what it's for. That's its job. And then she recalled weeks that had flown past and afternoons that lasted forever. Some minutes had lasted hours. Some hours had gone past so quickly she hadn't been aware they were past at all. But that's just perception, she said. Isn't it? Oh, yes, said Granny. Of course it is. It all is. What difference does that make? 100 years be over-egging it, mind. I reckon 15 be a nice number. That means the lad will be 18 at the finish. We'll just do the spell and fetch him. He can manifest his destiny, and everything will be nice and neat. Margaret didn't comment on this, but it occurred to her that destiny sounded easy enough when he talked about them, and never very bankable until human beings are concerned. But Nanny Ox sat back and chipped over another generous measure of apple brandy and tea. Could work out nice, a bit of peace and quiet for 15 years. If I call a spell after you say you had to fly around the castle for a cock crow. I wasn't thinking about that, said Nanny. He wouldn't be right. Fellow is to be king all the time. The kingdom still gets sick. Now I'm thinking is moving the kingdom. She beamed at them. The whole of Lancashire? Yes. 15 years in the future? Yes. Nanny looked at Granny's broomstick. It was a well-made thing built to last apart from an occasional starting problem, but there were limits. For the record, that's also in our previous book, which maybe I'll get to eventually, but basically her broomstick is the only one on the entire disc that needs a jump start to fly. It's, very old. Also got reforged by dwarves, if I recall, which is why it hadn't fell apart yet. You'll never do it, not run the whole kingdom in that. All the way up to a powder knife and down to Dremlin's Fell. You couldn't carry enough magic. I thought of that. She beamed again. It was terrifying. She explained the plan. It was dreadful. A minute later, the moor was deserted as the witches rushed about their task. It was silent for a while, apart from the squeak of bats and the occasional rustle of the wind in the heather. There had been a bubbling from a nearby peat bog. Very slowly, crowned over the thicket of sphagnum moss, the standing stone resurfaced and peered around the landscape with an air of deep distrust. Grebo was really enjoying this. At first he thought his new friend was taking in Margaret's courage, but for some reason he wandered off the path in the dark and was taking a stroll in the forest. And one of the more interesting bits he always felt, it was a hummocky area in the region, and in potholes and small intense swamps, full of mist even in fine weather. Grebo often camped here on the off chance that a wolf was lying up for a day. Yes, that cat can take out wolves. Like, he barely tries, he just does it. I thought cats could find their own way home, the fool muttered. He cursed under his breath. It would be easy to take the wretched creature back to Neon's house, which is only a few streets away, almost in the shadow of the castle. But the idea of delivering it to Margaret, it impressed her, which is very keen on cats, but he thought she was bound to ask him in for a cup of tea or something. He put his foot in another water-filled hole. Something wriggled underneath it. He groaned and stepped back onto a mushroom. Look, cat, you gotta come down, right? Then you find your way home and I'll follow you. Cats are good at seeing the dark and find their way home, yeah, hopefully. He reached up, Grievous sank his claws on the arm, and as a friendly warning found him to his surprise, this had no effect on chainmail. There's a good cat, and he lowered him on the ground. Go on, find your way home. Any home will do. His grin gradually faded, and there was nothing left of the cat. It was nearly as spooky as the opposite way around. He stretched and yawned to hide his embarrassment. Being called a good cat was one of his favorite stalking grounds, wasn't going to do anything to his proud credibility. He disappeared in the undergrowth. He appeared in the gloom. It dawned on him when he liked forests. He liked them in one remove, as it were. It was nice to know they were there, but forests and mine are not quite the same as real ones that, for example, you got lost in. They had more mighty oaks and fewer brambles. They also tended to be viewed in daylight, and the trees didn't have malevolent faces and long, scratchy branches. The trees in the imagination are proud giants. Most of the trees here appear to be vegetable gnomes, mere trellises for fungi and ivy. The pool was vaguely where you could tell what direction the hub lay in by seeing which side of the trees the moss grew on. A quick inspection indicated in all defiance of old geography the hub lay in all directions. Grebo had vanished. And for the record, the hub is just the center of the disc. There's a giant mountain made of green ice, if I recall, and the gods live on it, so it's pretty cool. If I recall, the gods named it Dun Manifestin. They're not very creative. But anyway, the fool sighed, removing his chainmail protection, tinkled gently for the night in search of high ground. High ground seemed like a good idea. The ground he's on at the moment appeared to be trembling. He was sure it shouldn't be doing that. Margaret hovered on a broomstick so 100 feet above the turn-wise board's lengthfire, looking down the sea of mist through which an occasional treetop poked through like a seaweed-covered rock on high tide. A bulging moon stretched over, possibly giblets again. Even during a decent thing crescent would felt better, she thought, more appropriate. She shivered and wondered where Granny Weatherwax had been at the moment. The old witch's broomstick had known and feared throughout the skies a lane crier. During introduced to flying quite late in life under some initial suspicion, taking to her like a blue bottle to an ancient fish head. The problem, however, was that Granny saw even every flight simply as a line from A to B and never quite get alongside it. Other users of the air might have any rights whatsoever. The flight migration patterns of an entire continent changed by that simple fact. The high-speed evolution among local birds and developed a generation that flew on their backs to keep a careful eye on the skies. Oh my god. Granny's implicit belief that everything should get out of her way is stand to other witches, very tall trees, and on occasion, mountains. Granny had also browbeaten the dwarves who lived under the mountains in fear of their lives and speeding things up. Many an egg had been laid in midair by inspecting fowls and expected to glimpse Granny bearing down on them, scowling over the top of a broomstick. Oh dear, thought Margaret, I hope she hadn't happened into someone. I hope she hasn't happened to someone. Oh my god, I love that. A midnight breeze turned her gently in the air like an unsupported weathercock. Hey Raz, good to see you, good to see you. We just discovered that witches and natural disasters have a lot in common. A midnight breeze turned her young air like an unsported weathercock. She shivered and squinted at the moonlit mountains, the high ramtops whose freezing crags and ice-green chasms acknowledged didn't arrive earlier due to mainly focus on playing after Diablo 2 Resurrection. Oh well, I hope you had fun. Sorry if I yawned there. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Let's see. Freezing crags and ice-green chasms acknowledged no king or cartographer. Only on the rimward side was Lanquire open the world. The rest of the board was as jagged as the Wolf's Mountain, far more impassable. From up here, it's possible to see the whole kingdom. There's a rippling noise in the sky above her. A blast of wind spun around as a Doppler's distorted cry of "Stop dreaming, girl!" She gripped the bristles on her knees and urged to stick upward. It took several minutes to catch up with Granny, who was lying almost fully in her broomstick to reduce wind resistance. Dark treetops roared far below them as Mara came alongside. Granny turned to her and held her hat in one hand. Not before time, she snapped it all. Reckon this one's got a few more minutes of flight left. Come on, get a move on. She reached out a hand, and so did Margaret, and sadly the broomstick was bucking and dipping in the slipstream as they touched fingertips. Margaret's arm tingled as the power flowed up it. Granny's broomstick jerked upwards. "Leave me a bit," shouted Margaret. "I gotta get down." "Shouldn't be difficult," screamed Granny above the noise of the wind. "I meant safely. You're a witch, aren't you? By the way, Dorina Coco, I'm freezing up here." Margaret nodded desperately as spare hand passed a straw bag. "Right. Well done. See you at Lanquire Bridge." She uncurled her fingers. Margaret whirled away in a buffeting wind, clinging tightly to her broomstick, which now she viewed just about as much buoyancy as a bit of firewood. And certainly when capable of staying a full-grown woman against the beckoning fingers of gravity. As she plunged down toward the forest from a long, shallow dive, she reflected there was possibly something complimentary in the way Greenway resolutely refused to consider other people's problems. It implied, in her considerable opinion, they are quite capable of sorting it out by themselves. Some sort of change spell is probably in order. Margaret concentrated. Well, that seemed to work. Nothing at the sight of mortal man had in fact changed. For Margaret, she was a mere adjustment of mental process from a bewildered and slightly frightened woman to gliding as slowly toward an inhospitable ground to a clear-headed, optimistic, positive-thinking woman who really had it together, was taking full responsibility for her life and in general knew where she was coming from, although unfortunately where she was heading had not changed. But she did feel better about it. That's a cute little illusion. I'll have to remember that one when I'm feeling down. She dug in her heels and forced the broomstick to yield the last charge of power in a brief burst, sending it skimming around a few feet from the trees. It sagged again and started to plow a furrow on the midnight leaves. She tensed herself, prayed to whatever gods might be listening. She landed on something soft and let go. There are 3,000 known major gods in the disk, and research theologians discover more every week. Apart from the minor gods of rock, tree, and water, there are two that haunt the ramtops. Hoki, half a man, half a goat, and entirely a bad joker, who was banished from Dun Manifestment when the old exploding mistletoe joke on Blind Low, chief of all the gods, and also Hurrying the Hunted, the terrified and apprehensive deity, a small furry creature whose destiny is to end their lives in a brief, crunchy squeak. Either could be candidates for a small miracle which had occurred for in a forest full of cold rocks, jagged stumps, and thorn bushes. She landed on something soft. I am sorry about my throat, it's just not agreeing with me right now. I think that's better. It turned out Margaret's idea of sustaining food was 2 rounds of egg and crust sandwiches with crust cut off, and Granny knew it before the wind whipped it away, so a small piece of parsley placed with consideration and care on top of each one. She regarded them, and then she ate them. A chasm loom still choked with winter snow, like a tiny spark in the darkness, a dot of light against the hugeness of the ramtops. Granny tackled the maze of the mountains. Back in the forest, Margaret sat up and accidentally pulled a twig from her hair. A few yards away, the broomstick dove off through a tree, showering leaves. A girl and a small half-hour tinkle calls appeared in the gloom. Indistinct figures on his hands and knees searching for something. "Did I land on you?" "Someone did," said the fool. They crawled nearer. You? What are you doing here?" "Mary, I was walking along the ground. A lot of people do, you know. I know it's been done before. It's not original. It probably lacks imagination, but it's always been good enough for me. Did it hurt you? I think I got 1 or 2 bells that won't be the same again." The fool scoured for a leaf mold and finally located his hat. It clunked. "Totally crushed, I faith. He put it on anyway. Seemed to feel better for that. It went on. Rain, yes. Hail, yes. Even lumps of rock. Fish and small frogs. Okay. Women, no. Not up till now. Is it going to happen again?" "You got a bloody hard head," said Margaret, pulling herself to her feet. "Modesty forbids me to comment," said the fool. They remembered something I prithee. They stared at each other, their minds racing. Margaret thought, Megan said, "Look at him properly." "I'm looking at him. He looks the same. A small, thin little man with a ridiculous gesture outfit. He's practically a hunchback." but in the same way a few random boulders and cast on a galleon or a whale in the eyes of the beholder, she realized the fool was not a little man. He was at least of average height, but he made himself small by hunching his shoulders, banding his legs, and walking in a half crouch when it appears like he was capering on the spot. I wonder what else gets the Ogno, she thought, intrigued. He rubbed his arm and gave a lopsided grin. I suppose you have any idea where we are, he said. Witches never get lost in murder family, they become temporarily mislaid. Lancashires over that way, I think. I've got to find a hill, if you'll excuse me. To see where you are. To see when, I think. There's a lot of magic going on tonight. Is there? Then I think I'll accompany you, said Chivalry, appearing cautiously in the tree-haunted gloom. I wouldn't want anything to happen to you. Well, that's a nice sentiment, but I think it's the other way around. Granny lowered a broomstick as it plunged through the tactless chasms of the mountains, leaning from side to side, hoping that those might have some effect on steering, which seemed strangely to be getting worse. Falling snow behind her was whipped and spiraled in odd shapes by the wind of her passage. Rearing waves of crusted snow poised all winter over palatial valleys, trembling in a long, silent fall. Her flight was punctuated by the occasional boom of an avalanche. She looked down at the landscape of sudden death and jagged beauty, and it was looking back at her as a dozing man might watch a mosquito. She wondered if it realized what she was doing. She wondered if it would make her fall any softer or mentally school so such softness. No, the land wasn't like that. It didn't bargain. The land gave hard and took hard. A dog always bit deepest on the veterinary hand. And then she was thorough, vaulting so low her last peak that one of her boots filled with snow and barreling down toward the lowlands. The mist never far away in the mountains was back again, this time being at 5 a.m. became a thick silver sea in front of her. She groaned. Somewhere in the middle of it, neon fluids and an occasional pull from her hip blast to prevent against the chill. And thus it was that Granny, her hat and iron gray hair dripping with moisture, her boots shedding lumps of ice, heard the distant muffled sound of a voice enthusiastically explaining to the invisible sky that the hedgehog had less to worry about than just about any other animal. Like a hawk that spies something small and fluffy in the grass, like a wandering air star flew German to just see a nice blue planet. Granny turned to stick and plunged down toward the choking billows. Come on, she screamed, drunk with speed and exhilaration, a sound provided her fever head put her passing most severely off its supper. This minute, get ya, Og, and Og would hover her hand with considerable reluctance, a pair of broomsticks swept up by him into the clear starlit sky. The disc, as always, gave the impression the creator designed to specifically look like it from above. Streamers of cloud and light and silver stretch away at the rim, stirred through 1,000-mile swirls by a turning of the world. Behind the spinning rooms, the sullen roof of the foggers dragged off in a curling tunnel of white vapor, so that the watching gods, and they certainly are watching, could see a terrible flight as a furrow in the sky. 1,000 feet and rising fast in the frosty air, two witches were bickering once again. It was a bloody stupid idea, moaned Nanny. I never liked heights. Did you bring something to drink? Certainly, you said. Well, I drank it, didn't I? Sitting around there at my age, our Jason would have a fit. She grit her teeth. Well, let's have the power. I'm running out of up. Amazing how her voice ended to stream at anyone well. Her broomstick pinwheeled sharply across the clouds and dropped from sight. I guess it was a bit too much power. The fool and Margaret sat on a log on a small outcrop and looked across the forest. The lights of Lancashire town were in fact not very far away, but neither of them suggested leaving. They were between and crackled and spoken thoughts of wild surmisings. You've been a fool long, said Margaret politely. She blushed in darkness. Atmosphere sound like Can't believe Granny's dead. You've been a fool long, said Margaret politely. She blushed in the darkness. In that atmosphere sounded the most impolite of questions. All my life, said Barely, I cut my teeth on a set of bells. I suppose he was hands down from father or son. Well, I never saw much of my father. He wanted to be a fool for the Lord's accord when I was small. Had a row with Granddad. He comes back when it's time to see my mom. I don't know why that line's repeated, but here we are. That's terrible. There's a sad jingle that he shrugged. He vaguely called his father a short, friendly man with eyes like little oysters. Doing something as brave as thing up to the old boy must have been quite outside his nature. The sound too soon of the bells was shaking in anger so hot in his memory, which is full of them bad scenes as it is. Still, some our voice higher. It must have been a happy life, making people laugh, I mean. There was no reply as he turned to look at the man, his face like stone. A low voice, talking as though she's not there, a fool spoke. He spoke of the guilds of fools and the joculators of Ankmo Pork. Most visitors mistook it at first sight for the office of the Guild of Assassins, which in fact was a rather pleasant, airy collection of buildings next door. They always had plenty of money. Sometimes young fools, slaving at their road in the rooms always freezing, even high summer, heard the young assassins to play over the wall and envied them, though of course the number of fighting votes always grew fewer toward the end. Because they also believed in competitive examination. In fact, all sorts of sounds managed to reach the high, grim, windowless walls. From the keen, questioning servants, the younger fools picked up the vision of the city beyond. There are taverns and parks, a whole bustling world in which the students and apprentices of various guilds and colleges took a full white part. and by playing tricks on it, running through shouting or throwing parts of it up. There's a lacker paid no attention to the 5 cadences or 12 inflections. And although the students debated the news and doors towards a nice, apparently unauthorized humor, delivered freestyle, and no reference to the Monster Fun book or the council or anyone. Out there, beyond the stained framework, people were telling jokes that reference to lords and misrule. It was a sobering thought. Well, not a sobering thought naturally, because alcohol isn't allowed, but if it was, it would have been. There was no more sober than the guild. The fool spoke barely of the huge red-faced bird pranks on evenings, learning the merry jest of long mornings in the freezing gymnasium, learning the 18 pratfalls and a such trajectory for a custard pie, and the juggling. Brother Jape, a man with a soul like a cold-boiled string, taught juggling. It wasn't that the fool was bad, but it reduced him to inherent coherent fury. Fools are expected to be bad at juggling, especially if juggling inherently funny items like custard pies, flaming torches, or extremely sharp cleavers. What a Brother Jape laying on a red heart clanging rage was affected a fool bad juggling because he wasn't any good at it. That is a weird thing to be bad at, and it just sounds soul-crushing. Didn't you want to be anything else? What else is there? I didn't see anything else I could be. Student fools are allowed out in the last year of training but under a frightful set of restrictions. Capering miserably through the streets, he'd seen wizards for the first time, moving like dignified carnival floats. He'd seen surviving assassins, foppish, giggling young men in black silk, as sharp as knives underneath. He'd seen priests with their fantastic costumes of slight marmor, long rubber sacrificial aprons they wore for major services. Every trained profession had its costume, and he realized for the first time the uniform he was wearing had been carefully and meticulously designed for no other purpose than to make him aware of a complete and utter pillock. Even so, he persevered. He had spent his whole life persevering. He persevered because he had no talent, and because Grandfather would have flayed him alive if he didn't. He memorized the authorized jokes till his head rang, got even earlier in the morning to juggle till his elbows creaked. He perfected his grasp of the conical kegel until the very senior lords could understand him. Until only the very senior lords understand him. He capered and clowned with impenetrable grim determination, and graduated top of his year and been awarded the Bladder of Honor. He dropped down the privy when he came home. Margaret was silent. So, how'd you get to be a witch? Do you go to a school or something? Oh no, Goody Whimper just walked down the village, seeing all the girls lined up, and chose me. Oh, hello, Sensei. I hope you're okay. But you can rest easy now that that's over, and just listen to my voice. I believe we're about 80% through the book, so you did miss a little bit, but I can catch up to speed pretty easily. So, let's see. That Ghost King led the cat into the castle, so he'd lure in a witch. The witches got in to rescue that witch, who was in stocks, I recall. The ghost nearly killed the It's okay. It took us so long. The ghost nearly killed the Duke and Duchess by levitating a dagger, but he couldn't quite pick it up. They got out. And now Granny's deciding to actually do something about this because someone nearly ran her down the road. And as far as she's concerned, witches have the right of way. So someone ignoring her means something needs to be done. So now she's going for some sort of plan, which involves, it's a little confusing, but basically time is malleable and they're moving the entire country 15 years in the future so the son of the king can take his rightful spot. Let's see. So now the fool and Margaret are talking about their past and everything, and the fool did not have a good time of it. So now he's asking how she became a witch. Give me one more and you take a drink. Okay. So how'd you get to be a witch? Did you go for a school or something? Oh no, Goody Whimper just walked down the village while all the girls lined up and chose me. You didn't choose the crap, you see, it chooses you. But when do you become a witch? When the witches treat you as one, she supposed. She sighed. If they ever do. I thought they would after I did that spell in the corridor. It was pretty good after all. Marriage was a rite of passage, so the fool never stopped himself. For context there, the spell she did was basically she tried to get past a wooden door and reach back into its metaphorical roots in order to make it grow and become alive again. The door pretty much tore itself apart trying to grow through the castle, but they got through there, so that worked. Shot nails all over the place, I remember. So, they are witches being those two old ladies, he said, relaxing the usual gloom. Yes, very strong characters, I imagine. Very, she said with feeling. I wonder if they ever met granddad, said the fool. Took their feet. They're really nice, it's just that, When you're a witch, you don't think about other people. I mean, you think about them, but you don't think about their feelings, see what I mean? At least not unless you think about it, shoot their feet. You're not like that. Look, I wish you'd stop working for the Duke, said Margaret desperately. You know what he's like, working people saying fire cottage and everything. But I'm his fool, said the fool. A fool has to be loyal to his master, right up until he dies. I'm afraid it's tradition. Tradition's very important. But she don't even like being a fool. I hate it, but it's the best thing to do with it. If I got to be a fool, I'll do it properly. That's stupid. Foolish, I'd prefer. The fool had been edging along the log. If I kiss you, he said carefully, do I turn into a frog? She looked at her feet again. They shuffled under her dress, embarrassed at all his attention. She could see the shades of Granny Og and Esme Weatherwax near sight, with Granny Spectre glaring at her. A witch is a master of every situation. Mistress, said the vision Granny Og, made a great gesture involving a bunch of grinning and waving of forearms. We'll have to see, she said. It was Destiny's most impressive kiss in the history of foreplay. Ooh. Time, as Granny Weatherwax pointed out, is subjective experience. The fool's years in the guild have been an eternity, whereas the hours of Margaret on the hilltop passed like a couple of minutes. And high above Lunclire come a double handful of seconds sound like tapping into hours of screaming terror. I screamed, Granny, as I stopped. Nanny Og came alongside, trying vainly to match courses with a tumbling, buckling broomstick. Ox rain fire crackled over the frozen bristles on shorting out at random. She leaned over and snatched a handful of Granny's skirt. I told you it was daft. You all for that wet and missing up in the cold air, you daft beslin. Let go of my skirt, Davy Og. Come, grab hold of mine. You're on fire in the back there. They shot through the bottom of the cloud bank and screamed in unison as a shrub-covered ground emerged from nowhere and aimed itself directly at them. And went past. Nailing down the black perspective at the bottom of a bowl of light water was dimly visible. They had flown clear over the edge of the Lancashire Gorge. A loose smoke poured out of her broomstick as she hung on, determined and forced it around. What the hell are you doing? I could follow the river, she screamed over crackle of flames. Don't you worry. You come aboard, do you hear? It's all over. You can't do it. There was a small explosion behind Granny, and a small handful of burning bristles broke off and whirled away in the booming depths of the gorge. Her stick jerked sideways, and Nan grabbed her around the shoulders as a gout of fire snapped into her binding. The blazing broomstick shot from between her legs, twisted in the air, went straight upward, twirling sparks, making a noise like a wet finger drag across the top of a wine glass. Oh, that's unpleasant. This left Nanny flying upside down, supporting Granny Rorax at arm's length. They stared into each other's face and screamed. I can't pull you up, I can't climb up, and can I? Act your age, Githa. Nanny considered this. Then she let go. Three marriages and adventurous girlhood left Nanny Og with thigh muscles like a cracked coconuts and... Oh, thigh muscles. Well then. They could crack coconuts and the G-forces sucked her as she drawn forced the spinning stick down and around in a tight loop. Ahead of her, she made out Granny Og, Weatherwax strapped on a stone, one hand clutching her hat, the other trying to prevent Granny from seeing up her skirts. She urged the stick forward till a creak snatched the falling witch around her waist, ball and fought the plunging stick back to a level height, light and sagged. The subsequent silence broken by Granny Weatherwax saying, Don't ever do that again, Githa Og. I promise. Now turn us around. We're heading for Lancashire Bridge, remember? She obediently turned the broomstick, brushing past canyon walls as she did. It's still miles to go. I mean to do it, said Granny. There's plenty of night left. Not enough, I'm thinking. A witch doesn't know the meaning of failure, Githya. They shot into clear air again. The horizon was a line of golden light as slowed down to this sped across the land, bulldozing suburbs of the night. Ismay, said Nay after a while. What? It means lack of success. They flew in silence for several seconds. I was speaking figuratively. Oh, well, you should have said. A line of sight was bigger and brighter. For the first time, a flicker of doubt invaded her mind, puzzled to find herself in such unfamiliar surroundings. You wonder how many cockerels there are in Lancashire, she said quietly. Was that one of them what's-name questions? I was just wondering. They all sat back. There were 32 of crowning age, she knew. She knew because she worked it out last night. Tonight, given Jason instructions, he had 15 grown children and numerous grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and they had most of the evening in position. It should be enough. You hear that, said Granny over a razorback way, shook instantly over the misty landscape. Sound traveled very clearly in these early hours. What, sort of an irk noise? No. Granny spun around. Over there, definitely heard. It sounded like a cockadoo. I can't say I did, Ismay, said Nay, smiling at the sky. Lancashire Bridge overhead. And over there, right down there, there's a definite squawk. Dawn chorus, Ismay, I expect, and look, only half a mile to go. She glared at her colleague's head. There's something going on here. Search me, Ismay. Your shoulders are shaking. Lost my shoulder back there. It's a bit chilly. Look, we're nearly there. She glared ahead, her mind amazed suspicions. She was going to get to the bottom of this. When she had time. The damp along Lancaster's main link of the outside world drifted gently over underneath them. and the chicken farm half a mile away kind of chorus of strangled squawks and a thud. And that? What was that? Foul pest. Careful in bringing this down. Are you laughing at me? Just please for you, Esme. You're going on history for this, you know. One moment, I'm out of breath. Okay. You know, a friend had told me that I actually am going to go a little too fast. No one said I had any issues with it, but I'll try going a little slower for my own sake at least. Whew. Just please for you, Esme. You'll go down in history for this, you know. I drifted between the timbers of the bridge. Green Weather slid cautiously in a greasy planking and adjusted her dress. Yes, well, she added nonchalantly. Better than Black Alice, everyone will say. Some people will say anything, said Green. She peered over the parapet at the foamy torrent far below, and then up at the distant outcrop which stood Lancashire Castle. Do you think they will? She added nonchalantly. Mark my words. But you gotta complete the spell, mind. She nodded. She turned to face the dawn, raising her arms, and completed the spell. It was almost impossible to convey the sudden passage of 15 years and 2 months in words. It's a lot easier in pictures where you just use a calendar, lots of pages blowing off, or a clock with hands moving faster and faster until they blur, or trees bursting into blossom and fruiting in a matter of seconds. Well, you know. Or the sun becoming a fiery streak across the sky and days and nights flickering past like a bad zoetrope, and fashions visible in the clothes shop over the road whip on and fast on off faster than a lunchtime stripper with 5 pubs to do. They're any a number of ways, but they won't be required because, in fact, none of this happened. Let's see. The sun did jerk sideways a bit, but it seemed like the trees on the windward side of the gorge were rather taller. Grant Nate couldn't shake off the sensation someone just sat down heavily, squashed her flat, and opened her out again. That's because the keen did not, in so many words, move for a time in a normal flickering way, high-speed photography of a sense. It moved around it, which is much cleaner, considerably easier to achieve, and it saves a lot traveling around trying to find a lavatory opposite a dress shop like you the same dummy in the window for 60 years, which has traditionally been the most time-consuming and expensive bit of the whole business. The kiss lasted more than 15 years. Not even frogs can manage that. The fool drew back, his eyes glazed, expression one of puzzlement. Did you feel the world move? Margaret peered her shoulder apart. I think she did. Done what? She hesitated. Oh, nothing much really. She ought to try. I don't think we got it quite right that time. And this time it only lasted 15 seconds, but it seemed longer. So yeah, Margaret and the fool are clearly getting together. A trimmer ran through the castle, shaking the breakfast tray in which the Duke fell much as relief was eating porridge that wasn't too salty. It was filled by the ghost now filled Naog's conjure like a rugby team in a telephone box. This spread to every pinhole in the kingdom, a number of hands waxed their grip, and 32 purple-faced cockles took a deep breath and crowed like maniacs, but they were too late. Too late. I swear I keep seeing moving on the edge of my vision. That's probably not important. I still reckon you're up to something, Granny. I had another cup of tea. You don't go and put any drink in, will you? Saying Granny Flatly. It was a drink that what did it last night. I never put myself forward like that. It was shameful. Like Alice never did anything like that, said Nang occurred to me. I mean, it was 100 years, alright, but it was only one castle she moved. I don't reckon anyone could do a castle. Granny's frown puckered at the edge, and she let weeds grow all over it. Right enough. Very well done, said King Versi. We all thought it was superb, being an ethereal play, of course, we are in a position to observe it closely. Very good, your graciousness, said Naog. Oh, the king is here because basically she carried some stones out from the castle, and since he's forced to haunt the castle, he can be anywhere the castle is. So if there's just a bit of the castle somewhere else, he can be there. Very clever, I thought. She turned and observed a crowd and goes, Pine, we haven't been granted the privilege of sitting, though partly through the kitchen table. But you lock and bug rounds back to the outhouse. The cheek, except the kitties, they can stay, poor little mites. I'm afraid it feels like it's so good to be out of the castle, said the king. She yawned. Anyway, we gotta find a boy now. That's the next step. We'll look for him directly after lunch. Lunch is chicken, and you're tired. Besides, the use in the search will take a while. He'll be an for pork, mark my words. Everyone ends up there. You start running for pork. You don't have to search for people and destinies involved. You just wait for them at for pork. Midnight rain brightened up. Our Karen got married to an innkeeper from there. I hadn't seen the baby yet. We get free board and everything. We actually needn't go. All boys they should come here. There's something about that city, said Granny. It's like a drain. It's 500 miles away, said Margaret, and you'll be away for ages. I can't help it, said the fool. Just give me special instructions. He trusts me. To hire more soldiers? No, nothing as bad as that. He reduced Velma to the world of words. Sure, it's better than hitting people with swords. Wouldn't that buy time? Would be best for everybody in the circumstances. But you don't have to go. You don't want to go. This doesn't much have to do with it. I promise to be loyal to him until you're dead, but you don't even believe that. You're telling how you hate the whole guild and everything. Well, yes, but I still have to do it. I gave my word. Margaret came over close to stamping her foot, but it didn't sink so low. Just when we were getting to know each other, she shouted. You're pathetic. His eyes narrowed. I'd only be pathetic if I broke my word. But I may be incredibly ill-advised. I'm sorry. I'll be back in a few weeks anyway. Don't you understand I'm asking you not to listen to him? I said I'm sorry. I couldn't see you again before I go, couldn't I? I'll be washing my hair, Margaret said civilly. When? Whenever. Well, that romance is going sideways, I suppose. But yeah, the fool introduced them to words in a sense of you could say one thing and mean another, which is say if you're knocking down some houses or burning them, that's just urban development. If you're taxing people more, you need more funds for the urban development, that sort of thing. And they actually seem to be listening. And since that's better than I'm just going out and murdering people for the sake of it, well, yeah. Plus, it got them want a play done clearly, so yeah. Anyway, Howell pinched the bridge of his nose and squinted wearily at the wax splatter paper. The play wasn't going well at all. He sorted out the falling chandelier, found a place for the villain who wore a mask concealed as his figure, but he rewritten one of the funny bits to laugh about the hero been born in a handbag. It was the clowns giving him trouble. They kept changing everything he thought about them. He referred them to such traditional, but now there seemed to be a third one, be below if he could think of any funny lines for him. His will moved scratchily over the latest sheet of paper, trying to catch the voice that streamed through his dreaming mind. It seemed so funny at the time. His thumb began to stick out the corner of his mouth. He was sweating. This is my little study, he wrote. Hey, with a little study, you go a long way. I wish you could start now. If you can't leave in a cab, then leave in a huff. If that's too soon, then leave it a minute in a huff. Hey, have you got a pencil and a crayon? He stared forward. This page looked nonsensical, ridiculous, and yet, in a thought on the auditorium of his mind, he dipped the quill in the inkpot and traced the echoes further. Second clown. All right, boss. Third clown. Almost in business with a bladder on a stick. Honk, honk. He gave up. Yes, it was funny. He knew it was funny. He heard the laughter in his dreams, but it wasn't right. Not yet. Maybe never. It was like the idea of the two clowns, one fat and one thin. This was almond dainty. I have trouble reading this language. This is dainty mess you got yourself me into, Shangley. He laughed to his chest ache, and the rest of the company looked at him astonishment. But in his dreams, it was hilarious. Nah, I feel for him. I really do. He laid down the pen and rubbed his eyes. It must have been nearly midnight. Habit of a lifetime told him to spare the candles, although for a fact he could afford all the candles they could eat now, whatever Vittor may say. Hour gongs may circle over the city, and night watching over the was indeed midnight, and also that in the face of all evidence, all was well. Me even got as far as the end of the sentence before being mugged. Well, pushed open the shutters and looked down at Ankh Port. It'd be tempting to say a Twin City was at its best this time of year, but that wasn't entirely correct. It was at its most typical. The river Ankh, the Calicula of half a continent, was already pretty wide and slit-line when it reached the city's outskirts. By the time I left, it didn't so much flow as exude. Owing to an accretion of mud of the centuries, the bed of the river was in fact higher than some of the low-lying areas, and now the snow melt was filling flow, many of the lower districts were flooded. If you use the word for liquid, you could pick up in a net. The river's basically molasses. This happened every year, and everyone was happy with the drains and sewage system, so it's just as well the state didn't have very many. They had merely kept a punt handy in the backyard and periodically built another story on the house. It is reckoned to be very healthy. Very few germs are able to survive. He looked across the sea of mist in which buildings clustered like a sandcastle foundation at high tide. Flares and light windows made pleasing patterns on the iridescent surface, but there was one glare of light, much closer at hand, which primarily occupied his attention. On a patch of slightly higher ground by the river, bought by Vittor for a ruin of some, a new building was rising. It was growing even by night like a mushroom. He could see the crest burning all over the scaffolding as the hired men, craftsmen, and even some of the players themselves refused to let a mere shaded day interrupt their labors. New buildings were rare in New England Port, and this was even a new type of building. The dais, or maybe disc. Vittor had been aghast at the idea, but young Tom John had kept at him, and everyone knew once the lad got in the field of it, he could persuade water to flow uphill. But we always moved around, laddie. I can't go around settling down at my time of life. It's not doing me any good, said Tom John firmly. All those cold nights and frosty mornings. You're not getting any younger. We could stay put somewhere and let people come to us, and they will too. You know the crowds we're getting now. The less plays are famous. It's not my plays, well, it's said, it's the players. I can't see me sitting by a fire, stuffy room, sleeping on feather beds and all that nonsense, but he seemed to look on his wife's face and he had finally given in. And then there had been the theater itself being water around people's a parlor trick compared to the getting cash out of a tour, but it was a fact and they were doing well these days. And I know the type. He basically is used to pinching his pennies, and now he has more pennies than he has fingers. Ever since Tom John been big enough to wear a ruff and say 2 words without his voice cracking. Well, and Vittor watching the first few beams of the wooden framework go up. It's against nature, Vittor complained, leaning on a stick. Oh, he's old, he has a stick now. Catch her in Spirit Theater, putting in a cage. It'll kill it. Oh, I don't know, said Howell diffidently. Tom John lay his plans well. He devoted an entire evening to Howell before even broaching the subject, and now his worst mind was on fire with possibilities of backdrops and sea changes and wings and flies and magnificent engines that could lower gods from the heavens and trapdoors that could raise demons from hell. He was more capable of rejecting a new theater than a monkey was capable of resenting a banana plantation. Damn thing doesn't even have a name. I should call it the gold mine because that's what it's costing me. Where's the money come from, I'd like to know. In fact, they tried plenty names, none of which suited Tom John. It's gotta be a name that means everything, because if there's everything inside of it, the whole world on stage, do you see? Then Howell had said, knowing what he was saying was exactly right, the disc. And now the disc was nearly done, so he still hadn't written a new play. He shut the window and wandered back to his desk, picked up a quill and pulled another sheet of paper toward him. A thought struck him. The whole world was a stage to the gods. Presently it began to write. All the disc is but a theater, and all men and women are but players. He must take a pause and inspiration, sleep down, sending his train off on an entirely new track. He looked away, written and added, except those who sell popcorn. After all, he crossed out and added, like unto a stage, a theater is this world, in which all persons tread as players. That seemed to be better. He thought for a moment, continuing, added consciously, and sometimes they walk on, sometimes they walk off. He seemed to be losing it. Time, what you need was an infinity. There's an awful cry and a thump in the next room. Howell dropped a quill and pushed aside a door. The boy was sitting in his bed, white-faced. He was leaving when Howell came in. Howell? What's up, lad? Nightmares? Gods, it was terrible. I saw me. I thought for a minute that Howell was absolutely picking clothes they shrimp across the room, pausing his work. He was keen on dreams. That's where the ideas came from. It was like I saw sort of inside something like a bowl and their three terrible faces peer at me. And Howell said, all hail, and they started arguing about my name, and they said, anyway, who be king hereafter? One of them said, hereafter what? And one of them said, just hereafter, girl. That's what you're supposed to say in these circumstances. You might try and make an effort. Then they all appeared, and one said, Elizabeth Peaky, I reckon it's all that foreign food. And one said, nay, I told you already there's no such place as Thesbia. And they bickered for a bit. And then one of the old ones said, he can't hear us, can he? He's tossing and turning. And said, you should know nobody gets sound when this thing is made. And they bickered some more, and when clearly now woke up. It was horrible, because every time it came close to the ball, it sort of magnified everything. You see all was eyes and nostrils. Oh, well, holds himself on the edge of a narrow bed. Funny old things, dreams. Not much I this one. No, I mean, last night I had a dream about a bandy-legged man walking down a road. He had a little black hat on. He walked with his boots full of water. And, well, that was it, and nothing. He has a little cane he twirled on, is incredibly... His voice showed off. On his face had a familiar expression of polite and condescending bewilderment. Anyway, it was very amusing, he said to himself, but he knew he'd never convince the rest of the company. If he didn't have a custard pie, I said it wasn't funny. I'm not going back to sleep, he said. What's the time? It's after midnight, said Will. You know what your father said about going to bed late? I'm not, said Tom John, pulling on his boots. I'm getting up early. Getting up early is very healthy. Very good words there. And now I'm going out for a very healthy drink. You can come too, he said it, to keep an eye on me. He gave him a down look. You know what your father says about going out drinking? Yes, he used to do it all the time when he was a lad. He said he'd think nothing coughing in all night going on 5 a.m. smashing windows. He said he's a bit of a roider duster, not like those white-livered people who can't hold their drink. Well, I reckon responsible behavior is something to do to get when you grow older, like varicose veins. Ugh. Will sighed. His memory for ill-judged remarks is legendary. Alright, just the one though, so we're decent. I promise. He adjusts his hat and a feather in it. By the way, how exactly is one quaff? I think it means you spill most of it. I'm gonna catch my breath for a moment while I check some messages. Ooh, Muse Dash and Togo Project is having a collab. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that later. Anywho. Alright, there's the book. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. If the water of the rubber ink has a thicker and more full personality than ordinary river water, so the air in the drum was more crowded than usual. It was like a dry fog. And they watched it spill into the street. The door burst open and a man came through backwards and actually touching it rapidly hit the wall on the opposite end of the street. And the enormous troll, employed by owners to give a measure of order, came out dragging two more lit bodies, which he deposited, kicking them once or twice in soft places. I reckon there are warriors thing in there, don't you? Said Tom John. Looks like it, said Will. He shivered. He hated taverns. People always put their drinks down on his head. They scurried in quickly while the troll was holding one unconscious drinker by one leg and banging his head in the columns in search of concealed valuables. Drinking the drum had been likened to diving in a swamp, except that the swamp gamblers don't pick your pockets first. 200 eyes watched appear as they pushed their way through the crowd to the bar, 100 mouths paused in the act of drinking, cursing, or pleading, and 99 brows crinkled in the effort of working out whether the newcomers fell into category A, people to be frightened of, or B, people to frighten. Tom John went for the crowd as though it was his property, and with impetuosity of youth, rapped on the bar. It's not a survival trait in the mend the drum. 2 pints of your finest ale, landlord, he said in tone so carefully that the barman was astonished by himself, obediently filling the first one before the echoes had died away. Well, looked up. There was a surely big man on his right, wearing the outside of several large ghouls and more chains than necessary to moral worship. A face that looked like a building site with hair that glowed about him. Bloody hell, he said, it's a bloody lawn ornament. You look cold, because the tolerance they were people in Norfolk had a breezy, sense of approach to non-human races, i.e., hit them over the head with a brick and throw them in the river. This is better than apply to trolls, of course, because it's very difficult to be racially prejudiced as creatures 7 feet tall and can bite through walls, at least for very long. But people 3 feet high were absolutely designed to be discriminated against. The giant had pride held well at the top of his head. Where's your fishing rod, lawn ornament? The barman pushed the mugs across. Here you are, 1 pint and 1/2 pint, he said, leering. Tom opened his mouth to speak, and nudged him sharply by a knee. Put up with it, he put up with it, slipped out as soon as possible, the only way. Where's your little pointy hat then? Said the bearded man, threw a gun flat. It was being like Cabernet time. I said, where's your pointy hat, dopey? The barman got a grip of the blackthorn stick with nails on which lived under the counter just in case it, I was talking to a lawnmower here. The man took the dregs of his own drink and poured him carefully with a silent dwarf's beard. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna end so fast, but there we are. I ain't drinking here again, he muttered. He was feeling your bite. Just back up, they let monkeys in here, but pygmies. Now sound support took a whole new intensity. The sound of the stool being slightly pushed back like the creak of doom. All I saw the other side of the room where the sat one drinker in the drum became in category C. While Tom John thought it was an old sack hunched over bars and standing arms, on the other arm set there with legs. A sad, rubbery face leaned toward the speaker, especially as melancholy as a mist of illusion. His plain lips curled back. There's absolutely nothing funny about the teeth. Said the barman, his voice frightening him even in a terrible simian sense. I don't think you meant that, do you? Not have monkeys, right? You really didn't mean that, right? And what the hell is that? Said whispered Tom John. I think it's an orangutan, said Will. An ape. A monkey's a monkey, said Beer Man, who had several of the drums and more precipitant customers started to enter the door. I mean, so what? But these bloody lawn ornaments. Will's fish struck out at growing height. Dwarves are invitation has feared some fires. Any race of 3 foot tall people with favorite axes and go into battle for like a championship tree pulling competition soon get talked about. But years of wielding a pen instead of a hammer relieved his punches some of their stopping power. But it could have been the end of him when the big man yelled and drew his sword with a pair of delicate, leathery hands and instantly jerked the thing from his grip and with a small amount of effort bent it double. Orangutans are strong as fuck. When a giant growled and turned around on an arm like a couple of broom handles strung together with elastic and covered in red fur, unfolded itself like a complicated motion, and smacked him across the jaw so hard he rose several inches in the air and landed on a table. By the time the table slid into another table and overturned a couple benches, enough impetus to start a night's overdue brawl, especially when the big man had a few friends with him. Because no one felt like attacking the ape who had dreamily put a bottle from the shelf and smashed a bottom on the counter. He's fucking ready to go. They hit whoever happened to be near us on general principle. The guild was absolutely correct etiquette for a tavern brawl. Noel walked under the table and dragged Tom John, who was watching all his interest after him. So this is Royer's thing. I'd always wondered. I think it'd be a good idea to leave, said Dwarf friendly, before there's, any trouble. There's a thump that someone landed above them and a tinkle of broken glass. Is it real Royer's thing or merely a rollicking, said Tom John, grinning. It's gonna be murder in a minute, my lad. He nodded and crawled back out into the fray. He heard him thump across the bar counter something and called for silence. Well, put his arms over his head and back. I didn't mean... in fact, calling for sounds sufficiently rare event in the middle of the tavern brawl, it sounds is what he got. It sounds is what he filled. He started to hear the boy's voice ring out full of confidence, absolutely first-class projection. Brothers, and may I call all men brother, for on this night, York Crane seemed staying on the bar, one hand raised in a prescribed declamatory fashion. Around were men frozen after giving one another a right, seeing too, their faces turned to his. Down on tabletop height, Hillel's lips moved in perfect synchronization with the words Tom John went through a familiar speech. He risked another look. The fire straightened up, pulled themselves together, adjusted the angular tunics, glanced apologetically at one another, many of them back standing at attention. Even Hillel felt business in his blood, and he had written those words. He slayed half a night with them years ago, and Vittoria declared they needed another 5 minutes in Act 3 of The King of Ink. Scribble was something with a bit of spirit in it, he said, a bit of zip and sizzle, something to summon out the blood and put a bit of backbone in our friends with a halfpenny seat, and just long enough to give us time to change his set. He'd been but a bit ashamed at the time. The famous battle of Porkish on expected because this was 2,000 men in the swamp on a cold, wet day, hacking at one another oblivion and rusty swords. What would the last king of Anglo have said to a pack of ragged men who knew they were outnumbered, outflanked, and outgeneraled? Something would bite, something would edge, something like a drink of brain to a dying man. No logic, no explanation, just words that would reach right down through a tired man's brain and pull to his feet by his testicles. And now he was seeing its effect. He began to think the walls had fallen away, and there was a cold mist blowing over the marshes, its choking silence broken only by the impatient cries of the carrion birds. And this voice. He'd written the words. They were his. No half-crazed king had ever really spoken this, and he'd written all this to fill in the gaps of the castle made of painted stacking stretched over a frame could be shoved behind a curtain, and this voice was taking the cold dust of his words and filling the room with diamonds. I made these words, Hillel thought, but they don't belong to me. They belong to him. Look at these people. Not a patriotic thought among them, but a Tom John asked this bunch of drunkards to be storming the patrician's palace tonight, and they probably succeed. I just hope his mouth never falls in the wrong hands. As the last syllables died away, their white-hot echoes searing across every mind in the room, Hole shook himself, crawled out hiding, and jabbed on his knee. Come away now, you fool, for it wears off. He grabbed him from an armor and handed a couple of complimentary tickets to the stunned barman, hurried up the steps. He didn't stop till they were street away. I thought I was doing well in there, said Tom John. Too well, I reckon. He rubbed his hands together. Hey, where are we going next? Next? Tonight is young. No, tonight is dead. It's today that's young. Well, I'm not going home yet, and there's somewhere a bit more friendly. We hadn't actually drunk anything. He sighed. A troll tavern, I heard about them. There's some down in the Shades. And I can't collect the footnote, but the Shades are basically in the bad part of the city, and considering what we've already seen, that says something. I'd like to see a troll tavern. It's for trolls only, Moe. Molten lava to drink, and rock music, and cheese, and chutney-flavored pebbles. What, dwarf bars? You'd hate it, he said fervently. Besides, you'd run out of headroom. Low dives? Look at it like this. How long do you think you'd sing for about gold? This yellow goes clinking, you can buy things with it, he said spearman as it strolled down. 4 seconds, I think. Right, 5 hours gets a bit repetitive. He hit the pebble gloomily. He investigated a few dwarf bars last time in town, but hadn't approved. For some reason, fellow expatriates who at home and did nothing more objectionable than mine a bit of iron ore and hot small creatures felt impelled once a big city to wear chainmail underwear, throw out axes, and call themselves names like Tomkin Rumbleguts. And no one could be a city dwarf when it came to quaking. Sometimes I missed their mouth altogether. Anyway, you get thrown out for being too creative. The actual words are gold, 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 gold. Is there a chorus? Gold, 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 gold. You left the gold out there. I think there's one cut out to be a dwarf. Cut down one ornament. There's a little hiss in John Brett. Sorry, it's just the father. I've known your father for a long time, said Will. You're thick and thin. Those are a damn sight more thin than thick. Since before your book, times were hard in those days. So what I'm saying is, some things you earn. Yes, I'm sorry. You see, did you hear something? He looked down on the mouth of a dark alley. They squinted, and once again revealed themselves as newcomers to the city. When Porkians don't look down dark alleys and hear weird noises. They see 4 struggling figures at first seek not to rush anyone citizens, or at least not to rush the ones who appear to be losing on the wrong end of someone's boot. Nor will they shout, "Oi!" Above all, it don't look surprising as sounds instead of guiltily rushing off force a piece of cardboard at them. What's this? Said Tom John. It's a clown, said Will. They mugged a clown. Theft license, said Tom John, putting them hard up in the light. That's right, so you're free, only don't expect us to do you too, because we're on our way home. That's right, it's a thingy, the quota, but you're kicking him. Well, not a lot, not what you call actual kicking, more foot-nudging sort of thing, said third thief. And yes, thieving is illegal in this city. They have a license for it and everything. If you do unlicensed thievings, they shiv you. Same with the assassinating. They make crime legal and somehow it all worked out. Ferris Ferry Blade went and fetched Ron here right thump, didn't he? Yeah, but some people have no idea. Why, you heartless old being. Tom John laid a calculating hand on his head. The boy turned the card over. The verse ran J.H. Floundfoot Boggis and Nephews, Bespoke Thieves, the old firm, established AM 1789, all type of theft carried out professionally and with discretion. House cleared, 24-hour service, no job too small. Let us quote you for our family rate. It seems to be in order, he said reluctantly. Well, pausing after helping today's victims speak. In order to rob someone, we give him a chitty. Of course, the bogus left to be found first, really some newcomers in business, they got no idea. Cowboys, agreed nephew. How much did you steal? He opened a kind of purse, stuck in his belt. They were pale. Oh, bleeding hell. The nephews cussed around. We're for this sort of thing. Second time here, uncle. Bucket stared at the victim. Well, how was I to know? I want to know look for him. How much do you expect him to have on? A couple of coppers, right? We've never done for him only on his way home. You try and do someone a favor, this is what happens. How much has he got then? Said Tom John. It must be $100 silver in here, Mullen Boggis. Waving first, it's not my league, not my class. I can't handle this sort of money. You gotta go to the guild of lawyer or something to steal that much. I swear my quota of that. We'll give it back then. But I done a receipt. We all got, numbers on. It's made no longer the guild checks up, sorta. Will grabbed Tom John's hand. Will you excuse the moment? He said the frantic and dragged Tom to the other side. Okay, who's gone mad? Them, me, or you? He explained. It's legal up to a certain point. Passing in. A man pup told me about that sort of thing. But he stole too much. So it appears like the guild's very strict on it. There's a grunt from the victim hanging between them. He tinkled gently. Look after him. I'll sort this out. He went back to the thieves, who were looking very worried. My client feels the situation will be resolved to give the money back. Yes, he said, projecting ideas of a brand new theory of cosmic creation, but it's a receipt, so you have to fill enough time, place, sign, and everything. My client feels possibly could have robbed him of, let's say, 5 copper pieces. Said Tom smoothly. I bloody don't, shout, the fool was coming around. That represents 2 copper pieces of growing weight, plus expenses of 3 for time, call-out fees, wear and tear, and cost, said Boggis. Exactly. Very fair. Very fair. Boggis looked over Tom John's head at the fool, who was unruly conscious and very angry. Very fair. Statesman-like, much obliged, I'm sure. And anything for yourself, sir. Just say the word. We got a special on GBH this season. Practically painless. You'll barely feel a thing. Hardly breaks the skin. Plus you get a choice of limb. I believe I'm well served in that area, Tom Johnson smiled. Oh, well, right you are then. No problem. Which merely leaves, continued Tom John. The thieves starting to walk away. The question of legal fees. The general greatness of the stump of knife flew across the length of the court. Tom John, who was sitting near the side table, their lodgings, counting. $3 silver and 18 copper pieces in profit I may give. That was amazing, said the fool. I mean, the way they come volunteer to go home and get some money as well after you gave him a speech about the rights of man. He tapped something on his head, and the youngest started to cry. Amazing. It wears also well. You're a dwarf, aren't you? He didn't feel he could deny this. I can tell you're a fool. Yes, it's the bells, isn't he? Said wearily, rubbing his ribs. Yes, and the bells. Tom John grimaced and kicked Will across under a table. Well, I'm very grateful, said the fool. He stood up and winced. I really like to show my gratitude. Is there a tavern around here? John joined out the window and pointed out and leaped the street. You see all those signs? Yes. Gosh, there's hundreds. Right, see the one neon with the blue and white sign? Well, as far as I know, that's the only one that's ever closed. Then pray allow me to treat you to a drink. That's the least I can do. I'm sure the little fellow likes something to quaff. Will gripped the edge of the table and opened his mouth to roar, and then stopped. He stared at the 2 figures. His mouth stayed open. It closed with a snap. Something the matter? He looked away. It had been a long night. Sure get a light, he muttered, and I could do with a drink. He added, a bloody good quaff. In fact, he thought, why fight it? I'll even put up with this thing, he said. What's the next word? It's gold, I think. Ah. Will looked unsteadily into his mug. Drunkenness had this be said, but I stopped the flow of inspirations. And you left out the gold, he said. Where's the Tom John? He's wearing the fool's hat. He guessed it. I reckon it's between gold and gold. I reckon. He peered in the mug. It was empty, a horrifying sight. I reckon, he tried again, finally gave up, so I reckon I could do another drink. My shop this time, said the fool. Ha ha, my squeak. Ha ha. He tried to stand up and banged his head. In the gloom of the bar, a dozen axes were gripped more firmly. The partner was sober and horrified to see Rustin being drunk, urging a wave of hands to the beetling brows glaring at him through the gloom. It's all right, said the bar large. You don't mean he's very funny. What's his name? Fool, very funny fool, all the way from West Place. Lancashire, said the fool, saying down heavily. That's right, all the way from West name. Sound like a foot disease. Don't know how you behave. Don't know many dwarfs. Ha, bit shorter than where I'm from. Saw tackle on the shoulder. He turned to look at a craggy, hairy face under an iron helmet. The dwarf in question was tossing a throwing axe up and down. You ought to tell your friend to be a bit less funny. Otherwise he'll be amusing the demons in hell. He squinted down cloud haze. Who are you? Grandpot Thundergus, and I may say. Oh, and I know you got cosmetics well down at Hobback Street. I bought a bit of grease paint off you last week. A look of panic came across Thundergus' face, and he leaned forward. Shut up, he whispered. That's right, I said the Halls of Elven Perfume and Road Co. Very good stuff, said Tom John, especially your number 9 Corpse Green. My father starts the best, first class. Oh, well, he had the accent easily. Yes, but thank you, only the finest ingredients. Chopped them up with that, he said, pointing at the axe, or your night off. His brows beetled again in a cockroach convention. Hey, you're not from the theater. That's us, strolling players. Still standing still players right now. Sliding down players now. The dwarf dropped his axe and sat on a bench, his face suddenly solemn enthusiasm. I went there last week. Bloody good it was. There's this girl and this fellow, but she was married to this old man. There's another fellow, and they said they died. She pined away and took poison, and then turned out the man was the other man, really. Only he couldn't tell on her account of he stopped and blew his nose. Everyone died in the end. It was so tragic. I cried all the way home, I don't mind telling you. She was so pale. Number 19, a layer of powder tongue cheerfully, a bit of brown eyeshadow, and a couple hankies in the vest. What's he saying? A dwarf at the company who, in better words, large. Who at the company for one, a dwarf to the company at for once a better word, large. Who else smiled to his tankard? Getting a bit of, getting tall soliloquy, boy. Right. He stood up, hit his head, sat down, and knelt in a horror's eyes. He clasped his hands to what would have been for a few Chinese chromosomes, his bosoms. You lie who call it summer. He stumbled towards the light and stood in silence several minutes. One of them dropped his axe, was noticeably hushed by the rest of them. And melting snow. Farewell, he finished. Drinks, finals, collapses during between bios, dropped the ladder, out of dress in a tabard for Comic Guard number 2, wait 1, entrance left, what oh good. That's about enough, said Llewellyn gently. Like several dwarfs are crying in their helmets, as a chorus of blown noses. Thundergust stabbed his eyes with a chainmail handkerchief? What? That was the saddest thing I ever heard. He glared at Tom. Hang on, he's a man. I believe he'll fall in love with a girl on a stage. He's not a bit of an elf, is he? Absolutely human. I know his father. Once again, he stared hard. The fool was watching his mouth open and looked back at Tom John. Nah, he thought. Coincidence. It's acting. He said a good actor can be anything, right? He felt the fool's eye boring back of his short neck. Yes, by dressing up for the women, it's a bit... He slipped off his shoes and knelt down in front of them, bringing his face to the little dwarfs. He gave him a calculating stare, he started to adjust his features. There were 2 Thundergusts. True, one that was kneeling and had apparently been shaved. What ho, said Tom John in a dwarf's voice. It was by way of being hilarious gag to arrest him who had an uncomplicated sense of humor. As they got around the pair, felt a gentle touch. You two are with a theater, said the fool, now almost sober. That's right. Then I've come 500 miles to find you. Okay, gonna need just a little break here for my voice, and then we'll keep going. We seem to be somehow almost done. I'm not sure that percentage is right because... Well, we'll see. I don't entirely remember how this went. But I know it ended well. Not like morally well, I just mean climatically well. But somehow we only got 10 more pages, so we'll see how it goes. It was, as well noted in his stage direction, later the same day. The sounds of hammering as a disc clear rose from his cradle of scaffolding thumped through his head and out the other side. Even the drinking was certain, and dwarves bought a lot more rounds than Tom John did his personations. Then I'd gone to another bar, Thundergust knew, and had gone to a collection and take away, and that was just a blur. He wasn't good at quaffing. Too much of a drink actually landed in his mouth. Well, I certainly hope it's not incomplete, but we'll see. If there is something like that happening, I'll try and figure that out. But, we'll go back to it another day, I guess, or maybe I'll download it after I find it or whatever, but we'll see. I think it should be the whole thing. Judging from the taste of summoning constant creature of the night has scored a direct hit. Can you do it, said Vitoller. Well, smacked his lips, get rid of taste. I expect it sounded interesting by the way he took it. Wicked king ruling in the help of an evil witches, storms, ghastly bars, true arrows thrown in life and death struggle, flash of dagger, streams, Arl comes, evil king dies, good triumphs, bells ring out. Showers of rose petals can be arranged, said Vitoller. I know a man who can get them at practically cost. The villager well who was drumming his fingers on a stool. All three found attention drawn to a bag of silver the fool had given her well. Even by itself presented enough money to complete the disc, and there had been talk of more to follow. Patronage, that was the thing. You'll do it then, will you? It's got a certain selling as well, I can see it, but I don't know. I'm not trying to pressure you, said Vitoller. All three sold back to the money bag. It seems a bit fishy, said Tom John. I mean, the fool was decent enough, but the way he tells it, it's very odd. His mouth says the words, and his eyes say something else. I get the impression he'd rather we believed his eyes. On the other hand, said Vitoller, what harm can it do? The pay is the thing. Well, raise the hand. What, said Musley? I said the play is the thing. Slips. There was silence against a drumming of fingertips. The bag still seemed to have grown larger. In fact, it seemed to fill a room. The thing is, the way I see it, but stop. After you start. It wasn't important. Go ahead. I was going to say, we can afford to build it anyway. Just the shell and the stage of Vitoller, but not all the other things. Not the trapdoor mechanism, or the machine for lowering gods out of heaven, or the big turntables, or wind fans. We used to manage without that. Remember the old days? All I have is a few planks and a bit of paint stacking. We had a lot of spirit. If we wanted wind, we can make it ourselves. He drummed his finger. Of course, we should be able to afford a wave machine. A small one. I got this idea about a shipwreck on an island where there's this. Sorry, we had some huge audiences," said Tom John. "Sure, lad, sure, but they pay in hot pennies. The officers want silver. We want to be rich men, people. We should have been born carpenters." The tour shifted easily. I already owe Cloudface the troll more than I should. The other two stared. "He's the one that had people's limbs torn off. How much do you owe him?" "It's all right," he said. "I'm keeping up the interest payments, more or less. But how much does he want?" "An arm and a leg." The dwarven boy stared in horror. "How could you have been so? I did it for you two. Tom John deserves a better state. He don't want to go ruining my health of sleeping in laddies and never going home. And you, my man, you need some more so well as proper things y'all have, like trapdoors and wave machines and so forth. You talked me into it, and I thought, they're right. Isn't no life out on the road? Giving 2 reports today to a bunch of farmers and going around a hat afterward. What sort of future is that? I thought, we gotta get a place somewhere, comfortable seats for a gentry, people who don't throw potatoes. I said, part of the cost, I just want you to. All right, Shadowwell, I'll write it. I'll act it, said Tom John. I'm not forcing you. It's your own choice. He found a table. There where he had to miss some nice touches. 3 witches was good. 2 would have been enough. 4 would be too many. They could be meddling in destinies and everything. What a smoke and green light. You could do a lot with 3 witches. Surprising no one thought of it before. So we tell this fool we'll do it, can we? And of course you can't go wrong with a good storm. And there was the ghost routine that told her to cut out please yourselves and said they couldn't afford the Mustang. Maybe you could put death in too. Young Daff will make a damn good death with the makeup and the platform souls. How far away you say it's from? The Ram Top, some little kingdom no one's heard of. Sounds like a chest infection. I'd like to go anyway, said Tom John. That's where I was born. Vittoria looked at the ceiling, while looked at the floor. Anything's better than one than looking at each other's faces. That's what you said, said the boy, when you did a tour of the mountain, you said. Yes, but I can't remember where, said Vittoria. All those little mountain towns look the same. We spent more time pushing the lanes across rivers and dragging up hills than we ever did on stage. I could take some of the younger lads and make a summer of it, said Tom John, putting all the old favorites. I'm back by Soul Cake Day. I don't know what Soul Cake Day is, but I really want it now. Sounds tasty. You could stay here and see a theater, and we'll be back for a grand opening. It'll be good for them, he said Sly. You always said some young guys don't know what real acting life is like. We also got to write the play. He was silent, he was staring at nothing at all. After a while, one hand fumbled in his doublet and brought out a sheet of paper and disappeared in the direction of his belt and produced a small cork ink pot and a bundle of quills. They watched without one was looking at them. He snipped the paper, opened the ink pot, dipped a quill, held it poised like a hawk waiting for its prey, and began to write. Vittoria nodded to Tom John. Walking as quietly as they could, they left the room. And yes, I relate to him too. He's a really great guy. I am starting to suspect I may be missing some book if that really is all there is to it. There is something off here. Around mid-afternoon, I took up a tray of food and a bundle of paper, and the tray was still there at tea time. The paper was gone. A few hours later, passing near the company store, a reporter yelling, I heard him yell, "It can't work, it's back to front," and the sound of something being thrown across the room. Around supper, Vittoria shattered requested more candles and fresh quills. Tom tried to get an early night, but sleep was murdered by a sound of creativity in the next room. There was muttering about balconies where the world really needed wave machines, the rest of the sound of her assistant scritching at quills. Eventually he dreamed. Now we got everything this time. Yes, Granny. Light the fire, Margaret. Yes, Granny. Right, now let's see now. I wrote it all down, Granny. I can read, my girl. Thank you very much. Now what's this? Around my cauldron go, and the poison in Shell's throat. What is this supposed to be? Our Jason slaughtered a pig yesterday, Esme. Not perfectly chillins to me get them. Well, decent meals if I mean judge. Please, Granny. There's plenty of starving people, and glad you wouldn't turn their nose at them, that's all I'm saying. Alright. Whole wheat grain and lentils stew, and a cotton seed and stew. What happened to the toad? Please, Granny, you're slowing it down. You know good news against all illicit cruelty. Vegetable protein is a very acceptable substitute. That means no new or fanny snake, I suppose? No, Granny. What about tiger's cauldron? Here. What the hell is this? Excuse my clatching. It's a tiger's cauldron. Our Wayne brought it off the markets from foreign parts. You sure? Our Wayne as specialist, May. Once again, our cauldron me. Oh well. Double, hubble, stubble, trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron. Why isn't the cauldron bubbling, Margaret? He awoke, shivering. The room was dark. Outside, a few stars pierced the mist of the city, and there was an occasional whisper of burglars and footpads on other strictly lawful occasions. There was silence in the next room, and he could see a light of the candle on the door. He went back to bed. Across the turgid river, the fool had also awakened. He was staying in the fool's guild, not a choice because the Duke hadn't given him money, and getting to sleep had been difficult otherwise. The chilly walls brought too many memories. Besides this, Safari could still hear muted sobs and occasional whimpers of the students as they accompanied the horror of life that lay ahead of them. He punched a rock-hard pill and sank back in a fitful sleep. Perchance to dream. Slab and grew, yes, but it doesn't say how slab and grew. Goody Whimper recommended testing a bit in a cup of cold water like toffee. How do you we didn't think to bring one, Margaret? I think we should get on this, maybe the night's nearly gone. Just don't blame me if it doesn't work properly, that's all. Let's see. Baboon hair and... Who's got the baboon hair? What think you get? That looks like it's more like cat hair, but never mind. Baboon hair, mandrake root, and if it's a real mandrake, I'll be very surprised. Carrot juice and tongue of boot. I see a little humor, I suppose. Please hurry. Alright. Owl food and glowworm glimmer, boiled and allowed to simmer. You know what's made it doesn't taste half bad. You're not supposed to drink it, you dactyline. Tom John sat up in bed. There it was again, the same face, his bickering voices distorted by time and space. Even looking out the window, the fresh daylight streamed through the city, I still hear the voices grumbling like old thunder. Everyone did believe about the tongue of boot. It's still very runny. Think we should put some corn flour in? It won't matter. Either he's on his way or he isn't. What the? Oh. Okay, so the page limit is lying to us. We actually go past 303. There's more of it. I know, I'm confused too, but I'll take it. And I'll continue for another 30 minutes or so. Or until, yes, the witch's time spell screwing things up. He got up and doused his face. Shadows rolled, sounds rolled and swats from Will's room. Tom John slipped on his clothes and pushed open the door. Looks as if it had snowed indoors, great heavy flakes that dripped in the odd corners of the room. He sat at his low table in the middle of the floor, head pillowed on a pile of paper, snoring. Tom John stuck to it across the room, picked up a discarded ball of paper at random. He smoothed out and said, King, now I'm just going to put the crown in this bush here, and you'll tell me if anyone tries to take it, won't you? Groundlings, yes, now if I could find my horsey. First assassin pops up. Behind you, says the audience. First assassin disappears. You're just trying to play tricks on old Kingy, you naughty. There's a lot of crossing out, a large blot. Tom John threw his sign stuck in there a ball at random. Is this a duck/knife/dagger I see? Behind, beside, in front of, before me, its beak handle pointing at me hand? Yes, I know that the pages aren't right. We're just gonna have to deal with it. First murder. I faith it is not so. Oh no, it isn't. Thou speakest truth, sire. Oh yes, it is. Judging by the crease of paper, this one had been thrown at the wall particularly hard. Well, it laid no explaining the Tom John theory about its inspirations to look at the whole shower falling last night. Fascinated by his insight and creative process, however, he tried a third discarded attempt. Queen, faith, there is a sound without. Mayhap is my husband returning. Quick into the garderobe. I almost said gardevoir for a second there, and wait not upon the order you're going. Murderer, marry, but your maid still has the pantaflues. Maid, Archbishop, your majesty. Priest, bless my soul. Driver's alarms. Tom John wondered vaguely what divers alarms, which would always include somewhere, actually were. He refused to say. Perhaps he referred to dangerous depths or lack of air pressure. He sat on the table with great care, pulled the sheet of papers under a sleeping dwarf's head, lowering it gently upon a cushion. The top sheet read, Vernus Felmet, Small God's Eve, A Knight of Knives, Daggers, Kings by her will of Vitolar's Men, a comedy tragedy in 85639 acts. Characters: Felmet, a good king; Vernus, a bad king; Weatherwax, an evil witch; Weatherwax, an evil witch; Hog, and likewise evil witch; Murgerat, and Siren. Tom John flipped through a page. Scene: a drawing room ship at sea, street, and pseudopolis blasted moor. Entered three witches. The boy read for a while and turned to the last page. Gentles, divas, dance and sing, and wish good health on the king. Let's do it all, singing, fa la la, etc. Shower rose petals, ringing of bells, gods descend, demons rise, much ado at a turntable, etc. The end. Howell snored. In his dreams, the gods rose and fell, ships moved with cunning and art across canvas oceans, pictures jumped and ran together and became flickering images, men flew on wires, flew without wires, great ships of illusion fought against one another in imaginary skies, seas opened, ladies were sawn in half, 1,000 special effects men giggled and gibbered. Though through it all he ran with his arms open in desperation, knowing that none of this really exists or ever will exist, and all he really has is a few square yards of plain, some canvas, and some paint on which to paint, trap the beckoning images that invade his head. Only in dreams are we free. The rest of the time, we need wages. And that's the sad truth. It's a good place, said Vitola, apart from the ghost. The ghost stays well sullenly, but people always jeer and throw things. Anyway, no one hurries to get all chalked up off the clothes. The ghost stays as a necessity. You said that about the last play. Well, it was. And then please yourself and wizard and get all the others. I like ghosts. They stood on one side, watched the dwarf artificer assembling the wave machine. It consisted of half a dozen long spindles, covered in complex canvas spirals painted in shades of blue, green, and white, and stretching the complete width of the stage. A arrangement of cogs and endless belts led to a treadmill in the wings. When the spirals were turning at once, people with weak stomachs had to look away. Sea battles, shipwrecks, tridents, pirates going pretty so well. Squeaky bearings, live grown Vitola, shipping like stick, maintenance expenses, overtime. It does look intricate. Who designed it? A dappled chap in the street of cunning artificer, said Vitola. Leonard of Quirm. He's a painter, really. He just does this sort of thing for a hobby. Happened here he's working on this for months. I just snapped a quick and couldn't get it to fly. Just snapped a quick and couldn't get it to fly. They watched the mock waves turn. You're bent on going, said Vitola. Yes, Tom does still a while. He needs to hold her head around the place. I'll miss you, laddie. I don't mind telling you. You've been like a son to me. How old are you exactly? I never did know. 102. He nodded gloomily. He was 60 and his arthritis was playing him up. You've been like a father to me then. It evens out in the end, said Will diffidently. Half the height, twice the age. You can say an overall average we live in the same length of time as humans. He sighed. Well, I don't know what I'd do without you and Tom John around, and that's a fact. Only for a summer, a lot of the lads are staying. If that is merely apprentices going, you said yourself would be a good experience. Vitola looked wretched, and in a chilly air that half-finished the year a good deal smaller than usual, like a balloon 2 weeks after a party. He pried some wood shavings distractedly with his stick. Well, you're old, Master Well. At least, I grow old and you grow older. We heard the gongs at midnight. Aye, you don't want him to go, do you? I was all for it at first. I thought there's destiny for it. Just something's going well, there's always bloody destiny. I mean, that's where he came from, somewhere in the mountains. My fate's calling him back. I shan't see him again. It's only for the summer. Don't interrupt. I'd like the right dramatic flow there. Sorry. Flick, flick with the stick on the wood shavings, knocking in the air. I mean, he's not my flesh and blood. He is your son, though. The hereditary business isn't all it's cracked up to be. It's fine of you to say that. I mean it. Look at me. I wasn't supposed to be writing plays. Dwarves aren't even supposed to be able to read. I shouldn't worry too much about destiny if I was you. I was destined to be a miner. Destiny gets it wrong half the time. But you say it looks like that fool person. I can't see it myself, mind you. The light's gotta be right. Could be destiny there. He shrugged, and destiny was funny stuff, he knew. You couldn't trust it. Often you couldn't see it. Just when you knew he had corner turned to be something else. Coincidence, or maybe providence. You barred the door and it was staying behind you. Then just when you thought you had it nailed down, it walked over with a hammer. He used destiny a lot. As a tool for his plays is even better than a ghost. Not like a bit of destiny with the plot rolling, but a stake to think you could spot the shape of it. As for thinking it could be controlled. Rainy weather, I squint eagerly in Naok's crystal ball. It wasn't a good one, being greenish glass fishing float back from foreign seasides part by one of her sons. So it's basically a buoy. It distorted everything, including she suspected the truth. He's definitely on his way, she said, in a cart. A fiery white charter over in favorites in Naok. I'm a carapescent in that. Has he got the magic sword? Said Mark. Let's see. Rain stepped back. You're a disgrace to pair you. I don't know. Magic chargers, fire swords, probably like a pair of milkmaids. A magic sword is important. You gotta have one. We can make one. Thunderbolt iron. I got stuff for that. You take some thunderbolt iron and you make a sword out of it. I can't have all that old stuff. You can wait days for a damn thing to hit, and then they tell you, yeah, jeez. You can wait days for a damn thing to hit, and then they nearly take your arm off. And with a strawberry birthmark, said Niagara during the eruption. Here's what they speculate. A birthmark, one of the things you gotta have for your prince coming to your kingdom. So everyone know. Of course, I don't know how they know it's strawberry. Can't abide strawberry, said Granny, whizzing the crystal again. In a cracked green dust, smelling of bygone lobsters, and I knew Tom John kissed his parents, shook hands, or hugged the rest of the company, climbed aboard the leading laddie. It must be my own work, she told herself, else he wouldn't be coming here. All his others his trusty band of good companions. After all, in Constance he had come with 500 miles across this difficult country. Anything could happen. I dare say the armor and swords are in the carts. She detected twined it out and set out to quell it instantly. There wasn't any reason for him to come, stands to reason. You have to spell exactly right, except for the ingredients and the poetry, and it probably wasn't the right time. And yet it took most of it home for the cat, which couldn't have been proper. But he's on his way. Well, can't speak, can't lie. Let's put the cloth over when you're done this now. I get worried if someone peer in at me when I'm having a bath. He's on his way, said Granny, its satisfaction voice so strong you could have ground corn on it. I dropped the black velvet bag over the ball. It's a long road. There are many a slip, twist, and rest in drawers. Could be bandits. We'll watch over him, said Granny. That's not right. The king ought to be able to fight his own battles. We don't want him going to waste his strain. We want him good and fresh when he gets here. And I hope he'll leave to fight his battles on his own way, said Margaret. Very comprehensive in a business like that. Quite right, provided it looks like he's winning. They were meeting in Aeon's cottage. Margaret making excuse to tear after Granny left around dawn, allegedly hunkering and tidying up. Whatever happened to not meddling? What do you mean? You know, Gran. You know, Nanny. It's not proper meddling, just helping things along. Sure, you can't really think that. Then he sat down and fidgeted with a cushion. Well, you see, all this not mailing is fine in the normal course of things. Not mailing is easy when you don't have to. And then I got a family I think about. Our Jason's been in a couple fights with people have been saying. Our Sean's been thrown out of the army. Let's see if we get a new king in. We all owe us a few favors. It's only fair. But only last week you were saying she's a soft shot to spray of pragmatism. A week's a long time in magic. 15 years for one thing. Anyway, this makes it turn around. I'm in no mood to stop her. So what you're saying... yes, wait. Yeah, it turns out the book's longer than the program thinks it is, so we're going overboard, I guess. That's why we're 104% for the book. um, let's see. I was thinking of getting rid of the page numbers, seeing as they're apparently off, but I think it's pretty funny, so I'll just keep it in case it happens again. So what you're saying is not meddling is like taking a vow not to swim. You'll break it unless, of course, you happen to find yourself in water. Yeah, it's a time spell. Better than drowning. She used up the mail piece to down a clay pipe does like a small tar pit. She lit with a spill from the remains of the fire while Rio watched her carefully. Margaret lifted the hood from a ball and glared at it. I think I'll never really understand my witchcraft. Just one thing I grip on, it changes. We're all just people. Everyone's just people. Can I borrow the crystal? Feel free. Had a row with you, young man. I don't really know what you're talking about. Hadn't seen for weeks. Oh, the Duke sent him to... She sent him off to summoning another. Not that it bothers me either way. So I see. Take the ball by all means. Margaret's glad to get back home. No one's about the moors at night anyway. The last couple of months, things definitely getting worse. Over top of the general suspicion of witches dying on people in Lakeland and any dealers outside worlds, either A, more things have been happening than they heard about before, or time is out of joint. It wasn't easy to prove, but a few trades who came our mountain tracks after winter seem to be rather older than they should have been. Unexplained happenings are always more expected in Rantos because a high magic potential with several years disappearing was a bit of a first. She locked the door, fastened the shutters, and carefully laid a green glass robe on the kitchen table. She concentrated. The bulldozer and her terrapins of a river barge hang at the anchor to stay 2 miles an hour. It wasn't an excitement of the transport, but it got you there eventually. He looked safe enough that he's tossing and turning in his sleep. Margaret, one of those likes spending your whole life doing something you didn't want to. Like being dead, she considered only worse, the reason being you're alive to suffer it. She considered him to be weak, badly led, and sorely needed some backbone, and she was longing for him to go back so she could look forward to never seeing him again. It was a long, hot summer. They didn't rush things. There was a lot of country being aimed pork in the ram tops. It was, so well admit, fun. It wasn't where dwarfs are generally at home with. Please yourself went over well. It always did. The appearances excelled. They forgot lines, played jokes, and slept the whole third act of Grintilla and Mellows born against the backdrop for a second act of Major Wars. But noticing the great loves they love seeing history is putting instead of putting a tidal wave sweeping over our continent. It's possibly as Tom John's playing Grintilla. The effect of so disconcertingly riveting, you may swap rules for the next house so you can apply the term to a barn or higher than that play. Higher the day, and the effect still have more rivets in its through-to-play armor, including the helmet. And even though Grintilla in this case is now a young Winslow, who has a bit simpleton to stutter, and whose spots still might eventually clear up. The following day in some nameless village in the middle of an endless sea of cabbages, let Tom John play Old Miskin and please yourself a role of Vittorio like Stilden. You can't let anyone play under the age of 40 unless you happen to want an old Miskin who a cushion up his jerkin and grease paint wrinkles. Welding is so old. His father had still been digging 3 tons of ore a day at the age of 200. Now he felt old. He watched Tom John haul off the stage, and for a fleeting instant knew what it was like to be a fat old man, pickled in wine, fighting old wars he don't care about anymore, hanging grimly on the precipice of a latent middle age for fear of dropping off in iniquity. But only with one hand, because with the other he's giving the finger to death. Of course he'd known that when he wrote the part, but he hadn't known it. The same magic didn't seem to infuse a new play. They tried a few times to see how it went. The audience watched it tenderly and went home. They didn't bother to throw anything. It wasn't they thought it was bad. They didn't seem to think anything. But all the right ingredients are there, weren't they? Traditions full of people getting evil rules a well-justified scene to. Witches were always a good draw. The apparition of death was good with some lovely lines. Mixed all together seemed to cancel out, become a mere humdrum way of filling the stage. Late night while the cast asleep well, stuff on the cards and feverishly right. He arranged scenes, cut lines, added lines, included a clown, included another fight, tuned up for special effects. It didn't seem to work. The play is like some marvelous intricate painting, a feast of impressions close to but a mere blur from a distance. Then the inspiration of sleep passed you and tried changing the style. In the morning, narrowly rises grew accustomed to find discarded experiments for decorating grass on cards like extremely literate mushrooms. He kept one of the strangest, First witch, he's late. Second witch, he said he would come. Third witch, he said he would come, but he hasn't. This is my last newt. I saved it for him, and he hasn't come. I think, said Tom John, you all slow down. You know it's Wyrd. No one said it had to sparkle. It could, if I get it just right. You absolutely adore that about the ghost, don't you? Wait, feel the line away made it clear he wasn't. There's nothing wrong with the ghost. The scene with the ghost is the best I've done. I just wonder if it's the right play for it. The ghost stays. Now let's get on, boy. 2 days later, and the ramparts of blue and white wall began to dominate the Hubbard horizon, the company was attacked. There wasn't much drama, just men of the lions on forward, and were resting shade grew trees of suddenly fruited robbers. Well, looked across the line of half a dozen stained and rusty blades. No one seemed slightly uncertain about what to do next. We got our seats somewhere. Tom John nudged him. They look like guilty, as though freelance to me. A nice say leader of the robbers, a black-hearted, swaggering brute with a red headscarf and one gold earring and a chin you could clean pots with. Actually, it'd be fairly compulsory, and in fact this was so. He thought the wooden leg was overdoing, but he obviously studied the role. What do we have here, and do they have any money? We're actors, said Tom John. Thought I answered both questions well. And none of your repartee, said Band. I've been in the city, I have, and the repertoire you see it, and he turned to his followers and cut up right and the next one's going to be witty, and if we're not careful, make a few cutting remarks of my own. There's that sounds behind him until he made an impatient gesture. All right, said the course of uncertain laughter. We'll take any loose change, rivals, food, and clothing. May I say something, said Tom John. The company backed away, and Howell smiled at his own feet. You're going to beg for mercy, are you? That's right. He thrust his hands deep in his pockets over the sky, whistling under his breath and trying not to bring to a manic grin. He was one of the others looking expectantly. He's going to get the mercy speak from a troll's tale, I thought. I just like the point I like to make is that, said Tom, trying to stand between Sally. His voice came deeper, his right hand flung dramatically. The work of a man lies out in the feet of arms of the fire, hunger, the ravening. It's going to be like when a man tried to rise and rob us and stow lasses. Well, he ended up giving us their swords. What the hell can we do with them? It's so embarrassing I start crying. This moment the war went to a green taint, thought I could make out right, just hearing their voices. They're men with swords, Granny. Ringed with glowing braids and marvel words of Tom John. The voice of imagination said, no king of mine is going to be begging you of anyone. You that milk jug, Margaret. The heart, compassion, the kiss. That was a present from my aunt. This jewel of jewels, a crown of crowns. Their sons, 2 of the bands were weeping silently in their hands. And the chief said, is that it? Oh. For the first time, his life in China was nonplussed. Well, yeah, we like me for you. Well, it was a good speech, but I'll see what it has to do with me. I'm a practical man. Hand over your valuables. Unfortunately, the bard seems to have not rolled high enough. This sword came to his level, Tom Jones started, and the rest of you shouldn't be standing like idiots. Come on, the boy gets it. When so the apprentice reached across stand. What? Are you sure you listen carefully, sir? I won't tell you again. You're here to clink of coins, you hear a gurgle. And after they all heard was a whistling noise high near and a crash. The milk jug aside fostered an ice of altitude and dropped out of the sky and stopped the chief's helmet. The remaining bands took one look at the results and fled. They slipped after a recumbent brand. He implied a lump of frozen milk with his boot. Well, he said weakly. You didn't take any notice, was it, Tom John? A born credit, said the dwarf. There was a blue and white jug. Finding little details at a time like this. It's been smashed several times, you could see, because the pieces have carefully glued together again. Someone really loved it. What we're doing with here is a freak whirlwind, obviously. But milk jugs won't just drop out of the sky, said demonstrating the astonishingly human art of denying the obvious. I don't know about that. I heard of fish and frogs and rocks and nothing against crockery. It's just one of those uncommon phenomena. It's happened all the time. There's nothing unusual about it. They got back to carts and roiled in unaccustomed silence. Young Wimslow took every bit of the jug he could and stored him carefully in a pot box and spent the rest of the day watching the sky, hoping for a sugar basin. The lions told up in a dusty slopes and ran tossing near moats and a fiery glass of crystal. Are they alright? Said Margaret. They're wandering all over the place. Maybe good at acting. I have something to learn about traveling. It was a nice jug, Samara. You can't get them like them anymore. I mean, if you set those on your mind, it will have to be a flathead on the shelf. There's more like the milk jugs. It had daisy powder on top. Granny in order. I think it's time to take a look at the new king close up. She cackled. You cackled, Granny. I did not. It was a chuckle. I had a black owl. She used to cackle. You want to watch if you don't end the same way she did today from the secret file. She went a bit funny to finish, poisoned apples and such like. Just because I may have chuckled a bit roughly, she felt that she was being unduly defensive. Anyways, nothing wrong with cackling. In moderation. I think, said Tom John, that we're lost. While I looked at the baking purple and memorial around them, stretched up the towering spires of the ramtops themselves. Even the highest summit are pendants of snow flying from highest peaks. There's a landscape of describable beauty. The bees are busy, plus, or at least endeavoring to look and sound busy in the thime of the trackside. Cloud shadows flickered across the alpine meadows, and there's a kind of big empty sounds made by an environment that not only doesn't look like Have people in it, but doesn't need them either. Or signpost. Yes, describable beauty is much better than indescribable beauty, and I do love it too. It makes so much sense. We were lost 10 miles ago. There's gotta be a new word for where we are now. Usually the mountains are honeycomb and dwarf-fine, so Dwarf could tell when he was where he was in the mountains. Underground, it's all the strata and rock, and on the surface, all the landscape gets in the way. We could dig you a hole. But it was a nice day as the road meandered through clumps of hemlock and pine outposts of the forest, so it was pleasant enough to let the mules go at their own pace. The road, Willfeld, had to go somewhere. This geological fiction has been the death of many people. Roads don't necessarily have to go anywhere, they just have to have somewhere to start. We are lost, aren't we? Certainly not. Where are we then? The mountains, perfectly clear on the atlas. We gotta stop and ask someone. Tonjon gazed around the rolling countryside. Somewhere a lonely curlew howled, or possibly as a badger. He'd been a little hazy on rural matters, at least it took place higher in the limestone layer. There wasn't another human being for miles. What'd you have in mind? He said sarcastically. The old woman with the funny hat, he's like, I've been watching her. She's ducking out behind a bush when she thinks I've seen her. He well turned to look at a bramble bush and wobbled. Ho there, good mother. The bush sported an indignant head. Whose mother? Just the figure of speech, Miss Mistress, said Greenwood. Like some poor old woman gathering firewood, she had defiantly. Look, she went on, you gave me a right fright, young master, my poor old heart. There was silence, and the gentleman said, I'm sorry? What? Your poor old heart? What? What about my poor old heart? Said Greenwood. You sound like an old woman, had a very limited repertoire. But traditionally, young heirs senior just need to help from mysterious old women, and you went with the book tradition. It's just that you mentioned it. Well, it's important, Locks. I expect you're looking for Langquire, so in order to get to the point. Well, yes, all day. You come too far. Go back 2 miles and make a trek on the right past the stand of pines. Well, when you meet a mysterious lady in the wood, you gotta offer to share your lunch or help them across the river. You have? It's terribly bad luck not to. With a light smile. Would you like to share a lunch, good old ma'am? She looked doubtful. What is it? Salt pork. She shook her head. I think it's all the same, but it gives me wind. She turned on her heel and saw for the bushes. We could help you cross the river if you like. What river? We're on a moor. There can't be a river for miles. You gotta get them on your side so then they help you. Perhaps we could ask her away while we look for one, said a little sourly. They found the turning, led to a forest crisscross as many tracks to the marching road. The art of sort of forest so the back of your head tells you a tree to turn around to watch you. Despite the heat of the day, a dank and impenetrable gloom hovered along the tree trunks. Much of crime of track has been seen to obliterate completely. They were soon lost again, decided being lost somewhere you didn't know was where you were was even worse than being lost in the open. She could have given more explicit directions. Let's ask the next crone. Look over there. Who there, old good? He answered. Mari pushed back her shawl. Just a humble wood gatherer, she snapped. She held up a twig for proof. Several hours waiting with nothing but trees taught to it and improved her temper. Winslow nudged Chandra, nodded and fixed his face in a greeting smile. Would you care to share our lunch, old good what, miss? It's only salt pork, I'm afraid. Meat is horribly bad for a digestive system, Margaret. If you could see the inside of your colon, you'd be horrified. I think I would, Margaret. Well. Did you know an adult male carries up to 5 pounds of undigested red meat in his intestines at all times? Some artists and board lectures on nutrition have been known to cause whole families to hide in the cellar until she went away. There's pine kernels and sunflower seeds. There aren't any rivers on you need helping over there, said Tommy desperately. Don't be silly, I'm just a humble wood gatherer, Locks, carrying a few trees and mayhap directing lost travelers on the road to Lancashire. Ah, I thought we'd get to that. You fork up left ahead and turn right at the big stone on a crack. You can't miss it. Fine, well, we won't keep you. I'm sure you got a lot of wood to collect. She whistled the mules on the plot again, grumbling to himself. When an hour later, track ran along a landscape of house-sized boulders, he landed on the reins, carefully folded his arms on the stair at him. What do you think you're doing? Waiting, said Dwarf. It's getting dark soon. We won't be here long. Eventually, they all gave up and came out behind a rock. It's all salt pork, understand, and we'll take it or leave it, okay? Now, which way's Lancashire? Keep on, left at the ravine, you pick up the track that leads to the bridge. You can't miss it. Weld grabbed his reins. You forgot with the Locks. Bugger. Sorry, Locks. And your humble wood gatherer spec. Spot on, lad. Just about to make a start, as a matter of fact. I'm talking about nudged to the dwarf. You forgot the river. Oh, yes, and you wait here, we'll go and find a river. Help you across. She gave a bright smile. There's a perfectly good bridge, but I wouldn't say no to a lift. Move over. Well's irritation, Naomi hitched up her skirt and scrambled on board and centered herself between Tonga and dwarf, and twisting like an oyster knife until she occupied half the seat. You mentioned salt pork. There won't be any mustard, would there? No. Can't buy it without condiments in any conversation. Pass it over anyway. Winslow worse handed over the basket holding the troop's supper. She lifted the lid and gave a crinkle of assessment. There's cheese in there a bit off. It ain't eating out quick. Less than a leather bottle. Beer, said Tom John, fresh second well in the presence of mind to say water. Pretty weak stuff, said Nanny eventually. She pulled her apron hard for a tobacco pouch. Has anyone got a light? A couple after those funnels and matches. I put the pouch away. Good. Now, has anyone got tobacco? Half an hour later, the lads rumbled over the Linklier Bridge, over across some outlying farmlands and through the forest and made up most of the kingdom. This is it? Well, not all of us, said Granny, but merely expecting, we were expecting rather more enthusiasm. There's a lot more behind the mountains over there, but this is all the flat part. You call us flat? Flattish, but the air is good, and there's a palace up there offering us same views as the surrounding countryside. You mean forest. You'll like it here, she said encouragingly. Yes, I noticed. Oh, wait, that's how many pages there are? So we're 30 more. Okay, we're running a little late, but I think I'll just go ahead and finish it up if there's only that much more. And thank you for checking, Sensei. That's very helpful because I was starting to get concerned. She thought about this. She spent her life inside the boundaries of Linklier. It always seemed about the right size for her. And Bijou, she said, handy for everywhere. Everywhere where? She gave up. Everywhere close. Well, said nothing. The air was good, rolling down the inclinable slopes and ran top like a sinus wash, tinted with turpentine from the high forest. They passed over the gateway into what was up here probably called a town. Because the colony decided become decided and down the plains is just qualify as an open space. There's an inn, said Tom John doubtfully. Overall's gaze. Yes, there probably is. When are we going to do the play? I don't know. I noticed that there's about the castle and say we're here. Who'll say the king or whoever want to see the script? Tom John looked around Linklier town. It seemed peaceful enough, the only kind of place likely to run actors out at nightfall and need the population. This is the capital city of the kingdom. Well-designed streets, you'll notice. Street, cried Grant. In a house are quite good repair. Stones throw from the river. Throw. Drop. Neat men's look and extensive. Now we come to entertain a town, not buy it. She looked sideways at Tom John. Just wanted you to see how attractive it is. You're so excited as you crest well. Now please leave the car. She got some wood together. Logs. Much obliged for us. Naturally climbed down. Meals, skirted well. Tom John nudged him. You gotta be more polite. You never know. It's great. Thank you, good. Oh, she's gone. They come to do a theater, said Nanny, and Granny Rats carried on shelling beans in the sun, much to her annoyance. Well, aren't you gonna say something? Been finding out things, big information, not sitting around making soup, stew. I reckon it's very important, said Sniff Nanny. What kind of theater? They didn't say. Something for the Duke, I think. What's he wanted for? He didn't even say that either. Probably a trick to get in the castle. Very clever idea. You see anything in the carts? Boxes and bundles. They're full of armors and weapons, depend on it. They didn't seem much like soldiers, they're awfully young and spotty. Clever, expect the middle of the play, king will manifest his destiny right where everyone will see him. That sounds lewd. Anyway, good plan. There's another thing, he doesn't seem to like the place much. Of course he does, in his blood. I brought him there a pretty way, he didn't seem impressed. He's awfully suspicious of you, she concluded, probably too overcome to speak, really. He put down the bowl of beans thoughtfully. Have you got any family still working for the castle? Cheryl and Daff up in the kitchens. Good, I'll work with Margaret, I think she should see this theater. Perfect, said the Duke. Thank you, Zola. You got exactly spot on about that dreadful incident. You might have almost been there. You weren't worried, silly fellow, leaning forward. I just used my imagination, Will Hurley. The Duchess Clara, expecting his imagination, considering himself lucky, wouldn't be driving up the courtyard displaying himself to 4 angry horses in a length of chain. Exactly right, said Dunkley, one leaping one hand leaped through the pages. It's exactly how it was. Will have been, said the Duchess. He turned her page. You're in this too. Amazing as word how I'm going to remember it. I see you got death in this too. All these populars and well, people expect it. How soon can you act it? Stage it, corrected Wellnat. We try it out as soon as you like, and we can get it away from here, he said to himself, away from your eyes like 2 raw eggs and his feet on a mountain in a red dress and his castle like a magnet for the wind. This is not going down as one of my best plays, I know that much. How much did we say we were going to pay you? I think you mentioned another 100 silver pieces. Worth every penny, said the Duke. Well, if Hurley for a Duchess can start to bargain, he would gladly pay something to be out of his place. How can anyone like a kingdom like this? The fool waited in the meadow by the lake. He stared wistfully at the sky and wondered where the hell Margaret was. This was, she said, their place. If like a few dozen cows will share the moment didn't appear to make any difference. She was up in a direct green dress and a filthy temper. Well, this is all about play. He said, and well, aren't you glad to see me? Well, yes, of course, now it's play. My lord was saying to convince you he's the rightful king, himself mostly. And that's what he wanted to say? Yes, it's disgusting. Would you prefer the Duchess approach? She just thinks we ought to kill everyone. She's good at that sort of thing, and we'll be fighting unless people die. This way may be easier. Oh, where's your spunk, man? Pardon? Don't you want to die nobly for a just cause? Well, I'd rather live quietly for once. It's all the same to you. You can do what you like, but I'm circumscribed. Margaret sat down beside him. Find out what the play, grinning at Wyrd. Go and talk to that jingling friend of yours. He's very loyal. You might not tell me anything. And Granny said, this isn't the time for half measures. You got to seduct him. Seduct? Where's this play going to be then? Mary, I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you. No. Thankfully not. I'm not sure what I'll tell you. Duke sent me, said don't tell the witches that's tomorrow night. I shouldn't then. At 8 o'clock, I see. But meet for Sherry Warren at 7:30, I fate. I suppose you shouldn't tell me who is invited. That's right, most of the dignitaries understand I'm not telling you this. And that's right. But I think you have the right to know what it is you're not being told. Good point. There's still a little gate in your back that leads to the kitchens, the one that's left unguarded? Yes. Oh, we hardly ever guard it these days. Maybe someone guarding around 8 o'clock? Well, I might be there. Good. He brushed away the wet nose of an inquisitive cow. The Duke will be expecting you. You said said we weren't to know. I said I mustn't tell you. He said I mustn't tell you. I said they'll come anyway. I hope they do. Strange, really. Seemed in a very good mood. Can I see you after the show? Is that all he said? Oh, there's something about showing the witches their future? I didn't understand. I'd really like to see after the show, you know. I think I might be washing my hair. Excuse me, I really ought to be going. Yes, but I bought you this present, he said vaguely, watching her parting figure. He sighed as she disappeared between trees, looked down at the necklace wound tightly between his nervous fingers. He wanted to hand to admit it was tasteless, the sort of thing she liked, all silver and skulls. It cost him too much. Now listen, the cow, misled by his horn, somehow stuck its tongue in his ear. Ah, it's true the fool thought witches do unpleasant things to people sometimes. Honestly, that's kind of cute. Cows are cute. They're very cute food. Tomorrow night came and the witches went by a roundabout route to the castle with considerable reluctance. If he wants us to be there, I don't want to go. He's got some plan. He's using headology on us. There's something up, said Mari. Has men set fire free cottages in our village last night. He always does that when he's in a good mood. New sergeants are quick to the matches, too. Our Dashley saw the actors practicing this morning, said. Our Naomi was carrying a bag of walnuts and a little bottle which rose a pretty sharp smell. She saw us all shouting and stabbing, and then wondering who done it in long bits of people muttering themselves in loud voices. Actors, said Grant witheringly, is that the world wasn't full enough history on inventing more. They shout so loud, too, saying you can hardly hear yourself talk. She's also carrying deep in her pocket a lump of haunted castle rock. The king was getting in free. And Ray nodded, but she thought it was going to be worth it. She had a fancy of Tom John had in mind, but an inbuilt sense of drama assured the boy would be bound to do something important. She wanted to leap off the stage and stab a duke to death, and realized she was hoping like hell he would. All hail what's name, she said under his breath, who would be king hereafter. Let's get a move on, said Granny. Well, the sheriff will be gone. The fool was waiting despondently inside a little wicket gate. His face brightened saw Margaret and frozen in an expression of polite surprise he saw Lyra too. There's not gonna be trouble, is there? He said. I don't want there to be trouble. Please. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, said Graham regally, sweeping past. Watch that jingle bells, said an A.M. elbowing the man in ribs. I hope you haven't been keeping your girl here up late at night. Maybe, said Margaret, shocked. The fool gave a terrified, angry, and rictus of young men everywhere and confronted by importunate elderly women commenting on their intimately personal lives. The witch's bird past, the fool grabbed Margaret's hand. I know we can get a good view, he has said. She has said, it's all right. You'll be perfectly safe with me. Yes, I will, won't I? Said, trying to look where the hours had gone. They're staging a play in a big courtyard. We've got a lovely view on the gate towers, and no one else will be there. I put up some wine in there for us and everything. Aw, that's sweet. Well, she spoke reluctantly, said, there's a cistern of water and a fireplace to dart you sometimes, in case you want to wash your hair. The castle's full of people staying around polite, sheepish way affected people who see each other all day and now see each other in an unusual social circumstance like an office party. The witches passed on and remarked them on and found seats and a row of benches in the main courtyard set before the hastily assembled stage. Laying on Gwainer box bag and walnuts at Granny. Want one? An older man in Lancashire shut past her and pointed politely to a seat to her left. Is anyone sitting there? Yes, said Granny. No one remembered tracking the rest of the benches who were filling up fast and down to a clearly empty space in front of him. He shut his robes and turned expression. I think since the play is commencing, starting friends with sign of line sealed to where when they arrived, he said and sat down. Within minutes his face went white, his teeth began to chatter, he clutched at his stomach and groaned. I told you, said Nanny, she lurched away. What's good at asking if you're not going to listen? She leaned toward the empty seat. Walnut? No, thank you, said King Burns, by a special hand. They go right through me, you know. Pray, gentles all, list to our tale. What's this, hissed Granny? Who's that fellow in tights? He's the prologue, and you have to give him at the beginning so everyone knows what the play's about. Can't understand a word of it. What's a gentle, anyway? A type of maggot. That's nice, isn't it? Hello, maggots. Welcome to the show. Puts people in a nice frame of mind, doesn't it? There's a chorus of shh. The walnuts are damn soft, said Grace, laying on her hand. I'm going to take off my shoe for this one. Grace had an unaccustomed trouble silence trying to listen to the prologue. The theater worried her. It had a magic of its own when it didn't belong to her, when it wasn't under control. It changed the world and set things that are otherwise than they were. And it was worse than that, as magic didn't belong to magical people. It was commanded by ordinary people who didn't know the rules. They altered the world because it sounded better. I guess the that would be dangerous. But personally, I have nothing but respect for the theater myself. Anyway, the Duke and Duchess sitting in their thrones right in front of the stage. As Granny glared at them, the Duke half turned and she saw a smile. I don't want the world the way it is, she thought. I want the past the way it is. The past used to be a lot better than it was now. The band shook up. A well appeared around a pillar and sat on a whimsical embracing hollowed out in the glare of torches. An old man, an elder, what hath befell the land? 'Tis a terror. The dwarf watched him for descending from the wings as lips moved silently, and he scuttled back to the guard room. When the rest of the castle still in the last hazy steps stage of dressing, he heard the stage manager's traditional scream of rage. Come on, he ordered, and the soldiers, the king and the devil, and the witches, where are the blasted witches? Raging apprentices present themselves. I lost my worth. The cauldron's all full of yuck. There's something living in this wig. Calm down, calm down. It'll be alright, and it'll be alright in a night. This is the night, Hillwell. He snatched him a handful of putty from a makeup table and slammed on a Wyrd like an orange. The offending straw wig was rammed on the horse's head, livestock and all, and the cauldron was briefly inspected and pronounced full of just the right kind of yuck. Nothing wrong in yuck like that. On stage, a guard dropped his shield, bent down, picked it up, and dropped his spear. Well, rolled his eyes off for a silent prayer to any gods might be right, watching. This is already going wrong. Daily hustles under little teething troubles, but hell will know if you've known one or two monumental horrors in his time. This one's shaping up to be the worst. The company is more jittery than a pot full of lobsters. On the corner of his ear, he heard the onstage dialogue falter and scurried to the wings. Avenge the terror thy father's death, he hissed, and hurried back to the trembling witches. He groaned. Never is alarm. Sislaw is going to be terrorizing a kingdom. He had about a minute before the cue. Now, what are you? You're evil hags, right? Yes, so well. Tell me what you are. We're evil hags, well, louder. We're evil hags. He saw the length of the quickened line and turned to the left. And what are you going to do? The same one scratched his crawling wig. We're going to curse people in the script? I can't hear you. We're going to curse people. Like, we're paying attention and staring straight ahead to avoid his gaze. What are you? We're hags, well. What kind of hags? We're black and midnight hags. What kind of black and midnight hags? Evil black and midnight hags. Are you scheming? Yeah. Are you secret? Yeah. He turns up his full height, such as, what are you? We're scheming, evil, secret, black midnight hags. Right. He pointed a vibrating finger to a stage and lowered his voice a moment. Dramatic inspiration died through the atmosphere and slanted and creamed because I say, now I want you to get out there and give him hell. Not for me, for I'm the goddamn captain. He shoved a bum and North matching cigar in one mouth to the side of the other, and pushed back a non-existent tin hill and rest, but for Corporal Walski and his little dog. They stared at him in disbelief. On cue, someone shook a sheet of tin and broke the spell. He rolled his eyes. He grew up on mountains of thunderstorms streaked from peak to peak on legs of lightning. Here are thunderstorms that left mountains of different shape and flattened forests. Somehow a sheet of tin wasn't the same on how enthusiastically he was shaken. Just once, he thought, just once. Let me get it right just once. He opened his eyes and glared at the witches. What are you hanging around for? Get out there and curse them. He watched him scamper rush straight to Tom John tapped on his head. Well, there's no crown. Is my wrestling of the ways of building thunder and lightning machines. There's no crown. I have to wear a crown. What's the crown? A big one, red glass, very impressive. I think we left it there. There was a tinny roll of thunder, but even so far well as I was living, the play fell to her faltering voice on stage. You guard the wings. I had to smother many a baby, hissed and whispering back. Well, let's just find another one then in the pot box. You're the evil king. You have a crown. Get on with it. You're on in a few minutes. Improvise. Tom John wandered back. He groaned upon crowns, big gold rims made of wooden plasters, set with the finest glass. He cut his teeth on hat brims of authority. Most men left in the disc by now. He pulled out collapsible daggers and skulls and bases, to shroud the ears and right at the bottom. His fingers closed in something thin and crown shape, which no one ever wanted to wear because it looked so uncrownly. It'd be nice to say it tingled in his hand. Maybe it did. Granny was still as a statue, almost as cold. The horror realization was stealing over. That's us, she said, around that silly cauldron. It's meant to be us, get ya. Nay, our Hollis is the one that have your gum. She listened. I never shipwrecked nobody. They must just say I shipwrecked people. I never did. Oh, it's time Margaret over the 4 rooms. Green blush said, "I'm going to stare at the third witch. I don't look like that. I don't do I? Absolutely not. And the hair. He appeared for a coronation like an over-ear gargle. It looked like straw. Not very clean either. He hesitated, picking into the light and stone with his fingers. For he left to say, asked so well for a few simple words, say, young lady, and memorizing on the way home. It was now and never. I'd like to know if I can compare you to a summer day because, well, June 12th is quite nice and... Oh, you've gone. King Vernon gripped the edge of his seat. His fingers went through it. Oh, right, he's a ghost. Tom John is sure on the stage. That's him, isn't it? Isn't that my son? Then cracked one knife over Renee out his fingers and rolled to the floor. She nodded. First turned a haggard, transparent face toward her. What's he doing? What's he saying? Renee shook her head, and the king listened to his mouth open as Tom John lurching crab-wise and launched into his major speech. I think he's meant to be used to Nay, but I've never walked with that. Why's he got a hump on his back? What happened to his leg? He listened to some more in horrified tones. I never did any of that, or that. What's he saying? I did that. The look he gave Nay was full of pleading, and she shrugged. The king reached up, lifted off his spectral crown, and examined it. And that's my crown he's wearing. Look, this is it. He's saying all that. I did all those. He paused a minute, listened to the last couplet. Alright, maybe I did do that. I did set fire to a few cots, but everyone does that. It's for the building industry anyway. Honestly, it kind of has a point. I mean, if you run out of room for buildings, they can't really make more of them. So, that's honestly the thing people actually do. Like, they knock down buildings that aren't used anymore. But, anyway. He put the ghostly crown back on his head. What's he saying all this about me? It's art. It's what's his name? Hold of a mirror to life. My brain touched slowly see look at the eyes. Their standard forms, their faces wrapped. The words washed over them in breathless air. This was real. This is more real than reality. This was history. It might not be true, but that had nothing to do with it. She never had such time for words. They were so substantial, but now she wished she'd found the time. Words were unsubstantial, but they were soft as water and they could be as powerful as water now, rushing over, eroding the levees of veracity and carrying away the past. That's us down there, she thought. Everyone knows who we really are, but things down here, they're what they'll remember. We gibbering old baggage isn't what he has. That's all we ever done, all we ever been, won't exist anymore. She went to go to the king. Well, he'd been no worse than any other. He might have burnt down the odd cottage, and perhaps in my way, but only when he was really angry, and he could give it up any time he liked. Whenever he wounded the world, he was kind of wounds that healed. Whoever this theater knew about the use of magic, except I believe what's happening, and I know there's no truth in it. Even I believe what's happening, and I know there's no truth. It's art holding up a mirror to life, but that's why everything is exactly the wrong way around. We've lost, and nothing we can do is that's just exactly what we aren't. I gave her a violent nudge in her ribs. Did you hear that one? So we put babies in a cauldron. We don't slander on me. I'm not saying her so we put babies in a cauldron. Rain grabbed her shawl and tried to stand up. Don't do anything, make things worse. Did you deliver by babe, they said. That'll be young Millie Mithelpotty didn't dare tell her mom, and when I got firewood, I was up all night with that one. Fine girl she produced. It was a slander. That's a draft. Words, that's all it's left, she said after herself. Words. And that was when I had the trumpet on. What's he gonna do? Oh, into Act 1. The words won't be forgotten, Bugray. They have a power to them. They're damn good words as words go. There's gonna rattle of thunder and then with a kind of crash. Yeah, it's only words, but the words are more powerful than they seem. Words hurt far more than they think, because they don't leave surface wounds. They injure your soul. Anyway. There's another rattle of thunder and with a kind of crash made for example by a sheet of tin escaping from someone's hands and hitting the wall. And we're outside the stage, a heat pressed down on your pillow, squeezing the very life out of the air. You saw a footman bend down Duke's ear. No, he won't stop the play. Of course he won't. He wants it to run its course. The Duke must have felt the heat to her gaze. He turned, focused on her, gave her a strange little smile. They nudged his wife, and they both laughed. Rainy was often angry. She considered it one of her strong points. Genuine anger is one of the world's greatest forces. But you had to learn to control it. That didn't mean you let it trickle away. That meant you damned it. Carefully let it develop a working head, let it drown whole valleys of the mind, and then just when all was about to collapse, open a tiny pipeline at the base and let the iron-hard stream of wrath power the turbines of revenge. I heard the land below. She felt the land below her nose. Even through Celestia foundations, flagstones, one thickness, a layer, and two thicknesses, a sock. She felt it waiting. She heard the king say, "My own flesh and blood, why has he done this to me? I'm going to confront him." She only took Naog's hand. "Come, Githya." Orphan stepped back in his stone and beamed madly toward what was looking good to him right at this moment. When things were working out better than he dared to hope, he felt them pass melting behind like the ice in a spring thaw. Unimpulsive on foot back. Call the captain of the guard and tell him to find the witches and arrested them. The Duchess snorted. Remember what happened last time, foolish man? We left two of them on the loose. This time, all three. The tide of public feeling is on our side. That sort of thing affects witches depend on it. The Duchess cracked her knuckles in care view of public opinion. You must admit, my treasure, the experiment seems to be working. It would appear so. Very well, don't just stand there, man. Before our play ends, tell him those witches will be under lock and key. Death adjusted his cardboard skull in front of his mirror and twitched his cowl into a suitable shape, stood back and considered the general effect. This will be his first speaking part. He wanted to get it right. Cower now, brief mortals, for I am death against who will gain against whom no? Oh, good grief, Dave. Gain against whom no lock will hold, nor fasten portal will bar. I always only have difficulty with, not that way up, you idiots. He showed for the back stage in Malay and pursued a pair of unfortunate scene shifters. Right, said Death, no one particularly turned back to the mirror. Gain against no tummy tum, nor tumpy bar. He suddenly forced his scythe. The end fell off. In the end, you think I'm fierce enough? He said he fixed on again. Tom tried sitting on his hump and trying to drink some tea and encouraging nod. No problem, my friend. Prepared to visit from you, even death itself will hold no fears. But you could try a bit more hollowness. How do you mean? Tom put on his cup. Shadows seemed to move across his face. His eyes sank, his lips turned back over his teeth, his skin stretched and paled. I have come to get you, you terrible actor. He intoned every syllable in place like a coffin lid. His features sprang back into shape, like that. David would find himself against the wall, relaxing, giving a nervous scale. Gods, I don't know how you do it. Honestly, I'll never be as good as you. There ain't anything to it, not wrong. Well, it's fit to be tied as it is. David gave him a look of gratitude and ran off to help with the scene shifting. Tom John sipped his tea uneasily. The backstage room was whirring around with so much fog. He was worried. Who else said that everything about the play was fine except for the play itself? He kept thinking the play itself was trying to force itself to a different shape. His mind kept hearing other words too faint of hearing, almost like eavesdropping on a conversation. He had to shout more to drown out the buzzing in his head. This wasn't right. Let's play as written. It was, well, written. It didn't come alive and start twisting itself around. No wonder everyone needed prompting. The play was writhing under her hands, trying to change itself. Ye God, he was glad to get out of spooky castle away from this mad duke. He glanced around to decide it'd be sometime before the next act was called and wandered aimlessly in search of fresher air. The door yielded under his touch and he set out into the battlements. He pushed it shut behind him, cutting off the sound of stage and replacing it in the velvet hush. There's a livid sunset of prison behind cloud bars of cloud, but the air was still still as a mill pond high as a furnace, and the forest below some night bird screamed. He walked the air in the battlements and peered down at the sheer depths of the gorge. Far beneath the Lancashire bold in its eternal mist. He turned and walked toward a draft of much icy coldness. He gasped. An unusual breeze plucked at his clothing. There was a strange muttering in his ear that someone was trying to talk to him but couldn't get the speed right. He stood rigid, getting his breath and fled for the door. But we're not witches. Why you look like them then? Tied our hands like. But excuse me, we're really not witches. The captain of the guard looked from face to face, and face looking at pointy hats, the disordered hair swelling his own handsets, a sickly green complexion, and a herd of warts. The guard for a duke wasn't a job that offered long-term prospects to those who used initiative. 3 witches were called for, and they seemed to fit the bill. He never went for a theater. When he was at a rack of Alice, since he badly frightened by Punch and Judy show and since taking pains to avoid organizing entertainment kept away from anywhere crocodiles could conceivably be expected. He spent the last hour enjoying a quiet drink in the guard room. I said tie their hands, didn't I? If they're not witches, they're apple sellers. I said tie their hands, didn't I? Shall I gag them as well? But if you just listen or with the theater, yes, he said, shuddering, gag them. Please, he leaned down and stared at the 3. That is the last time you'll eat anyone's sausage. He was wearing out soldiers gave him an odd look as well. He called us together. Well then, my theatrical witches, you've done your show, and now it's time for your applause. He nodded his men, clapped them in chains. Alright, that was good. That was a good line. He did a good job there. Too bad he's avoiding the theater because that's a good line. The 3 other witches sat in the gloom behind the stage, staring vaguely in darkness. Green rise up to the copy of strippers, she quivered in time down, seeking ideas. Divers, alarms, and excursions, Westerly. That means a lot of terrible happenings among her. You put that a lot in place. Alarms and what? Said Naomi, who'd been listening. Excursions. Oh, she brightened a bit. The seats ought to be nice. Do shut up, Githia. They're not for you. I mean for divers, like it says. Probably so they can recover all in alarms. We can't let this happen, said Margaret quickly and loudly. This gets about witches being always the old hags with a green blush, and meddling in affairs of Kingston, name, which we never do, as is well known. Not the meddling I object to, it's the evil meddling. And the unkindness of animals, Margaret, also about eye of dog and ear of toe, no one using that kind of stuff. They avoid each other's faces. Draves, said Naomi bitterly. Witches just aren't like us, Margaret. They live in harmony with the great cycles of nature, do no harm to anyone, and it's wicked them to say we don't. We all fill their bones with hot lead. We charge somehow surprised admiration. She blushed, although not greenly, looked at her knees. Goody whimpered at a recipe. It's quite easy. What you do is you get some lead and you... I don't think that would be appropriate, said Granny carefully. Had a certain amount of internal struggle and give you the wrong idea. But not for long, said Granny wistfully. No, we can't have that sort of thing. We'd never hear the last of it. Why don't we just change the words and then come back on stage and we just put the fluence on this and forget what they're saying, give them some new words. I suppose you're an expert in theater words, said Granny, so I think that to be a proper sort of people suspect. Shouldn't be difficult. I've been studying it. You go Tumpty, Tumpty, Tumpty. What even? You know what that means. There's more to it than that, I believe. Some of the speeches are good. I couldn't understand hardly any of it. There's no trick to it at all, Dane August says. Anyway, half of forgetting our lines as is. It'll be easy. We can put words in our mouth. I don't know about new words, but I can forget these words. The Grand Rise, and she shrugged. I suppose it's worth a try. Which is as yet unborn will thank us for it, said Margaret urgently. Oh, good. At last, we'd be playing of it, looking for you forever. We just started seeing irate Jordan and Luna. Us, but we're not in. Oh, yes, you remember we put it on last week. Act 2, downstage in the college, and you haven't gotten to say anything. You're symbolizing a cult force so far. Just be as weak as you can. Come on, there's good lads. You've done well so far. Well, slap Margaret on the bottom. Good complexion you got there, Wilf, he said encouragingly, but I agreed to use a bit more padding. You still got the wrong shape. Fine warts there, Bill, I must say. You look like a bunch of nasty hides of body you can hook a clap eyes on. Well done. Shame out the wigs. Now run along. Curtain in 1 minute. Break a leg. He had Margaret and her a slap on the rump, slightly starting his hand, and hurried off to shout at someone else. None of them dared speak. Margaret and Naomi found themselves instinctively looking toward the gang. She sniffed, she looked up, she looked around, she looked the bright lit stage behind her. She brought her hands together with a clap that echoed around the castle and rubbed together. Useful, she said grimly. Now let's do the show right here. And he squinted after Hibble. Break your own legs, she muttered. Hibble stood at the wings and gave the signal for the curtains and the thunder. It didn't come. Thunder, he hissed in a voice heard by half the audience. Get on with it. A voice of mine and ears pure will. I went and bent the thunder. Well, it goes clunk, clunk. Well, looked aside for a moment, counting. The company watched him also, but unfortunately, thunder shook. He raised his fist up in the sky and said, I want a storm. Just a storm. Not even a big storm. Any storm. Now I want to make myself absolutely clear. I've had enough. I want thunder right now. I probably should have done that, but I just wanted to be dramatic. The stab of lightning answered him turned the multi-huge shadows of the castle in a blinding white into searing black, as followed by a roll of thunder on cue. It was the loudest noise Will had ever heard. It seemed to start inside his head and work outward. It went on, shaking every stone in the castle. Dust rained down. A distant turn broke away with a balletic slowness and tumbled off gently into hungry depths of the gorge. When it finished, let the silence ring like a bell. He looked up at the sky. Black clouds were blowing across the castle, blowing out the stars. The storm was back. It spent ages learning its craft. It spent years lurking in distant valleys. It practiced for hours in front of a glacier. It studied the great storms of the past and honed its art to perfection. And now, with what it could see was clear, an appreciative audience waiting for it was going to take them by, well, tempest. The well smiled. Perhaps the gods did listen after all. He originally asked for a really good wind machine as well. I don't know, but I know we're very close to the end, so I am just going to wrap this up. We're not too much more. He gestured frankly at Tom John. Get on with it. The boy nodded and watched his main speech. And now our dominion is complete. Bottom of stage of which has been over cauldron. It's just tin, this one's full of yuck. On the fire is just red paper. It's so real out there. It's just red paper. Look, you can poke it. Never mind, said Granny. Look busy and wait until I say. As a good king, evil king, a good doing exchange, it went up leading the deciding duel scene and began the weird activity behind him, people chuckles in the audience. After a totally appropriate burst of laughter, Tom John risked a glance. One of the witches taking their fire to bits, another was trying to clean the cauldron, and a third one was sitting with arms folded, glaring at him. The very soil cries out tyranny, said Winslow, and it caught the expression of Tom John's face and all his gaze. And calls me for vengeance, prompted Tom John hopefully. But Mr. Winslow pointed, tried to point Sir definitely with his dagger. I wouldn't be seen dead with a cauldron like this today. I'm going to whisper loud to carry the back of the courtyard. 2 days' work with a sour and its bucket of sand is this. And calls me for her vengeance, hissed Tom John. Out of the tail of his eyes along the wings, frozen in an attitude of incoherent rage. How do they make it flicker? Be quiet, you two, you're saying people. He raised her hat to Winslow. Go ahead, young man, don't mind us. Well, I expect it calls for vengeance, does it? Said Tom John in desperation. And heaven's cry revenge too, I expect. On cue, the storm produced a thunderbolt that blew the top off another tower. The dude crashed in his seat and his face a panorama of fear. He was standing with a finger. There they are. That's them. What are they doing in my play? Who said they could be in my play? The Duchess, less inclined to reveal rhetorical questions, beckoned near scarred. On stage, Tom John was sweating under a load of script. Whistle was incoherent. Now Gumridge, who was playing the part of the good Duchess, lost the thread as well. Ah, thou hast called me an evil king, though thou whisperest none save I may hear, Tom John croaked, and thou hast summoned the guard, possibly with some secrets and ritual, owing not to artificial lips or tongues. A guard can crab-wise so fumbling from who will shove. He stared at me with eyes. Who else knows what's going on? What was that, said Tom John? Did I hear you say, I come, my lady? Get these people off, he says. Tom John advanced up on the stage. Thou babblest, man. See how I dodged? I toward a spear. I said, see how I dodged? I toward a spear. Thy spear, man. You're holding in thy bloody hand, for goodness sake. Tom John hesitated, and the guard gave him a desperate frozen grin. 3 other actors around were staring fiercely at the witches. Whom in front of them was all inevitability of attacks to him as a sword fight, during which it would be to appear he would have to parry his own wild thrust and stab himself to death. He turned to 3 witches, his mouth open. For the first time in his life, an awesome memory let him down. He could think of nothing to say. Grandmother stood up. She advanced on the edge of the stage. The audience all expressed. She held up a hand. Ghosts of mine and all devices give away a bid truth to have. Yes, did. It's Tumpty Day. Tom John felt a chill engulf, and the air sewer jolted to life. All from the depths of their blank minds new words hushed, words red with blood and revenge, words that had echoed along the castle stone, words stored in silicon, words that would have themselves heard, words that gripped their mouths so tightly and attempted to not say, resulting in a broken jaw. Do you fear him now? So Gumridge, as he so amazed a drink. Take his dagger, husband. Your blade's within the kingdom. I dare not, Winslow said, trying to look at astonishment from his own lips. Who will know? Gumridge said, waving hands toward the odds. He never acts so well again. See, there's only the eyeless knight. Take the dagger now. Take the kingdom tomorrow. Have a stab at it, man. Winslow's hand shook. I have it, wife. Is this a dagger I see before me? Of course it's a bloody dagger. Come on, do it now. The weak deserve no mercy. We'll save out on the stairs. But people will suspect. Are there no dungeons? Are there no pillywinks? Possession is 9/10 parts of the law, husband, when what you possess is a knife. Oh, that's good. Wimsel drew his arm back. I cannot. He has been kindness itself to me, and you can be death itself to him. Dave could hear voices a long way off. He adjusted his mask, checked the deathliness of his appearance, a mirror, and peered at the script in an empty backstage room. Coward now, breathed Morazan. I am death against who? Against who? Whom? Oh, thanks. Against whom no block may hold. Will hold. Will hold nor fasten mortal bar here to take my tally on a night of kings. He said, "You're so much better. You got the right voice and you remember the words. It's only 3 lines will have my guts or." He froze, his face whitened, and 2 saucers of death as death snapped his fingers in front of his rigid face. Forget, he commanded, and turned and stalked silently toward the wings. His eyeless skull took in the line of costumes of waxy debris at the makeup table. His empty nostrils stuffed up the mixed smells of mothballs, grease, and sweat. There was something here he thought that nearly belonged to the gods. Humans build a world inside a world reflected in pretty much the same way as a drop of water reflects the landscape. And yet, inside this little world, they had taken pains to put all the things you might think they want to escape from. Hatred, fear, tyranny, and so forth. Death was intrigued. He thought they wanted to be taken out of themselves, every art humans dreamed up. Oh yeah, I can snap my fingers. It's something you gotta practice too, I think. I used to be pretty horrible at it when I was younger. And every art human dreamed up took themselves further in. He was fascinated. He was here for a very particular and precise purpose. There's a soul to be claimed. There was no time for inconsequentialities. But what was time after all? His feet did a little involuntary clicking dance along the stones. Alone in great shadows, death tap dance. And the next night in your dressing room they hang a star. He pulls them together, adjusts his scythe, and waits silently for his cue. He'd never missed one yet. He was going to get out there and slay them. And you can be death itself to him now. Now, death entered his feet clicking across the stage. Cower now, brief mortals, for I am death against against whom he hesitated for the very first time in his certainty of its existence. For although death of the Discord used to deal with people by the million, at the same time every death is intimate and personal. Death is seldom seen except by those of occult persuasion and his clients themselves, for the reason that no one else saw him is that the human brain is clever enough to edit sights too horrible for it to cope with. But the problem was there was several hundred people expecting to see death and was therefore seeking him. He turned slowly and stared back at hundreds of watching eyes. Even the grip of the truth Tom recognized a fellow author in distress and offered master his lips. Luck will hold, he whispered, with teeth fixed in grimace. He gave a manic grin of stage fright. What? He whispered in a voice like an anvil being hit with a small lead hammer. Luck will hold nor fasten portal. Luck will hold nor fasten portal. Bar. No, I can't do it, so I can all be seen down the hall. Someone watches. There is no one. I feel the stare. Dithering iterate, must I put you in for you? See his foot upon the top stair. And Williams was facing toward fear and uncertainty. He drew back his hand. No! The scream came from the audience. The Duke had half risen seat and tortured knuckles at his mouth. As they watched, he lurched forward between the shocked people. I know. I didn't do that. It's not like that. You can't say it was like that. You were not there. He stared up and raced around and sagged. Nor was I, he giggled. I was asleep at the time, you know. I remember it quite well. There was blood in the counterpane. There was blood in the floor. I couldn't wash off the blood. But these are not proper subjects for inquiry. I'll not allow discussion of national security. It was just a dream. When I woke, he'd be alive tomorrow. And tomorrow, it wouldn't happen because it was not done. And tomorrow, you can say I did not know. And tomorrow, you can say I had no recollection. What a noise he made in falling, enough to wake the dead. Who would have thought he had so much blood in him? By now he climbed on the stage and grinned brightly to some company. I hope that sorts it all out. In the silence of all, Tom John opened his mouth to utter something soothing, found there's nothing he could say. But another personality stepped into him and took over his lips, spoke thusly. With my own bloody dagger, you bastard. I know it was you. I saw you top of the stairs sucking your thumb. I kill you now, except for thought having to spend eternity listening to your whining. I, Vernus, formerly king of testimonies, this said that, stood in front of stage half a dozen soldiers with higher. They're just slayers, she had, and trees in the booth, the rantings and mad players. I was bloody king of Lancashire, in which case you were the alleged victim in order to speak to the prosecution. It's all against precedent. Tom John's body turned to death. You were there. You saw it all. I suspect I would not be considered an appropriate witness. Therefore, there's no proof, and there's no proof, there's no crime, said the Duchess. She motioned the soldiers forward. So much for your spirit, said her husband. I think my way is better. She looked at the stage and found the witches. "Arrest them," she said. "No," said the fool, stepping out of the wings. "What'd you say?" "I saw it all," said the fool simply. "I was in the great hall at night. You killed the king, my lord." "I did not," screamed Duke. "You were not there. I did not see you there. I order you not to be there." "You did not dare say this before," said Lady Foreman. "Yes, lady, but I must say it now." The Duke focused on him. "You swore loyalty to death, my fool." "Yes, my lord." "I'm sorry." "You're dead." The Duke snatched a dagger from Winslow's unresisting hands, therefore, and plunged it into the fool's heart. Margaret screamed. The fool ran back and forth steadily. "Thank goodness, that's over," he said. Margaret pushed her away from the actors and clasped them cheerily what would be called her bosom. It showed the fool he never looked at bosom square lately since he was a baby, and it fairly cooled the world to savor the experience till after he was dead. He moved one Margaret's arm, pulled the despicable horn cowl from his head, and tossed as far as possible. He didn't have to be a fool anymore, he realized, bothered about vows or anything. What with bosoms as well, death seemed to be an improvement. "I didn't do it," said the Duke. "No pain," thought the fool. "Funny that. On the other hand, you obviously can't feel pain when you're dead. It would be wasted." You all saw I didn't do it," said the Duke. On the deck gave the fool a puzzled look, and he reached in a recess of his words and pulled out an hourglass. It had bells on it. He gave a shake which made them tinkle. "I gave no orders for any such thing should be done," said the Duke calmly. His voice came a long way off, wherever his mind was now. The company stared down wordlessly. It wasn't possible to hate someone like this, only feel acutely embarrassed by being anywhere near him. Even a fool felt embarrassed, and he was dead. Death tapped the hourglass and peered as if it had gone wrong. "You're all lying," he said in tranquil tones. "Telling lies is naughty." He stabbed several near his actors in a dreamy way and held the blade. "You see, no blood. It wasn't me." The Duchess tottered around like a red tsunami over a small fishing village. "It was her," he said. "She did it. He stabbed her once on general principle and stabbed himself and dragged her drop from his fingers." After a few seconds' reflection, he said in a voice nearer the world of sanity, "You can't get me now." He turned to Death. "Will there be a comet? There must be a comet where the prince dies. I'll go and see, shall I?" He wandered away. The unspoken applause. You gotta admit he was real royalties in the Yog eventually. You don't go to show royalty goes eccentric far better than the likes of you and me. Death held the hourglass of his skull, his face radiating puzzlements. Whether I picked up the fallen dagger and tested the blade of her finger. It slid in the handle quite easily with a faint squeaking noise. She pressed a name. "There's your magic sword." Murray looked at him back at the fool. "Are you dead or not?" "I must be. I think I'm in paradise," his voice muffled. "No, look, I'm serious. I don't know, but I'd like to breathe. Then you must be alive." "Everyone's alive, said Granny. It's a trick dagger. Actors probably can't be trusted with real ones. After all, they can't even keep a cauldron clean," said Nanny. "Whether everyone's alive or not, matter to me," said Duchess. "As ruler, it's my pleasure to decide. Clearly my husband's lost his wit." She never has orders. "And I decree—" "Now," Cream was whispering in Granny's ear. "Now." Granny stirred herself up. "Be silent, woman. The true king of Lancashire stands before you." She clapped Tom John on the shoulder. "What, him? Who, me?" "Ridiculous, Duchess. He's a mummer of sorts." "She's right, miss. My father runs a theatre in our kingdom. He's a true king, and we can prove it." "Oh, no," said Duchess. "We're not having that. There's no mysterious eternal heirs in this kingdom. Guards, take him." Let's see. Granny waved herself at hand. The soldiers lurched and put their foot in certainly. "She's a witch, isn't she?" said one tenderly. "Certainly," said Duchess. It shifted. "We see where they turn people into," said one, "and then shipwreck them. Yeah, and alarm the divers. Yeah, we ought to talk about this. We ought to get extra for witches." "She could do anything to us. Look, she could even be a drave, even." "Don't be foolish. Witches don't do that. They just tell stories of frighten people." He said, "It looked pretty convincing to me." "Well, of course it did. It was meant to." She sighed and snatched a spear's hand. "I'll show you the power of witches." She hurled at Granny's face. Granny moved her hand to go across the snake by speed and caught it just behind her head. "So," she said, "it comes to this, does it?" "You don't frighten me, weird sister," said Duchess. Granny stared at her in the eye for a few seconds and gave a grunt of surprise. "You're right," she said. "We really don't, do we? You think I incited you for witchcraft's all artifice and illusion to amaze weak minds, almost no fears of me. Do your worst." Granny studied her for a while. "My worst," she said eventually. Margaret and Hawk shuffled gently out of her way. Duchess laughed. "You're clever, I'll grant you that much, and quick. Come on, hag, bring on your toads and demons, I'll—" She stopped, her mouth opening and shutting without many words emerging. Her lips drew back in a rictus of terror, her eyes looking beyond Granny, beyond the world, towards something else. One knuckled hand flew to her mouth and she made a little whimpering noise. She froze like a rabbit that just needs a stout nose. I doubt that it was the last stout it will ever see. "What have you done to her?" said Margaret, the first day to speak. Granny snorted. "Headology. You don't need any Black Alice magic for that." "Yes, but what'd you do?" "No one becomes like she is out building walls inside their head. I just knocked them down. Every scream, every plea, every little pang of guilt and twinge of conscience, all at once. There's a little trick to it." She gave Margaret a condescending smile. "I'll show you one day if you like." She thought about it. "It's horrible. Nonsense. Everyone wants to know their true self, and now she does." Sometimes you have to be kind to be cruel, said Nayar approvingly. I think it's the worst thing that happened to anyone, said Mars, as the Duchess swayed backward and forward. For goodness sake, use your imagination, girl, said Grain. There are far worse things. Needles under our fingernails are one stuff with pliers. We're at knives with the jacksie, said Nayar. Handle first, so you cut your finger trying to pull them out. That's simply the worst I can do. This is simply the worst I can do. It's all right and proper. A witch should act like that, you know. There's nothing for dramatic stuff. Much magic goes on in the head. It's headology. Now, if you'd... A noise like a gas light came to the Duchess's lips. Her head jerked back suddenly. She opened her eyes, blinked, and focused. Sheer hatred suffused her features. Guard, she told him. I told you to take them. Granny Shaw sighed. What? But I showed you your true self. And I'm supposed to be upset by that? As she pressed Granny's arm, Duchess pressed her face closer to Miss eyebrows a V of triumphant hatred. I'm supposed to grovel on the ground when I see exactly what I am to you, Stan. I'm proud of it. I'd do it all again, only hotter and longer. Oh my. I enjoyed it, and I did it because I wanted to. She thumped the vast expanse of her chest. You gawping idiots, you're so weak. You really think people are basically decent underneath, don't you? And the crowd on the stage backed away from the sheer force of her exaltation. Well, I looked underneath. I know what drives people. It's fear. Sheer, deep down fear. There's not one of you who doesn't fear me. I can make you whittle your drawers out of terror, and now I'm going to take. At that point, Naon hit her in the back of the head with the cauldron. She does go on, doesn't she, said conversationally as the Duchess collapsed. She's a bit eccentric, if you ask me. There was a long embarrassed silence, and Grey Wyrd coughed. Then she treated a soldier's woman with a bright friendly smile, pointed to the mound that was now our Duchess. Take her away and put her in a cell somewhere. They snapped to attention, grabbed Duchess by arms, and pulled her upright in considerable difficulty. Gently, mind. She opened her hands again to turn her tom-toms, watching her mouth open. Depend on she is. Here and now, in life, you don't have a choice. You're the king of Lancashire. But I don't know how to be king. We all see you had down just right, doing including the shouting. That's just acting. Act then, being a king is... She snapped her fingers. What do you call them things there's 100 of them in anything? You mean percents? Them. Most of the percents in being a king is acting, if you ask me. I think she means precedent. You ought to be good at it. Looked for help from the wings, or it should have been. The dwarf was in fact there, but he wasn't paying much attention. He had the script in front of him, and he was rewriting it furiously. But I assure you, you're not dead. Take it from me. The Duke giggled. He had found a sheet from somewhere and draped over himself and was sliding along some of the custom more deserted corridors. Sometimes he'd go, ooh, in a low voice. Is he like just squirming along the ground like a dog? Oh god. This worried Death. He used people claiming they're not dead because death is always a shock and people had trouble getting over it. People claiming they were dead with every breath in their body was a new and unsettling experience. I'll jump out of people, said the Duke dreamily. I'll rattle my bones all night. I'll perch on the roof and foretell of death in the house. That's banshees. I will if I only said without a trace of early termination. I'll fruit through walls and knock on tails and drip ectoplasm on anyone I don't like. It won't work. Living people aren't allowed to be ghosts. I'm sorry. The Duke made an successful attempt to float through a wall, gave up, and opened a door in a crumbling section of battlements. The storm had died away, but a thin rind of moon lurked behind the clouds like a ticket out for eternity. Death stopped behind him. Well then, if I'm not dead, why are you here? He jumped to the wall and flapped his sheet. Don't worry, we are literally at the end, I promise you. If I'm not dead, why are you here? He jumped up on the wall and flapped his sheet. Waiting. Wait forever, bone face. I'll hover in the twilight world. I'll find some chains to shake, and I shall. He stepped backwards, lost his balance, landed heavily on the wall, and slid. For a moment, the remnant of his right hand struck out ineffectuated stonework, and then vanished. Death was obviously potentially everywhere at the same time. In one sense, nowhere true to say he was on the balance, picking vaguely onto some particles of glowing metal on the edge of his sight blade. Then he was waist deep in the foaming, rock-toothed waters in the full depths of Lancashire gorge, his cowsford gaze sweeping downward and stopping abruptly at a point where the torrent ran a few treacherous inches over a bed of angular pebbles. I will haunt their corridors, he said, and whisper in the doors on still nights. His voice grew fainter, almost lost the ceaseless roar of the river. I'll make basket chairs creak on what most alarmingly, just you wait and see. Death grinned at him. Now you're talking. It started to rain. Ramtop rain had a curiously penetrative quality that makes ordinary rain seem almost arid. It poured in torrents over the castle roof, somehow seemed to go right through tiles and fill the great hall with a warm, uncomfortable moistness. The hall was crowded half the population of Lancashire. Outside, the rushing rain had even drowned out the distant roar of the river. It soaked the stage, colors ran mingled in the painted backdrop, and one of the curtains sat away from his rail and flopped sadly into a puddle. Inside, Grey Wyrd finished speaking. He forgot about the crown. Ah, the crown. It's on his head, you see. We hit on the crowns after his left, and the reason being no one had looked for it there. See how it fits him perfectly. It was a tribute to her power of persuasion. Everyone did see how perfectly it fitted Tom John. In fact, the only one who didn't was Tom John, so cutely where only his ears were stopping from becoming a necklace. Imagine a sensation you put it on the first time you went on. In fact, there was an eldritch tingling sensation. As a matter of fact, it probably does. Actually, it felt rather big, but no one was listening to him. He shrugged and leaned over. Well, he was still scribbling. Does eldritch mean uncomfortable? He looked down with unfocused eyes. What? Does eldritch mean uncomfortable? No, I shouldn't think so. What does it mean? I don't know. Abalong, I think. His glance turned to his scrawls as though magnetized. Can you remember what he said about all those steps rolls tomorrow? I didn't catch it after that. And there wasn't any need for you to tell everyone I was adopted. That's how it was, you see, said Dwarf vaguely. Let's be honest about these things. Now, did he actually stab her or just accuse her? I don't want to be king. Everyone says I take after Dad. Funny thing, all is taking after people. I mean, if I took after my dad, I'd be 100 feet underground digging rocks, whereas his voice died away. Near the pen as though held an incredible fascination. Whereas what? Aren't you even listening? I know it was wrong when I wrote it. I knew it was wrong for me around. But oh yes, be a king. It's a good job. Seems a lot of competition at any rate. I'm very happy for it. Once you're a king, you can do anything you want. When the face of the Lancashire worthies on the table, the king talking looked like an audience at a fast stock show. They were weighing him up. He crept on in a cold, clammy way. The uncomfortable city of Relay. He crept on a cold, clammy way. Once he was king, he could do everything he wanted, provided what he wanted to do was be king. You could build your own theater, so as I was lining up with as many tractors as you wanted, magnificent costumes. You could act in a new play every night. I mean, I think the discs up there shed. Who come to see me? Everyone. Well, every night. You could order them to. I know he was going to say that, Tom thought. He can't really mean that shit. These guys' play never really existed in this world. He's right now at the moment. He took out the crown and turned it over in his hands. There wasn't much metal to it, but it felt heavy. It wouldn't how heavy it'd be if he wore it all the time. He had a table's empty chair containing he used to assure the ghost to his real father. It'd be nice to report he'd experienced anything there, or when Drew stood an icy sensation and buzzing of the ears. I suppose you'll help father pay off the disc. That'd be nice, yes. He spun the crown of his fingers, listening glumly to talk flowing back and forth. 15 years to the mayor of Lancashire. We had to. I thought the figure a bit early this week. No, it doesn't work like that. No one's lost anything. According to my figurines of the man who doubled his Lancarshire's BO time fucking gravedigger, we all lost 15 years. No, we gained him, as stands to reason, telling this sort of wiggly road, but we all got a shortcut across the fields. Not all, said Clark. Look here. Tom John let the words of the debate close over him. Everyone wanted to be king. No one thought twice about what he wanted. His views didn't count. That was it. No one wanted him to be king, not precisely him. He just happened to be convenient. Gold doesn't tarnish, at least not physically, but he felt the thin Van Mill in his hand had a pleasant depth to its luster. It sounded too many troubled heads. Held to your ear, you could hear the screams. You know, we were someone else looking at him, the gaze playing across his face like a blue lamp on the wall. He looked up. He was the third wish, the youngest one, with the intense expression and hedgerow hairstyle. Seeing I see a fool as she owned a controlling interest. It wasn't his face he was examining, it was his features. His eyebrows tracking from nape to nose like a pair of calipers. She gave him a brief little smile she ignored. Just like everyone else, she thought. Only the fool noticed and returned to smile, apologetic grin, telling his word with a wave finger, said, "What are we doing here, two sensible people like us?" The one was looking at him again, turning her head this way and that, narrowing her eyes. She only seen the fool back at Tom John. Turned the oldest vigilant person in the entire hot damn room seemed to acquire a mug of beer and whispered in her ear. The two started a spirited, whispered conversation. It was, thought John, a particularly feminine way of talking. And knowing took place on the doorsteps when all could have been staying with their arms folded and the was so much ungraceful, walked past, he saw abruptly and watched in silence throughout earshot. He and we are staring and stopped talking, and the entire room was staring at him. "Hello," he said. "Not good to hold a coronation tomorrow. It's not good for kingdom out of rule if it doesn't like it." She stood up, pushed back her chair, came and took Tom John's hand. He followed her majestically across the flagstones up the steps to the throne, where she put her hands on his shoulders and pressed him gently down the red plush cushions. They were stripping a bench and stairs. Looked at her in panic. "What's happening now? Don't worry, everyone's come to swear loyalty. Just not graciously ask them what they do, and if they enjoy it. Oh, and you better give them the crown back." He moved quickly. "Why? They want to present it to you." "But I already got it." "Only in the real sense, it's more ceremonial." "You mean unreal?" "Yes, but more important." He gripped her arms of the throne. "Fetch me Howell." "No, you must do it like that." "Oh, as president, you see, first you meet—" "I said, fetch me a dwarf. Didn't you hear me, woman?" This time I got the spin picture of his voice just by agreeing ravenously. I don't think you quite realize who you're talking to, young man." Tom John rose half in his seat. He played great many kings. Most of them weren't the kind of kings who shook hands gracefully and asked whether they enjoyed their work. There are far more types who got people was in charge in the battle at 5 o'clock on a freezing morning, so much persuasiveness is better than being in bed. He summoned all intrigue, grand with a blast of royal hauteur, pride, and arrogance. "I thought we were talking to a subject. Now we do as we say." "Oh, he's got the royal we out there already. Good." Mary said some more for saying what to do next. He smiled and said, "As you wish," and dislodged well, who was still right. The dwarf gave a stiff bow. "None of that. What do I do next?" "I don't know. You want me to write an acceptance speech?" "I told you I don't want to be king." "Give me a problem with acceptance speeches then. I really thought of this. Being king is a great role." "But it's the only one you get to play." "Oh, well, tell them no then." "Just like that, will it work?" Well, it's gotta be worth a try. Dignitaries approaching with the crown not a cushion anymore, especially the constipated respect, coupled with a hint of self-satisfaction. They carried the crown as if it was a present for a good boy. The mayor Lankard coughed. Our coronation will take some time to arrange, but we would like. No. Pardon? I won't accept it. Yes, again, his lips moved and gaze and eyes glazed over, but got lost on her side best start again. Our coronation will take. It won't, because I won't be king. He was not my carp. Oh, well, your good words. The problem got here is that no is apparently not one of the options being offered a crown. I think it would cope with a maybe. He stood up and grabbed a crown. He held over his head like a tambourine. Listen to me, all of you. I thank you for your offer, and it's a great honor, but I can't accept it. I have one more crown so you can count, and the only king I know the rule has got curtains in front of it. I'm sorry. That sounds great. It doesn't appear to be the right words. Another problem, you don't actually have a choice. You are the king, you see. It's a job you're lined up for when you're born. I'd be no good at it. That doesn't matter. King isn't something you're good at, something you are. You can't just leave me here. There's nothing but the forest. With a suffocating cold sensation, he felt slow buzzing his ears. My thought saw and a sad, tall man in front of him staring at him in a supplication. I'm sorry, he whispered. I really am. Her fang sheep is all witches watching intently. No, said the only chance she has is there's another heir. You don't remember any brother sister, do you? I don't remember anyone. Well, I. There's another first argument on witches, and Margaret was striding across the hall, like a tidal wave, moving like a rush of blood to the head, shaking off ring with her straying hand, buried down the throne like a piston, and grabbing the fool behind her. I say, hello, excuse me, can anyone hear us? The castle up above was full of hubbub and general rejoicing. There's no one here. A polite and frantic voice that Edel and dungeon passes, getting politer and more frantic every passing hour. I say, excuse me, Bill's got this terrible thing about rats, you don't mind? Cooey. Let the camera of the mind's eye pan back on the dim empty corridors, talking in the dripping fungi, the nervous chains, the dampness shadows. Can anyone hear us? Look, it's really too much. It's a laughable mistake. Look, the wigs come right off. With the plaintive echoes dwindle on the cover of corners. Then rode it on tunnels until there's no more than a reedy whisper in the cups of sea. I say, excuse me, help? Someone's bound to come down there again one of these days. Some time after, Margaret got so wealthy believed in long engagements. The dwarf paused and tasseled loading up the laddie. About a week maximum with Manatee, of course. A month went past. The early damp earth odors of autumn drifted across the velvety dark moors, where the watery starlight echoed along one spark of a fire. The Snowstone was back in his normal place, but still poised to run if any odders came into view. The witches stood in sad silence, with nothing going to the rate among 100 most exciting coven meetings of all time. If Morgan's Sky had been them, the night on the Bear Mountain would have been over by tea time. She said, "It'll look a good blanket, I thought. I was nearly 6 in all probably, and my Cheryl hopped out in the kitchen and brought home some scraps. I heard, said Granny Coley, half a pig and three bottles of fizzy wine went missing, they say. It's nice some people want to think of the old folks and anyhow come looking back. I got a coronation mug, too," she proves it. It says, "Viva Variant to Rex." Fancy him being called Rex. I can't say it's a good likeness, but I don't recall being a handle sticking out of his ear. There's a long, horrible, polite pause, and Granny said, "We were all supposed to write you weren't there, Margaret. We thought you'd be on top of the table kind of thing. We thought you'd moved up there." She stared at her feet. "I wasn't invited." "Well, I've been invited. We weren't invited. People don't invite witches. They just know we'll turn up." They soon find room for her, said with satisfaction. "You see, he's been very busy sorting things out, He's very clever, underneath. Very sober lad. Anyway, it's full moon. Full moon, said Margaret. You got your code means a full moon, no matter what pressing engagements there are. Have yet," but Granny nudged her sharply. "And it's a good thing he's paying some attention to kingdom working again. It serves proper civilization. So get around to everything sooner or later. It's very demanding, being a king." "Yes," said Margaret, her voice barely audible. The sun falls almost solid. It's running my nanny voice so bright as brittle as ice. "Well, I found a bottle of fizzy wine with me in case he felt like a drink," she rallied and waved there too. "I don't want any." "You drink up, girl," said Granny. "It's a chilly night. It'll be good for your chest." She's going to Margaret as the night dripped out. "Here, your hair looks a bit grubby. It looks like I hadn't washed it in a month." Margaret burst into tears. Aw. The same moon shone down the otherwise unremarkable town of Ramned, some 90 miles from Lancashire. Tom John left the stage with thunder's applause that completely out the troll Lincoln. Hunter will go home tonight wondering if our trolls are really as bad as they heard the thought, although of course his own actually stopped him disliking them in any way whatsoever. Well patted him back and he sat down to make a tail and started scrapping up some thick gray sludge that intended to make him look like a walking rock. "Well done, a love scene? Just right." He turned around and roared at the whiz. "I shouldn't think there's a dry seat in the house." "I know. We can afford a tavern tonight, so if we'll sleep in the car," said firmly. "You know how much the king gave us. It'd be feather beds all the way home. This small mattress is a good prop for us. I'll buy you gods from heaven and demons from hell, and the wind and waves and more travelers you can count, my lawn ornament." His hand rested on Tom Joe's shoulder for a moment, and he said, "You're right, boss. Certainly am. How's the play going?" "What play?" He declared, moved to Plaster Brow Ridge. The one, the Lancashire King. "Oh, it's coming along now, I'll have it right one of these days." Change subject with speed. We could work our way down the river and take a boat home. Be nice, wouldn't it? We could work home across the land and pick up more cash. It'd be better, wouldn't it? He took 103 pence tonight, and he kind of hesitated in a judgment speech. That's only 1 silver pence after expenses. You're your father's son, no mistake. He looked in the mirror and smiled. Yes, I thought I'd better be. Margaret didn't like cats and hated the idea of mousetraps. She was probably better to come to store region with creatures like mice so that all available food was rationed to best interest of all parties. It was a very humanitarian outlook to say it was not a view shared by mice, and therefore Moonlit Kitchen was alive. There was a knocking at the door, and the entire force appeared to rush toward the wall. After a few seconds, the knocking came again. There's no pause and a rattling to the door, and the hinges, and a voice cried out, "Open in the name of the king!" A second voice in hurt tones said, "You have to shout like that. Why'd you shout like that? I didn't order you to shout like that. Isn't the frightened anybody shouting like that?" "Sorry, sire. Goes with the job, sire. Just knock again, more gently." The knocking might have been a bit softer. Margaret's apron dropped off the hook in the back of the door. "Are you sure I can't do it myself?" "It's not done, sire." The door. The king's knocking on humble cottage door. It delayed me. "Open in the name of the sergeant." "Sorry, sire. I forgot myself." "Try the latch." The sounds of being very hesitant. "Don't make a sound, sire. It could be dangerous. Want my advice, sire?" I had set fire to the latch. "Set fire?" "Yes, sir. We do that to the only answer the door. Brings him out a treat." "I don't think that'd be appropriate. I'll try the latch if it's all saying you." "Breaks my heart to see you do it, sire." "Well, I'm sorry." "You can at least let me buff it up for you." "No." "Well, I guess the fire to the privy." "No. That chicken house looks like a go like sergeant." "Sire." "Go back to the castle. Wouldn't leave you all alone. This is a matter of extreme delicacy, sergeant. I'm sure it may have your stirring qualities, but there are times when the king needs to be alone. It can stir as a young woman, you understand." "Ah, point taken, sire." "Thank you. Help me dismount, please." "Sorry about that, sire. Attacking me. Don't mention it. If you need help getting her a light, please go back to the castle, sergeant." "Yes, sire. If you're sure, sire." "Thank you, sire." "Sergeant?" "Yes, sire." "I shall need someone to take my cap and bells back to the pool, giving me a fortnight and leaving. It seems to me you're that young man." "Thank you, sire. Much obliged. It's your unburning desire to be of service." "Yes, sire." "Make sure they put you in one of the guest rooms." "Yes, sire." "Thank you, sire." When the sound of a horse trotting away, a few seconds later, the latch clanked and the fool crept in. It takes considerable courage to enter a witch's kitchen in the dark, and probably no more than it takes to wear a purple shirt of velvet sleeves and scalped edges. And had this in the favor, though, there are no bells on it. He brought a bottle of sparkling wine and a bouquet of flowers, but the witch had gone flat during the journey. He laid them on the table, sat down by embers of the fire. He rubbed his eyes. It had been a long day. He wasn't he felt a good king, but he had a lifetime working hard to be something he wasn't cut out to be, and he was persevering. As far as he can see, none of his predecessors could try it all. So much to do, so much to repair, so much to organize. That's not always a problem with the Duchess. Somebody felt she moved to put her in decent cell in the airy tower. She was a widow after all. He felt he ought to be kind to widows, but his kind to Duchess didn't seem to achieve much. She didn't understand it. She just thought it was a weakness. He was dreadfully afraid he might have her head cut off. No, being a king was no laughing matter. He brightened up. There was that to be said about it, and after a while he fell asleep. The Duchess was not asleep. She was currently halfway down the castle wall on a rope, but not like sheets had spent the gradual day chipping the mortar on the bars of her window, although in truth you could hack your way out in the lavish length of a castle with a piece of cheese. The fool! He'd given her cutlery and bedclothes. That's how these people reacted. They let their fear do the thinking. They were scared of you, and they thought they had her in their power. And the weak never had the strong in their power. Never, really. If she found herself in prison, she had found some considerable satisfaction making herself regret she'd ever been born. But they were giving her blankets and worried about her. Well, she'd be back. There's a big world, and she knew pull the levers and make people do what she wanted. She wouldn't burn herself with a husband this time. Weak. He was the worst, no courage in him as bad as he knew he was inside. She landed heavily on the moss, paused to get her breath, and with a knife ready, she slipped away across the castle walls in the forest. She'd go all the way down to the far border and swim or ready to build a raft. By morning she'd be too far to find her. She doubt very much she'd even come looking. Weak. She went on the forest at surprising speed. There were tracks wide enough for carts, and she had a pretty good sense of direction. Besides, all she needed was go downhill. She found a gorge and she had to follow the flow. There seemed to be too many trees. There's still a track and I went more or less in the right direction, but the trees on either side were planted rather more thickly and would expect that she tried to turn back, but there was no track behind her at all. She took the turning suddenly, half expecting to see the trees moving, but they were always staying stoically and firmly rooted in the moss. She couldn't feel the wind, but there was no sign in the treetops. All right, I'm going anyway. I want to, but I'll be back. At this point, the track opened out into a clearing that hadn't been there the day before and wouldn't be there tomorrow. A clearing in which the moonlight glared off the assembled antlers and fangs and serried ranks of glowing eyes. The weak band together being pretty despicable, it dawned on the Duchess an alliance that was strong to be more of an immediate problem. There was a total silence for seconds, but only by a faint panting, and the Duchess grinned, raised her knife, and charged a lot of them. The front ranks of the masked creatures opened to let her pass, and then closed again. Even the rabbits. The kingdom exhaled. On no more than the very shadow of the pinks in the mighty nocturnal chorus in nature had fallen silent, and the crickets ceased their chirping, the owls had hooted themselves, the silence of the wolves there were matters to attend to. There was a sound that echoed and boomed from cliff to cliff, resounded the high hidden valleys, causing miniature avalanches. It fell on sleeper tunnels into glaciers, losing all meaning as it rang between the walls of ice. We found out I was actually being sung at to go all the way back to the dying fire of the standing stone, by the standing stone, where the cross resonances and waves, including echoes, focused on a small, elderly woman who was waving an empty bottle. With a snail if you slowly go crawl by the hedgehog. It tastes better at the bottom of the bottle, doesn't Samar, trying to draw out the chorus. That's right, said Granger in your cup. Is there any more? I didn't get to finish it by the sound of it. They sat in the fragrant heather and stared for the moon. Well, we got a king, and there's the end of it. Thanks to you and Nanny, really, said Margaret, hiccuped. Why? Nothing would believe if you hadn't spoken up. Only because we were asked. Yes, but everyone knows witches don't lie, that's the thing. Everyone could see they look so much alike, but it could be a coincidence, you see. I looked at a droid to see newer. When Goody and Whimper had a dictionary. Maniac stopped singing. Yes, well. You did tell the truth, didn't you? They really are brothers, aren't they? Oh, yes, definitely. I saw to his mother when the new king was born. The queen when the young Tom John was born. I saw who the father was. Get ya. Sorry. And the white was going to her head with the wheels of Mars Myers' turn. Just a minute. I remember the fool's fires and I was slowly and deliberately speaking. Pretty personal young man. He started thinking on his dad, you know. We used to do a visit sometimes, see old friends. He made friends easy, said Granny. Oh, and the ladies, agreed Nanny. Very athletic, wasn't he? To climb walls like no one's business, I remember hearing. He's very popular at court, I know that much. Oh, yes, with the queen at any rate. The king used to go out hunting a lot. It was that droid of his, always on about with it he was, hardly ever home at nights. Just a minute, Margaret repeated. Look here. Yes, you told everyone they were brothers and four. Verdance was the older. That's right. We're going to believe that. She pulled her shawl at it. We're bound to be truthful, but there's no call to be honest. Though we're saying the king of Lancashire isn't really... What I'm saying is we got a king who's no worse than most and better than many. He's got his head screwed on right, even if it's against the thread, said Nanny. And the old king's husband laid to rest. There's an enjoyable coronation. Some of us got mugs we were entitled to, with them being only for the kiddies and all, and things a lot more satisfactory than they might be. That's what I'm saying. Never mind what should be or might be or ought to be. That's what's important. But he's not really king. He might be, but you said, who knows? The late queen wasn't very good at counting. Anyway, she doesn't know she ain't royalty. And you're not going to tell him. Mark stared at me with a few clouds. No, she said. Right then, anyway, look at this. Royalty has to start somewhere. Might well start with him. Looks like he takes it seriously, a lot more than most of them take it. He'll do. Margaret knew she lost. She always lost against Brandy Witherice, who's only interested in seeing exactly how. The only interest in seeing exactly how. But I'm surprised the two of you, I really am. You're witches, means you have to care about things like truth and tradition and destiny, don't you? Well, that's where you're getting it wrong. Destiny's important, but people go wrong, they think it controls them. It's the right way. It's the other way around. Bugger destiny, agreed Nanny. Frank glared at her. After all, you never thought being a witch was going to be easy to do. I'm learning so much. Looked across the moor within Rhine. Dawn was going across the horizon. I think it would be off. It's getting early. Me too, said Neog. Our Cheryl frets I'm not home. She comes to get my breakfast. Granny carefully scuffed the remains of the fire. When will we free meet again, The witch was looking at her sheepishly. Well, I'm busy next month, birthdays and such. But the worst thing about all this really brilliant, you know, and all the ghosts to think about. I'll tell you something back. Well, they didn't want to say anything. To be honest, I got used to them. Their company. They hardly scream at all now. That's nice. What about you, Margaret? Nothing else a lot to do this time of year, don't you find, said Margaret? Quite, said Granny presently. There's no good getting so tied down to appointments all the time, is it? Let's just leave the whole question open, shall we? They nodded, and as a new day wound across the landscape, each busy with their own thoughts, each one a witch alone, they went home. The end. And we're done. At 140% of the book. I wonder if the footnotes are past here. Nope, that's reviews. Darn. Oh, there's the footnotes, finally. And the last one was, their school of thought that says that witches and wizards can never go home. They went through just the same. They went there just the same. But yeah, all done with that. And I have to say I enjoyed reading it very, very much to all of you. And I feel very tired now, so I'll just be taking my leave. Well, I should rate someone. That's just, appropriate manners. So, let's see. Oh, Bit Bunny's doing Stardew Valley. Let's go see her. So yeah, thank you all for coming. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'll be sure to do another book sometime, though I'll try not to overstay it so long this time. I'm like an hour over by now. Germa, who's that? She's not in my list, so I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I'll just rate my friend here, and I'll see you all later. Enjoy her stream. And there we go.